Chapter 481 Not Perfect. Tai Shizi was embarrassed. Guan Hai was even more embarrassed. He didn't know whether to go or not, so he stood on the deck and stomped his feet one last time and jumped onto another ship. Tilde. Who is that guy? Tai Shizi asked after Guan Hai left. If you guessed it, don't say it. Gan Ning looked at the direction Guan Hai was leaving and said, "It's not easy for everyone. Understand, you see that people are leaving in embarrassment." Tai Shizi glanced at Gan Ning speechlessly, and finally gave up speaking. At this time such a strange inner chi left the body, and the only one who could appear here was the big leader who was rumored to be dead. Retreat quickly, keep going all the way, and we will be safe when we get out of the Yangtze River. Gan Ning sighed and said, the Navy needs to practice again, and Zhu Gongjin's thieves are so difficult to deal with. Gan Ning also noticed the gap between himself and Zhu Yu. The other party could actually suppress him only by relying on the bandit soldiers. If it were not for the fog cover, and the other party led the thieves, the Legion talent could not be fully effective, otherwise it would not be so embarrassed by the cold mist, not to mention that there were other Legion talents, as long as the Legion talent was deployed. Chen Shi's spiritual impact was basically ineffective. Zhu Gongjin knows too many things, and once he is caught off guard, it is difficult to quickly switch his abilities. Chen Shi saw Gan Ning and Tai Shizi jump onto the main ship, quickly answered Zhuge Liang's question, and then stretched out his hand to greet the two of them. Indeed, there are too many. Zhuge Liang nodded. He also saw Zhu Yu's previous performance, and then thought about the next battle of Lujiang City that Chen Shi said at that time. Zhu Yu obviously had a better way, but because he used the wrong way because of the panic, there was still a switching problem in the middle. Pang Tong on the other side also reacted at this time. It seems that Zhu Yu is just used to a calm look, but it does not mean that he is not panicked under his calm expression. Gongjin, you are not really perfect. Your calm face is just to appease Bo Fu and the others. Sometimes you will do something wrong because of panic, but because of the compensation afterwards, and the indifferent look, we can't see it. Pang Tong was also relieved at this time. Looking at Zhu Yu's gentle expression, a smile couldn't help but appear on his ugly face, as if it was something like this. Gongjin is nothing left. What are you staring at me for? Zhu Yu raised his eyebrows and asked with a hint of thought. I just thought of something good. Pang Tong stood up and walked out of the ship with a smile. He had already felt the undisguised aura of Sun Ce and Ling Cao. Let's go together. Zhu Yu didn't ask too much, and followed Pang Tong to meet Sun Ce and Ling Cao. What a nasty look. Pang Tong thought speechlessly, but he had to admit that his expression was indifferent. It's like Zhu Yu doesn't take anything to heart. Only then can Sun Sejuan be given absolute confidence. Bo Fu, you look like you've been attacked quite a bit. Kuan Dao also looked injured. Zhu Yu frowned and said, rarely revealing his true psychological activities, how about Tai Shizi? Rival, but next time I will beat him. Sun Ce didn't care about dragging off the armor on his body and throwing it on the boat. I will also practice bows and arrows well, and I have suffered a lot of bows and arrows today. Saying that, Sun Ce pointed to the traces of the bow and arrow on his armor with his feet. Two of them also penetrated the wound. I'm careless, although the other party is stronger. But it's not like that. Ling Cao said with a wry smile, and his right hand involuntarily wiped his right neck, which had grown now, and he almost died before. Okay, withdraw. We also have an understanding of Gan Xingba's navy, and after the Jiangxia navy comes, we will fight in unity, and this time don't leave your post without permission, Bo Fu. Zhu Yu stared at Sun Ce and said, okay, I'll remember to use the Legion talent. As long as no one provokes me, I won't leave. Sun Ce reluctantly assured Zhu Yu, as if Zhu Yu was the boss, but then muttered, your own Legion talent is enough to cover everyone. Why do you want us to be together? Strengthen the military force, and the province will have another accident. Obviously, Zhu Yu, who had a keen ear and eye, heard Sun Ce's words clearly. The clouds also remember to let every general make good arrangements, and remember which generals are shrouded in the talent of the Legion. Shi Yuan, you remember to connect the clouds well, and it is enough to suffer a loss. Zhu Yu turned his head to look at Pang Tong, who was looking at the sky, and advised, so that he could fully open his ability against Chen Shi. Except for the heavenly phenomenon suffering a little loss, there would be no mistakes or omissions in everything else. Pang Tong glanced at Zhu Yu, who looked serious, and scolded in his heart, dead Zhu Gongjin, you're joking again. I don't believe it and have to fight. Isn't it to take advantage of the opportunity to tell everyone? Everyone will remember the defeat deeply, and if this situation occurs in the future, you can deal with it calmly. Okay, I know. I'll definitely pay attention next time. Pang Tong pulled Chang Yin and said, he dared to guarantee that Zhu Yu would not use his elite Jiangxia navy and Gan Ning to fight. Even if he won steadily, Zhu Yu would not do such a cost-effective thing, because it was not time. Ju Yu glanced at Pang Tong and didn't speak. He also knew that this kind of thing couldn't be hidden from Pang Tong, and Sun Ce, who was yawning on the side, didn't know how much he listened, so he had no choice but to signal Sun Ce to change into a golden armor and come out to exude domineering. Near Zhejiang, the ships will find a place to hide and disperse, and the rest will be handed over to the Jiangxia Navy, and after this time, each will continue to stay in their respective waters, and Yuping will send the supplies, baggage, armor, and weapons of all parties to you. Sun Ce ran to the cabin to change his armor as if he had been granted amnesty, and Ju Yu began to make arrangements for the bandits. Hey! The previous batch of thorns had been removed not long ago because of the command of Ling Cao and Lu Fan, and those who survived at this time either had already surrendered, or they were submissive, and none of them dared to disobey Ju Yu. Stay in your own waterway, otherwise don't blame me if you are exterminated, and if you can't find Yoping's baggage ship, don't want it. Ju Yu said coldly. Hey! A group of water thieves bowed their heads. Okay, you can take your own ships and leave in pieces. Ju Yu waved his hand and said. The water thief, who didn't dare to come out of the atmosphere, quickly left Ju Yu's car after Ju Yu spoke, and then rowed away in a small boat. Tsk, why are these people so obedient? Sun Ce, who came out after changing his armor, saw this scene and asked without thinking. With Ju Yu here, Sun Ce didn't bother to think about many things, and if he continued to develop like this, his muscles would soon grow to his brain. I was impressed by your bravery. Ju Yu said angrily. In the future, we will be the boss in the Yangtze River, and the officers, bandits, and soldiers are all our people. I knew it was like this. After Sun Ce changed into a golden armor, he said with a proud face. Chapter 482 Li Ju's Troubles. After the Battle of Zhejiang, the Jiangxia Navy mobilized by Ju Yu followed Gan Ning's navy, did not fight, just followed so far away, you stopped and he stopped, and finally chased Gan Ning and his party to the mouth of the Yangtze River to join the cabbage, and then the Jiangxia Navy slowly turned around and left, and Gan Ning and Chen Shi also breathed a sigh of relief. Every time they saw the enemy navy against the unified clouds, Gan Ning and Chen Shi, the talents of the 4 legions, 1 large, 3 and small, felt a burst of helplessness. That majestic military appearance, just cold fog and so on had no effect at all, and sure enough, most of the spiritual talents were more for surprises in addition to the additional special effects. Finally left, I thought the other party was really going to fight us. Chen Shi exhaled, holding the edge of the boat and said. The Jiangxia Navy is really strong. Gan Ning said with a sigh. Order Zilong and Shuji to return to Sharpi, Zuzhu, and continue to garrison and train troops. The Zuzhu plain is vast. Let Zilong select soldiers to train more cavalry. It is best to train more at the junction of Sharpi and Yuzhou, Yangzhou, so that Shuji can also strengthen the training of Danyang soldiers, garrison Zuzhu, and be careful. Seeing that it was safe now, Chen Shi ordered someone to inform Zhao Yun and Chen Ji, who had been ambushing on the shore. The ship is only part of the factor, but our Lu family will try to do better. Lu Jun also had lingering fears about the military power shown by the Jiangxia Navy before, and there was always a huge gap between the bandits and the regular soldiers. The soldiers are handed over to me, and that sense of spiritual oppression is worthy of being an elite soldier specially selected by Zhu Gongjin. Gan Ning looked back at the Jiangxia Navy that was about to disappear into the sky, and said with a little envy, the Jiangxia Navy has been formed for a long time. Moreover, Zhu Gongjin received 90% of the navy after defeating Huang Zhu, and selected the most elite 8,000 sailors from the Zhongjiangxia Navy and the thousands of bandits he led at that time, and trained them. If it weren't for this, I would have doubts. Chen Shi smiled and comforted a few people. Although Huang Zhu was a good general in the water battle, it was a pity that he met Ju Yu at the beginning, and Huang Zhu bullied Ju Yu when he was young, and did not take Ju Yu to heart, but he was defeated by Ju Yu when he did not want to, and then became angry. Even more repeatedly defeated, Ju Yu was so angry that he did not give Huang Zhu a chance to breathe. Kill it directly. The entire Jiangxia Navy did not suffer much loss in those battles, but the commander died, and most of them were taken over by Ju Yu and selected the elite. Then persuade the other soldiers to retreat to the Yangtze River water bandits. Ju Yu relied on this method to hold most of the Yangtze River bandit group, and Sun Tzujuan's actual power began to expand. Otherwise, Ju Yu would not be able to control the Yangtze River. Let him be proud for a few years first, and I will come to the Yangtze River to fight him in a few years. Gan Ning looked at the Jiangxia Navy that had almost disappeared on the horizon and said with a sneer, Ju Yu's military power made him envious. So he also plans to move closer to that height. You have to have such courage. Come on. Xingba, what do you need? I will give you a certain inclination when the time comes. Chen Shi said with a smile, our navy can't be weaker than their Sun family, right? Just when Chen Shi was encouraging Gan Ning, Sima Lang had already passed through his hometown in Hanoi to Chang'an, the current imperial capital of the Han dynasty. Looking at the blood-stained city wall, Sima Lang couldn't help but feel a little bitter. The black and red bloodstains on the lower layer of the city wall were already a little mottled. But Sima Lang still understood that that was the place where Situ Wang Yun jumped down, a place that made the loyal people of the world feel chilled every time. Our Sima family was also loyal to this dynasty. This extremely powerful dynasty once ruled the world, but unfortunately in the end it still couldn't escape the sun and the moon was lost, and it was inevitable to sink step by step, but I don't know if it would be Guangwu or Wang Mang this time. Sima Lang thought silently. Sima Lang drove the carriage into the city and took out the money, and then entered Li Ju's mansion with a greeting letter. Hanoi. Sima Lang has seen the general of chariots and cavalry. Sima Lang smiled and made Li Ju feel the oncoming kindness. Sit down, sit down. Sima's young nephew doesn't have to be formal. Ling Zun is good. Li Ju smiled and ordered people to give him a seat. I don't know if my nephew is not studying in Hanoi, but there is something important to come to Chang'an, so we haven't seen each other for several years. Dong Xiong was still there, now, alas. The virtuous nephew is willing to be an official, and my chariot and cavalry general's mansion happens to be missing a Sima. Li Ju said with a pun. Speaking of which, when Dong Zhuo was still there, he didn't have much to do with the Sima family, and even Dong Zhuo wanted to clean up the Sima family, but after seeing Sima Lang, he thought of his dead son, and sighed in his heart that he didn't go to Sima Fang's trouble, but took care of it. Thank you for your love, Boda. I am not very grateful. Now that I have completed my studies, I am grateful to the general for not giving up. Sima Lang patted Li Ju for a flattery. But I came to Chang'an this time to ask the general for assistance. Tell me. Seeing Sima Lang agree, Li Ju asked with a smile in his heart. My second brother Sima Zhongda, 15 years old, went out on a trip and lost his. Sima Lang said a little embarrassedly, and then blushed just right. Please ask the general to help find it. Ha 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 ha, just a little thing, it's all on me. Li Ju laughed and said, don't worry, there will be news soon. Thank you so much, General. Sima Lang leaned over and bowed, then stood up and spoke. Lang entered the door before, looking at the general's gloomy expression, thinking that he was worried. Can you say it? Lang once heard people's words. One person counts short, two people count long. If the general can be trusted, you can say it, the general and I will total. Maybe the general will have new ideas under the bypass. Li Ju thought for a while, and felt that Sima Lang's words were reasonable, so he said, alas, Boda, you don't know, this slave is broken, and we don't have much food in our hands because of the previous use of swordsmen. Our Duo, Fan Chou, and Lao Zhong all asked me for food, but I have food for them there. Li Ju told the matter in detail, and Sima Lang immediately understood the cause and effect. Originally there was a large amount of surplus grain looted by Dong Zhuo, and the Shiliang soldiers could still live by looting everywhere. It's a pity that a time-consuming confrontation with Ma Teng cost too much food, and under the empty mountain, there was not much food left, but let Li Ju reduce his Shiliang soldiers. This kind of thing is absolutely not possible, but if you don't cut it, there won't be enough food. So that's the case. Why don't you make peace with Ma Teng? Sima Lang tentatively said, although this method is detrimental to dignity, it is the fastest solution. I'm afraid no. Ma Shouqing and Han Wenyu, two bastards, are now gritting their teeth and trying to drag us to death. Now it's up to whom you can't help it. Li Ju said in an extremely unhappy tone. Chapter 483. This matter is easy. Sima Lang felt that he didn't know what to say. Such a simple question, he couldn't even solve it. Li Ma's IQ was really a little hard, but in view of his identity, it was best not to say it well now. Alas, don't worry about Boda. Li Ju sat opposite Sima Lang, patted Sima Lang on the shoulder, and said with a smile, we can't help it. Ma Shouqing is not much better, so don't worry. General, although Lang has no way, there are definitely people in Chang'an City who definitely have a way. Sima Lang remembered a person in a blink of an eye, and it was really good to have such a contact. Hey, I really don't know that there are such people in this Chang'an City, Boda said. Let's listen. Li Ju was happy, saying that the Shiliang soldiers did not have much food, but there was indeed no problem after half a year. But Li Ju still understood the truth that people who had no foresight would have immediate worries. Plus Zhongji and others asked him for food, which inevitably made him worry. Yingchuan Zhong Yuan Chang, this talent is full of talent, and the strategy in his heart is full of strategies. Sima Lang said with a smile, this is the evaluation given by Zun Yu. Oh, you're talking about Zhong Yuan Chang. Li Ju's original eager expression instantly wilted. That guy looks like he hasn't slept enough every day, he doesn't come from time to time, and he doesn't know where to fool around. He can be regarded as our Dong Xiong lineage, but he has been messing around every day for so long. Speaking of Li Ju's group of people is also loyal enough. When they fought back, Dong Zhuo's lineage died 7 or 88 times, but as long as they were alive, they were all covered, even if they didn't know each other before. He also gave a reward, and it was precisely because of this that Li Ju, a guy like Zhong Yao, who was far away, was a little impressed. However, it is precisely because this group of people is still in charge of righteousness that there is no chaos. After the righteousness was gradually consumed, the Shiliang Iron Cavalry had only one way to fall apart. General, don't underestimate Zhong Yuanchang. If the general has nothing to do, it may not be miraculous if you try it. Sima Lang said with a smile. Sima Lang's smile made Li Ju relax, and after thinking about it carefully, it was really like this, since there was no way to try it. It doesn't matter whether it succeeds or not. Well, that makes sense. Well, it's better to choose a day than to hit the sun, and today I will go meet him with gifts. Although Li Ju pretended to be very cultured, he was actually a leopard inside. 3 sentences revealed the bottom. Come on, prepare rice paper, pen inkstone, jewelry, beautiful jade, and fragrant car beauties. General, there is no need for this. Sima Lang hurriedly said, Zhong Yao's guy will not lack these things, and it will have no effect if he gives them away. Why is this? Li Ju asked Sima Lang, who was stopping him puzzled. General, Zhong Yuanchang is a person who actually has no hobbies for jewelry beauties, and this person is a preference. Then calligraphy, especially Cai Boji's calligraphy. As long as there is this thing, Zhong Yuanchang will find a way even if he can't do it. Sima Lang did not hesitate to point out Zhong Yao's dead point. Zhong Yao is Cai Yong's brain-dead fan, and he didn't actually come to the imperial capital to become an official for power, basically for Cai Yong's calligraphy. As a wonderful Cai Yong brain fan who can dig up his friends' graves for Cai Yong's calligraphy. For Zhong Yao, as long as he can get Cai Yong's calligraphy, everything is a floating cloud. Cai Boji's calligraphy? Li Ju thought for a while. By the way, when we entered Chang'an, Li Boji was already dead, and his daughter was gone, and when I went to sort out his house, I got a lot of books he copied by hand. Why not send them all to Zhong Yuanchang? For Li Ju, Cai Boji's handwritten books had no meaning at all, and he didn't read them anyway. Ha ha ha, since the general has this thing in his hand, why don't you take a scroll and go to Zhong Yuanchang to try it? Sima Lang said with a smile. Okay, let's go now. Li Ju lost the fragrant car, and the beautiful woman took these things to Zhong Yao. Sir, the general of chariots and cavalry is visiting. Zhong Yao's old servant walked up to Zhong Yao, bowed his head and nodded to Zhong Yao. No, I'm studying the calligraphy of the Cai family. Zhong Yao said without raising his head. Just say I'm not here. Zhong Shangshu is so powerful that he doesn't even see me. Li Ju said dissatisfiedly. During this period, he can be described as one person below 10,000 people, of course, in the case of the decree not coming out of the silly. Zhong Yao didn't even raise his head, he was dissatisfied, and reluctantly arched his hands in the direction where the sound came, and then lowered his head to continue studying Zai Yong's calligraphy. Sima Lang saw this situation and hurriedly came out to round the scene. Mr. Zhong, General Li is here to give you a gift. You see that this is the manuscript of Cai Boji and everyone. The general heard that you love this thing deeply, so he deliberately searched for it, and found one, and quickly gave it to you. Before Sima Lang finished speaking, the scroll had already fallen into the hands of Zhong Yao, who was fanatical with eyes. Authentic work of Zai's family. Okay, General, sit, take the seat, hurry up. Zhong Yao was enthusiastic about the book, and while asking people to bring tea and water, he asked people to bring the singer up, and then ordered people to quickly set up a banquet, but he was stunned from beginning to end, and kept staring at the scroll in his hand. Li Ju understood that Zhong Yao's enthusiasm was not for people at all, but for the sake of that book, so he was even more dissatisfied, and turned around to leave. Sima Lang quickly stretched out his hand to grab Li Ju. Mr. Zhong, that's right, my general has something to worry about, and I want to ask you to explain it. Sima Lang stretched out his hand to cover the letter. Zhong Yao instantly raised his head, looking at the two people in front of him with a dark face. What he hated most was that someone made trouble while he was reading, and generally this kind of person died. Ah, this is the general of the Hussars. After Zhong Yao raised his head, he found that it was Li Ju, and he was stunned for a moment and hurriedly saluted. Li Ju bowed his hands to Zhong Yao with a dark face, and his feelings for Zhong Yao were even worse. If it weren't for Sima Lang having been dragging Li Ju, he would have turned around and walked away now. Sima Lang hurriedly retold the whole thing. Mr. Zhong has a clever plan. As long as he can break this situation, the general and the Cai family will present the book. And? Zhong Yao exclaimed. The reason why he has been lazy recently is that the handwritten books of Se Yong wandering in Chang'an City have been looted by him. But he didn't expect that there were still them, and in an instant Zhong Yao looked at Li Ju with a hot eye, making Li Ju feel numb all over his body. Also, as long as you can settle this matter, I will give you all the books in my hand. Li Ju said angrily. He really couldn't stand Zhong Yao's eyes on big beauties, especially when looking at him. In an instant, Zhong Yao's intelligence rose wildly, and he soared to the top of the world, and then his spiritual talent opened to bless him to make quick decisions, and countless ways flowed through his heart in just a few seconds, and then he suddenly raised his head, glanced at Sima Lang, and then said, "This matter is easy." Chapter 484 Zhong Yao's Plan. When Zhong Yao said this, Li Ju was directly stunned, and then reacted that he was overjoyed first, and then unconsciously a little annoyed. "Minister Zhong, I have a good plan to say it quickly." When he said this, Li Ju's face was obviously a little dark, and he thought to himself, if you don't give a good policy, you will definitely be punished for contempt of the official today. Zhong Yao stretched out his hand towards Li Ju, and Sima Lang instantly understood what he meant, and quickly returned the book to Zhong Yao. There is an abandoned Zhenghua Canal north of Chang'an, and there is also the Liushua Canal during the reign of Emperor Xiaowu of the former Han dynasty. As long as this canal is reopened, it can instantly turn Lurs into hundreds of millions of fertile land, which can protect the entire Guangzhou, and Shiliang will no longer have to worry about food. Without saying a word, Zhong Yao pointed out almost the same plan as Zun Yu had thought at the beginning. What? No, where do we have so many people? It will definitely be difficult to achieve without 100,000 people for a few years. Li Ju waved his hand again and again. What a good strategy is this? I really thought he didn't know. That was a pit. When Li Yu was there, he also mentioned that he would reopen the Zhenghua Canal after stabilizing the central government, but Li Yu never freed his hand. We don't. The Qiong people have. The Qiong people have less food, but there are many people. Ma Shouqing has a reputation among the Qiong people. We can use the Daqin granary as a temptation, and the Qiong people will agree. Zhong Yao smiled and said, "This kind of thing is very simple. Just send someone to Ma Shouqing to talk about it, and he has to allow it." Zhong Yuanchang, this guy. Sima Lang stared at the ground silently, and Zhong Yao's appearance now had a chance to win reminded him a little of Zun Yu, who was sitting high in the hall and was indifferent. Li Ju was stunned. Then 1 hole passed, 100 holes passed, and the Qiong people used to mix with the Shiliang soldiers. Why, food, now follow Ma Teng, why, isn't it still food? With such a big granary, grain is not a problem. The Qiong people can be driven by Li Ju, not to mention that he Ma Teng has prestige among the Qiong people. The prestige of their Shiliang army among the Qiong people is not boasted, but they have been short of food recently. Drove the Qiong people to Ma Teng's side. If there was food, the Qiong people might not listen to anyone. Thank you, Mr. Zhong. Li Ju was overjoyed and bowed repeatedly. This method is very wonderful. Shiliang has 3 or 2 million Qiong people. As long as the food problem can be solved, Ma Shouqing and Han Wenyu are just scabies. No matter what the two of them do, everything can be driven under the general trend. Ma Shouqing and Han Wenyu can be induced by official positions, and they can form an alliance to slowly absorb it. This kind of thing is very simple. Give the book. Zhong Yao said a 7, 7, 8, 8. When Li Ju's eyes lit up and he listened with relish, Zhong Yao took a big turn and choked Li Ju to death. But Li Ju was under Li Yu after all. The current personality of these people has not been completely distorted, and the habit of respecting the decisions of the wise in their bones has not changed. Go, hurry up and bring all the calligraphy of the CAI family to Mr. Zhong. Li Ju pushed Sima Lang, looked at Zhong Yao with shining eyes, and said, "Later, Mr. Zhong, when we helped CAI and everyone collect their family assets, we received a lot of books. This is for you." Soon Sima Lang ran over with a few scrolls in his arms, and Zhong Yao saw those scrolls directly throwing away Li Ju, running to greet Sima Lang with a fanatical face, and then snatched the scrolls away, almost burning with joy in his eyes. "Zhong Shangshu, the books we collected at that time are all here, you can continue," Sima Lang said with a smile. "It's easy to say, this matter is actually very simple. Send someone to Ma Shouqing and Han Wenyu to explain this matter openly and honestly. As for the previous edict, it is directly said to be a false edict. As for which princes to plant, you can watch and do it, and then send people to Shiliang to spread it wantonly. We want to reopen the Zhenghua Canal and restore the Sanqin granary." Zhong Yao put all the scrolls into his sleeves and tilted his left robe, but he himself continued without caring. Okay. Li Ju was overjoyed. Everyone squatting in Chang'an knew how important Jingguochu was back then. What did 100,000 acres of high-quality fertile land mean? As long as it could be reopened, Li Ju dared to let the Shiliang Iron Cavalry open to eat, and then restore the messy military discipline that had been corrupted, all of which were forced without food. The general's prestige in Shiliang, the prestige of the Qiong and who is not weaker than that of Ma Shouqing and others. When the time comes, as long as the general swears an oath for a day, and asks His Majesty to issue an edict to supervise this matter, as long as the matter is successful, the general's previous. Speaking of this, Zhong Yao stopped talking, but Li Ju understood the meaning. This matter was done, then it can basically be said that there is a talisman, the merit of living the people of a state. Even if he dies, there are people to worship, and he is ruthless in the history book. Thank you, Zhong Shangshu. Li Ju bowed deeply. After this matter is completed, I will restrain the Shiliang army so that its military discipline will no longer be chaotic, but I will also ask Zhong Shangshu to recommend one person to complete this alliance. It's him. Zhong Yao raised his hand and pointed at Sima Lang. The Sima family in Hanoi should be enough in terms of identity and talent. It can be seen that the general appreciates him very much, and I can probably get this scroll without his hard work. In that case, let him go. I can be regarded as a favor, and the general will not worry about his future promotion. Sima Lang lowered his head. He now dared to guarantee that Zhong Yao would definitely guess his true identity, although he had not revealed it. Okay. Li Ju laughed. They have always wanted to contact the family, but unfortunately the Guanlong family is too proud and does not contact Li Ju at all, and now there is an opportunity to connect with the Sima family, and more families can be gathered in the future. Although Li Ju has no idea of competing for hegemony in the world, but he understands better than many people that this world actually belongs to the aristocratic family. Thank you General and Shangshu for your love. Lang will go all out to complete this matter. Sima Lang said solemnly. Okay. Li Ju laughed and said, Boda, don't worry, Lao Fan and Lao Zhong will definitely protect you when you pass through Changpingwen this time, and our #1 master in Shiliang will also cover you at that time, don't worry. Li Ju mentioned Zhong Xiu a little strange. After all, Zhong Xiu's strength to beat 2 internal Qi masters at the same time couldn't help, but Li Ju was not curious. If I remember correctly, the last one who made the master of internal Qi leave the body shamelessly besieged was Lu Biyu, and the second was Zhong Xiu, and sure enough, Shiliang only had perverts. Zhong Xiu. Sima Lang shouted in his heart, as the only appearance in the world was to be besieged by the master of the internal Qi and defeat the opponent. Sima Lang couldn't help but look sideways. In this era, the master of the internal Qi means not only high-end force, but also means legion talent. Thanks to the general's trust, Lang will do his best to reach this alliance. Sima Lang said solemnly, Look, I will bring Ma Teng and Han Sui to Chang'an. Only in this way can I show my ability. Chapter 485 The Wisdom of the Fool. Li Ju was sure that as long as it was done well, the food was really not a problem, and all the bad thoughts of Fan Chou, Zhong Ji, Guosai, and others were extinguished. That night, Li Ju invited Guosai to set up a banquet, and at the banquet, he explained all the things he had done before, and then punished himself with a jar of wine, and finally revealed Zhong Yao's plan. I think they were all brothers who scooped rice in a pot at the beginning, although Li Ju did a little too much before, but it was not because of a food problem, and now Li Ju took all the problems of the Shiliang army on himself, but made Guosai feel that he was not satisfied, not to mention that Li Ju had his own mind. Guosai, Zhong Ji, Fan Chou, which one did not? Our duo, I, Li Ju, can't stand my brothers. Li Ju drank a little big tongue, but now that he was worried, his original thoughts shook out. Jiran, brother also knows that it is not easy for you, and our brothers are also at fault. Drink. Guosai grinned dizzily and said, But the brothers are all brothers who have rebelled together. What are you afraid of? The sky is falling. I still have brothers, I have this bowl, and the previous unhappiness is over. Li Ju grinned and smirked, and as soon as he touched the bowl with Guosai, he rolled under the table, and the wine didn't even enter his mouth. Ha ha ha, Jiran, you are drunk, you are drunk. Guosai raised his hand and laughed, and the wine was spilled all over his body. Li Ju, who was in a daze on the other side, muttered in his mouth when he heard Guosai's words, I'm not drunk. I was struggling with my hands and was about to climb onto the table. Next. Sima Lang, who was supposed to be on the road after meeting Li Ju, waited until the hour of Sai to see Li Ju and Guosai in the main hall of Li Ju. This is Sima Xian's nephew, right? He looks good. Guosai put his arms around Li Ju's neck and said with a smile, Sima Boda has seen General Guo. Sima Lang immediately bowed. Jiran, I will also lead my troops this time. Whether our Shiliang army eats dry or drinks thin in the future depends on this time. How can we let Ma Teng and Han Sui mess around? If they have any opinions, brother, I will take off their heads. Guosai loosened Li Ju's neck and looked at Li Ju and said, his long-term vision is not very good, but leading troops on the battlefield is by no means comparable to ordinary generals. To say that Guosai did not dare to leave Chang'an before yesterday, for fear that he would never come back after he went out. But now, the old brother said everything openly and honestly. Not to mention Zhong Ji and Fan Chou, who don't know about this now, just say that he is Guosai, and now he is absolutely relieved of Li Ju, this is the brother who blocked the knife for him. This. It's okay, it's good for you to make everything clear to Lao Zhong and Lao Fan this time. If you can't make any mistakes, push it on my head, don't create estrangement like before. As for Ma Shouqing and Han Wenyu, if you don't obey, kill Han Wenyu, Ma Shouqing will stay. Li Ju thought for a while and said, but fortunately, he still had a little foresight and knew how to kill Ma Teng. The Qiong people in the Fufeng area will inevitably complain, although it is not a big deal, but it is not necessary. Okay. I listened to you, I took 12,000 iron horses to clean them up. As for Lao Zhong and Lao Fan, in fact, this is nothing. Brothers didn't know you before, it was quite difficult to do, but now you can understand it. So you put your heart in your stomach, and the four of us are brothers who scoop rice with a horse spoon. I think it wasn't that they didn't do anything about blocking each other's knives on the battlefield. Guosai patted Li Ju on the shoulder and laughed. Then he may have been worried that Li Ju still had a grudge in his heart, so he pulled his robe, threw it on Sima Lang, and pointed to the wound on his chest. Look at this knife wound, look at this arrow wound, and this gunshot wound. I have blocked the knife for the three of you many times, and when the time comes, the two of them will say that you are not authentic. You take off your clothes, and they will also let go of the mustard on those wounds, which is not a thing. Li Ju looked at the silly Guosai, and then looked at the scars on his body, and couldn't help but think of the hardships he had to go from the Shiliang pawn step by step to the present. Ha ha ha, you're right, what's so great, I'm too. Saying that, Li Ju threw his clothes and threw them on Sima Lang's head, and suddenly Sima Lang was extremely angry. When was he a top wise man actually used as a hanger? Li Ju pointed to the wound on his body. Uncle, I have blocked a lot of knives for you. Bring grain and grass and hurry up to help Lao Fan and Lao Zhong solve the trouble. By the way, I have also done the reward for Bo Yuan, you see. As he spoke, he pulled out the edict in Sima Lang's arms and handed it to Guosai. You scumbag, bullying me illiterate. Guosai threw it to Li Ju without even looking at it, and then put the robe back on. I forgot, but you can just give it to Lao Zhong when the time comes. You can see Lao Zhong's situation. Li Ju smiled and said, and then stuffed the edict to Guosai, and Guosai also received it in his arms without care. On the way afterwards, Sima Lang had almost no chance to show his ability, and Guosai had already led his men into Changping Temple, and Fan Chou and Zhong Ji were extremely puzzled by Guosai's arrival. Zhong Boyuan listens to the seal. Guosai saw Zhong Ji and Fan Chou, who greeted him and smiled, took out the edict, opened it upside down without noticing, and happily prepared to read it, and then when Zhong Xiu was waiting for the summons, Guosai laughed and threw the edict to Zhong Xiu. Bo Yuan, you also know that your uncle I can't read. This thing was made by Ji Ran. You can just look at it yourself, and I will make up for the seal for you when I come back. Zhong Xiu was ecstatic after sweeping the entire edict. Marquis Shenwei, General Po Chong, even Zhong Ji on the side saw the edict with a slight strange color. He didn't expect Li Ju to actually give such a high reward, which is simply incredible for the few people who have begun to make trouble now. Okay, don't look at Lao Zhong, Lao Fan, I have something to tell you. Guosai jumped off his horse and said with a smile. Let's go into the tent. Fan Chou and Zhong Ji looked at each other, both slightly worried. After Guosai entered the tent, he threw his armor and robe directly on the ground, pointed to a wound on himself and asked Zhong Ji, Lao Zhong, brother, do you know how my wound came from? The Battle of Jincheng helped me block a shot from the Qiong. Zhong Ji thought of the original situation and said with a sigh, Lao Fan, where is my wound? Guosai asked, pointing to a small, eye-like wound close to his heart. The Battle of Beidi helped me block an arrow from the Qiong marksman, and you almost died at that time. Fan Chou said with emotion, the brothers all came from the battlefield, and many of the wounds on their bodies were to block the knife for others. If it weren't for Bo Yuan and Ji Ran desperately killing the Qiong king at that time, we would all have died. Then there was a burst of desolate laughter. Back then, today, things are different. Chapter 486. It's time to show true strength. Guosai pointed to the wounds on his body and asked question by sentence, which made Zhong Ji and Fan Chou can't help but think of the glorious years at the beginning, and then think about the gap between the four of them can't help but be a little sad. We are brothers who can block each other's knives. Guosai stretched out his hand to look at the two of them. Maybe we have had bad ideas before due to various reasons and accidents, but that was just because of the estrangement caused by some small things, and we all understand each other's loyalty. We are still brothers. Say it directly. Zhong Ji stretched out his hand and pressed it on the back of Guosai's hand. I did have other thoughts, but if you say so, I am willing to believe you. No matter what you say this time, I am willing to believe it. We are brothers. Me too, I want to believe you. Fan Chou also stretched out his hand and tore off his armor. I believe that my comrade in arms protected by scars will not stab me in the back. I believe in you, I believe in Lao Zhong, and I also believe in Lao Li. After this sentence was said, Fan Chou breathed a sigh of relief. Ha 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 ha, this is a brother. Guo Sai laughed and said, Ji Ran has already come up with a solution to the food problem. We don't have to worry about the food problem in the future. Say 1,000 words and 10,000. Isn't it because of the food problem of our soldiers that we will have a gap at the beginning? Our duo, are you kidding? Zhongji looked at Guo Sai with his eyes widened in disbelief. Can Ji Ran solve this matter? Guo Sai's smile was about to flow out. Really, it's true, that's why I'm here. Ji Ran asked me to say a word to you. He was wrong before, but I don't want to say it. I'm at fault myself. I can't say this. I don't think you want to hear this either. Fan Chou was speechless. He was very familiar with Li Ju and had been friends for decades. Naturally, I know that this person is very stingy, but he is very loyal. He said that sentence, which means that the other party really wants to take the fault on himself. Lao Zhong, don't think about it. Our Shiliang army can only have one heart to cross the world, without Dong Xiong. We are still the invincible elite in the world. Even if we are in the Jedi, the Shiliang army is still the strongest soldier in the world that is invincible. Guo Sai laughed wildly, and then slowly told the two of them the whole plan. So everything is so simple. Zhongji smiled bitterly. If there was a choice, he could let his nephew bend to others. It is precisely because he cannot see the back of the Shiliang army that Zhongji will make such a choice, and now Zhongji knows too well that as long as there is food, the original Shiliang army will be gathered. Even if he died, with the support of Li Ju and others, Zhong Xiu was unhindered. Yes. Some things are simple, but we can't think of them. Fan Chou smiled bitterly. Without the military division, we have an undefeated army, but we have no way to show it, and now we are still in internal turmoil. Forget it. Forget it. Let's go over the past. Our Shiliang soldiers must maintain the original iron plate, and the letter left to us by the military division is to unite us. We directly sent troops to surround the Zhong Corps, and if they were not convinced, they would kill Han Wenyu and Ma Shoucheng. Guo Sai smiled and said, Lao Zhong asked your nephew to be the vanguard, and we killed all this group of troublemakers. Kill Han Wenyu. Ma Shoucheng still doesn't want it. We need the Zhong people to dig the Zhenghua Canal and the Liufu Canal, and after Ma Shoucheng's death, we still need to fight with Fufeng, and the Zhong people in the Sanfu area are not worth it. Zhongji's vision can be a little better than Li Ju's, and naturally he can think of what Li Ju can think of. Trouble. Guo Sai said unhappily. According to what Ji Ran said, fortunately, Ji Ran reacted quickly. If it was a year later, we estimated that it would. Fan Chou did not speak, but it was obvious that he had some lingering fears. If it was a little later, even if Guo Sai did this, it would be irreparable. Yes, courtesy first, and then soldiers. If they don't obey the command, we will kill them. Zhongji's eyes also flashed with a ruthless light. If the Shiliang army could recover, it would not be a problem for his nephew Zhong Xiu to lead 30,000 50,000 iron cavalry and Chong cavalry mixed into cavalry. He had been mixed all his life just for his nephew. Just do this. If you don't do it, you will destroy them, no matter how prestigious they are among the Chong people. What is the use? I don't believe that the food will not make the Chong people submit. Guo Sai still held the idea of destroying Ma Teng, and it could be seen that he seemed to hate Ma Teng for some unknown reasons. The next day, Zhong Xiu followed Sima Lang to Ma Teng's military camp to negotiate peace, saying that Zhong Xiu followed. One was confident that no one dared to do anything in front of him. After all, under the military clouds at that time, the situation of mowing the lawn really made Ma Teng's army have lingering fears, and the other was also worried that if Ma Teng Han Sui did not negotiate this time, Ma Teng Han Sui would directly have murderous intentions. With Zhong Xiu here, they would never reach out to stop Ma Teng if they wanted to leave. General Zhong, I heard that you once fought alone with two masters who left the body, and defeated them. Sima Lang chatted with Zhong Xiu with a smile on the road, and when talking about Zhong Xiu's classic achievements, Sima Lang couldn't help but look admiring. There is indeed such a thing. Zhong Xiu smiled, but said with a slight pride, after all, he and Lu Biyu are the only ones in the world who dare to face two unharmed internal Qi masters at the same time, so he can't help but be proud. In this way, Lang went to the enemy camp without the slightest worry. Sima Lang said with a smile, if you can't come to an agreement, please ask the general to reach out and rescue him. It's easy to say, I'm here, I'll keep you safe. Zhong Xiu said proudly. It was not that he underestimated the generals of Shiliang, but that although Ma Chao and Pang De were geniuses, they were too weak after all, and they were slightly inferior to Sun Ce, who had just broken through, not to mention that they were all taking a fierce route, and when they encountered an opponent like Zhong Xiu with high speed and high skill, they were suppressed in 2 or 3 strokes. Then thank you, General. Sima Lang said with a smile, and then began to chat with Zhong Xiu about the past in Chang'an. The smile on Sima Lang's face made Zhong Xiu deeply satisfied, and naturally he was even more satisfied with him. plus Sima Lang had the intention of befriending Zhong Xiu, and the two of them were on fire. In just 30 miles, when he was about to arrive at Ma Teng's military camp, Zhong Xiu, who did not have many brain cells, almost pulled Sima Lang, who couldn't laugh or cry, to pinch the soil on the spot. Burn incense and pray for righteousness. Stop. A group of nearly 100 Qiong people who came to the Ma Teng military camp rushed up directly and surrounded Sima Lang and his party, and the leading goalkeeper yelled, "Go, tell Ma Shoucheng. I, Zhong Boyuan, came to see him." Zhong Xiu walked to the front and looked at the goalkeeper with a sneer, and suddenly the cold sweat on the backs of nearly 100 Qiong people guarding the door directly soaked into his armor. "Don't go yet." Zhong Xiu saw that none of the guards moved, so he was immediately furious, roared, and instantly rolled back to the barracks with a bunch of guards, and then cried his father and mother, "The Gun King is here. The Gun King is coming." Ha 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 ha! Zhong Xiu laughed when he saw the performance of a guard. "Boyuan, your reputation is far away. Even the guards were so scared when they saw you." Sima Lang stepped forward and said with a smile, "Ha ha ha, I beat them up hard that time." The general's flag was snatched, and then a group of them were beaten every few days, and after a long time, it became like this. Zhong Xiu said slightly proudly. Zhong Boyuan looks at the gun. Just when Zhong Xiu was proud, he roared, "I saw a young general wearing golden armor with a face like powder, eyes like meteors, lips like vermilion, tiger body and ape arms, and a wolf belly rushing over with a gun." As Li Ju said, the Shiliang soldiers did not have much food, but now they have at least half a year's worth of food, and the Qiong soldiers led by Ma Teng have not even had a month's worth of food until now. At this point, Ma Teng, Han Sui, and the 8 generals of the flag also had to consider the issue of retreat, but because the Shiliang soldiers on the opposite side had been gritting their teeth and not retreating, Ma Teng and Han Sui were very worried that an accidental retreat would turn into a big collapse, and whether they could go back alive would become a problem. After all, the Shiliang soldiers were likely to cause huge trouble, and one accidentally let Fan Chou, Zhong Ji, and others seize the opportunity. Relying on Zhong Xiu to lead the elite to intersperse, it may not be possible to abolish the Qiong soldiers at one time. However, no matter how dangerous it is still necessary to withdraw, and Ma Teng and Han Sui have made up their minds to retreat. Naturally, the news also reached Ma Chao's ears, and the arrogant Ma Chao could not bear this kind of defeat after defeat, and finally retreated without even taking advantage. Of course, more importantly, Ma Chao was not convinced. Ma Chao, who had always thought that he was a genius, was very dissatisfied with his consecutive defeats at the hands of Zhong Xiu, and even more dissatisfied with the result that he and Pound could only defeat Zhong Xiu. At first, he thought that he had just broken through the internal qi and was not an opponent, but after fully mastering the means of internal qi leaving the body, he was still not an opponent. This made Ma Chaoyu angry. However, Ma Chao firmly believed that he could defeat Zhong Xiu on his own, so he was very dissatisfied with his father's plan to retreat now. In his opinion, as long as Zhong Xiu was defeated, he could defeat the Shiliang soldiers, and he could gradually feel Zhong Xiu's bottom. For this reason, Ma Chao and Ma Teng had a big quarrel, and finally Ma Chao left angrily, but Ma Chao, who was relaxed outside, picked up a curly-haired little red horse that didn't know what to eat and couldn't stand up. After that, the curly little red horse relied on Ma Chao and did not leave, and Ma Chao also felt that the horse was comfortable riding, and after a little better, he rode the little red horse back, but just returned to the camp and encountered this situation at the camp gate, and Ma Chao, who had not been discouraged, suddenly became angry and killed Zhong Xiu. Ding! The moment Zhong Xiu saw Ma Chao attacking, the spear in his right hand slashed an arc towards Ma Chao, and with a bang, Zhong Xiu, who was driving the horse, couldn't help but take 5 steps back, while Ma Chao, who was riding a curly red horse, slid backwards 3 steps. Zhong Boyuan, accept death. After Ma Chao saw this scene, he patted the little red horse's neck, laughed wildly and rushed up with a gun. Zhong Xiu frowned and stared at the curly little red horse. If I remember correctly, Ma Chao didn't ride this thing before. Ding! There was another violent roar, but this time Zhong Xiu just shook, and Ma Chao felt a huge force hitting him, and his hands were numb. Immediately, Ma Chao no longer had the slightest hesitation, and suddenly gushed out the golden inner energy on his body, and the little red horse under his crotch also emerged with fiery red inner energy, blending with Ma Chao's breath, and the whole person was shrouded in golden red. Ma Mangqi, I'm not interested in playing with you today. Zhong Xiu looked at the people and horses with golden red inner energy flowing on his body, and was slightly jealous. HMPH, I'll meet you today. Ma Chao ignored Zhong Xiu and rushed directly towards Zhong Xiu with a pinch. Zhong Xiu had a dark face. Red and blue internal energy suddenly flowed out of his body, and then merged into purple, rushing directly towards Ma Chao. As soon as the two exchanged horses, there was a crazy explosion, and then Zhong Xiu gushed out the inner energy, directly tightened the reins, and the green horse under his crotch stepped directly into the air and flew into the sky. Shameless. Zhong Xiu sneered repeatedly. He was not worried about seriously injuring Ma Chao here, and there was nothing to talk about today's covenant. In his opinion, as soon as Guosai arrived, their strength had already overwhelmed the Chong people. If it's a big deal, push it over. Zhong Xiu's spear almost danced into a round ball, and Ma Chao drove his horse directly towards Zhong Xiu, and a line of fire directly shot towards the purple light in the sky, and the two clashed in the sky for nearly 100 rounds in an instant. The explosion in the sky did not stop. Ma Chao, you are looking for death. With a loud noise, Zhong Xiu's original purple light suddenly burst out like fireworks, and then stretched out like a golden silk chrysanthemum, and then came back again. Then the two separated again. Zhong Xiu looked at the neck of the green horse under his crotch with heartache. His eyes were about to burst into flames, and his horse would actually be bitten by the little red horse under Ma Chao's crotch. Ha ha ha. Zhong Xiu, you are just like this. At this moment, Ma Chao gasped strongly, not hiding his weakness at all, but his eyes shone with an exhilarating brilliance. Ma Chao tried his best to block the previous move. But he was not injured, and his horse was not injured, but Zhong Xiu's horse was injured, which was enough, and the depression in Ma Chao's chest disappeared in this long smile, and he had never felt so good since he met Zhong Xiu. Zhong Xiu's eyes flashed with cold light. No longer talking nonsense with Ma Chao, all the purple qi on his body was received into his body. Only the gun swallowed purple light. This horse has been with him for more than 10 years, and the gift given to him by his master Tong Yuan was just a qi refining into a gang at the beginning, and now he already has the strength to leave the body for the first time, but he was actually bitten by the horse under Ma Chao's crotch, and sure enough, he was not wrong. Zhong Xiu pulled the reins, and the whole person directly turned into a purple line, and rushed towards Ma Chao diagonally below. Give me death. Zhong Xiu stabbed down. There was no such fancy move, only a flat shot. Ma Chao held the gun towards Zhong Xiu, and as a result, the two guns intersected. Ma Chao only felt an unrivaled huge force directly attacking, and the right arm holding the gun clearly sounded a burst of explosion, and before he could make any moves, he flew out backwards, and the whole person turned into a golden light. Boom! With a loud noise, like a meteorite falling to the ground, the place where Ma Chao smashed down suddenly dented in Sima Lang's disbelief eyes, and the next moment the dust flew, and then the little red horse that was still in the air did not wait for Zhong Xiu to make any movements and directly turned into a line of fire and flew into the dust. Zhong Xiu drove his horse down slowly, staring at the dusty place, and then retracted his head, only to see that Ma Tang, Han Sui, Pang De, and the 8 generals of the flag had already appeared in the field of vision, followed by a large number of Ma Tang and Han Sui's elite cavalry. Zhong Boyuan, are you going to have a big fight with us? Liang Xing saw the dust and fog and immediately became furious. They had now completely fallen to Ma Tang and Han Sui. One was prosperous and the other was lost, so naturally they couldn't let Ma Chao get out of trouble. HMH, what qualifications do you have to mention that I have a big fight? There were people who let me die before, and I don't know if I'm dead now. Zhong Xiu sneered. If Ma Chao had definitely died on land before, but in the air, Zhong Xiu's trick of pressing the phoenix 7 nods to one blow, but because Ma Chao fell off the horse, he kept controlling his body in the air, cutting that huge force, and finally hit the ground to break a few ribs. You! Liang Xing was furious, but he was afraid of Zhong Xiu's force and did not dare to do it. What are you? In addition to Ma Mengqi and Pang Lingming, everyone else is not enough for me, Zhong Xiu said with a sneer. Immediately, the 8 generals of the flag who used force to cross Shiliang turned dark, but they did not dare to do anything with Zhong Xiu. The other party was telling the truth. Although Ma Tang on the other side was eager, he was pulled by Pound. After all, others didn't know the strength of the inner qi leaving the body. Pound still had a little confidence, although the previous movement was huge, but after all, it was hit from the air, and it did not die in the air, and when it fell, it was still a golden thread. That is, the internal qi was still there, and that speed was to suffer a little, or die. Sure enough, the smoke and dust dissipated, and in the big pit, a hand was stretched out, and Ma Chao, who was in embarrassment, leaned out half of his body, gritted his teeth and stood up with a long gun, and his right arm drooped as if he had lost control, and drops of blood fell down. But Ma Chao's eyes were not afraid of Zhong Xiu, some were only excited. This time Ma Chao really felt Zhong Xiu's strength, and Ma Chao clearly felt the unrivaled strength in the last blow. But because of this, Ma Chao completely wiped away the shadow in his heart. Although Zhong Xiu was strong, he still had a limit, not bottomless. Although the goal is far away and the road is tortuous, after all, there is a road and a goal, and it is no longer the same as before. Zhong Boyuan, your gift today, my Ma Chao will be rewarded in the future. Ma Chao limped onto his curly little red horse with a spear, then gritted his teeth and said in the direction of Zhong Xiu, "HMPH. Wait until that day to talk about it." Zhong Xiu sneered repeatedly, then turned his head to stop looking at Ma Chao, stared at Ma Teng, who was leading the army on the opposite side, surrounded by clouds, and said, "General Ma is so ineffective in governing the army. I, Zhong Boyuan, am here as an envoy of Shiliang, and I was actually attacked like this. This is the hospitality of your Chong people?" As expected of a foreigner. Ma Teng's face turned pale for a while. Zhong Xiu's words deeply stung his heart. Ma Teng's most proud place is that his ancestor was General Fubo Ma Yuan. It is precisely because of this that he can claim to be an orthodox Han Chinese with Chong and Hu blood in his ancestors. And what he hates most is that people say that he is a Chong and Hu barbarian, and he is not educated, and Zhong Xiu's words really hurt him, and he can't refute it. "General Zhong, wait a moment." Ma Teng took a deep breath, pulled the horse's head, and his subordinates directly dispersed into two columns, made a pleased gesture in his hand, and then looked at Zhong Xiu with a smile. "The child Meng Qi is just itching for a while. The general, please. There has been a banquet inside. Since the general is an envoy this time, please enter the camp to talk." "Okay." Zhong Xiu glanced at the thin clouds that spread out in the military formation without the slightest fear, patted the green horse under his crotch, and walked directly inside, and Sima Lang also followed with a wry smile. Soon arrived at the main tent, looking at Ma Teng and Han Sui who were sitting on the top, and then looking at the 8 generals of the banner who were like facing a great enemy. Zhong Xiu sitting on the side said with a smile, "Don't worry, as long as no one provokes me, I will not make any extra moves today. This is the envoy of our army, Sima Boda of the Sima family in Hanoi. If you have anything to talk about looking for him, I am here to protect him." Sima Lang smiled bitterly when he heard this, but he still stood up and bowed in the direction of Ma Teng and Han Sui. Sima Lang of Hanoi has seen the general of the Eastern Expedition and the general of Zhanxi. "I wonder what Boda is doing here." Han Sui put down his wine glass and asked calmly. This kind of advice and external negotiations are generally left to him to solve, so at this time he is in charge. "Come for the 2 generals and the people of Shiliang." Sima Lang took a deep breath and said with a smile, it was finally time for him to perform. Chapter 487 Water Can Overturn a Boat. Chen Shi, who had just set foot in Donglai port in Qingju, had no idea that such a big change had occurred in Yongju within such a period of time he had left, let alone that Sima Lang relied on his explosive affinity and the world's eloquence to completely stop Han Sui and Ma Teng, and even more ruthlessly, Ma Teng was even persuaded to enter Chang'an to personally ally with Li Ma and others. In this way, under the two-way instruction of the stick and the grain, the Shiliang Chong people decided that the originally planned excavation work had officially begun, but the ideal was lofty, and the reality was skinny, although the Chong people were willing to dig the Zhenghua Canal and the Liufu Canal for the future life, but they couldn't stand Li Ju and didn't have the ability to control it. And the mobilization of millions of labourists was not a joke. Not only Li Ju, but in fact, looking at the world, there are people who have the ability and confidence to control millions of labourists, and reasonably exert their abilities to eliminate Chen Shi and Lu Su, who have done this and are still doing this, and there are definitely no more than 5 fingers. Sima Lang can be described as a genius, and it is not a hindrance to let him govern a state, but to do this kind of thing that mobilizes millions of labor, it is definitely high to do it without decades of tempering, so that this matter finally fell to Zhong Yao as Zun Yu estimated. With the idea of not bothering the 2 masters, Li Ju took Guosai, Zhong Ji, Fan Chou, Ma Tang, and others to meet Zhong Yao with a large pile of Sai Yong scrolls. Zhong Yao took the gift and sighed, saying that he would solve this matter. In fact, he was already going to scold Zun Yu to death in his heart. He knew that Zun Yu was paving the way for him. But the project of launching millions of people has been completed, needless to say. When Cao Mangda comes to take over, he will definitely be the first civil servant under Zun Yu. But what if he can't? It's no wonder he wasn't dug and buried. "Boda, why are you here again?" Zhong Yao looked at Sima Lang with a wry smile. "Zun Wenruo is really sorry. He gave me such a big problem. The arrow has to be sent on the string. I need to take over this matter horizontally and vertically." "Alas, what a Zun Wenruo. I really can count everything." "Zhong Shangshu, the Chamberlain asked me to give you this letter, saying that you will understand it at a glance." Saying that, Sima Lang lowered his head and took out a letter from his sleeve and handed it to Zhong Yao, lowering his head and not answering. "Just look at the nose and the nose at the heart." To be honest, since he came to Sili, Sima Lang confidently observed the Shiliang soldiers, and he overcompleted the tasks assigned to him by Li Ju. Li Ju naturally trusted him very much, allowing him to come into contact with a lot of Shiliang military affairs. Because of this, Sima Lang was extremely uneasy about Cao Cao's annexation, and even in Zun Yu's words, the plan to receive Shiliang, because it was too strong. On the surface, the real Shiliang Iron Cavalry is only 50,000. But after Sima Lang came into contact with the military system of the Shiliang soldiers, all his original confidence turned into bitterness. The so-called Dongzhuo's death, and the collapse of the entourage is simply a joke. It is true that after Dongzhuo's death, hundreds of thousands of Zhong cavalry disappeared directly, and the strength of the Shiliang army dropped significantly. But after Sima Lang came into contact with the truth of the facts, he realized that those Zhong cavalry were not mercenaries like the escort army or Danyang soldiers, but servant soldiers, just like the common people on the battlefield in the Central Plains. However, this civilian man is relatively advanced, equivalent to a second-rate soldier. That is to say, if the Zhenghua Canal is reopened. If the Shiliang soldiers have food, they can reproduce the original Shiliang army at any time, and you are not afraid of the cavalry close to 300,000. When Sima Lang learned this, he had no confidence in Zun Yu's plan at all, and any plan must have strength as a guarantee, 300,000 cavalry, although the Zhong cavalry accounted for more than 80%, but this combat effectiveness was not a joke. However, although Sima Lang was desperate, he still followed Zun Yu's orders to complete the things Zun Yu explained. After all, he also wanted to see how Zun Wenruo did this almost snake-swallowing elephant plan. When he looked up again, Zhong Yao had already finished reading the entire letter, and after turning around and burning the entire letter with an oil lamp, he looked at Sima Lang with a calm expression. Boda, in the future, you can do things according to Li Jiran's orders. The fruit of Yongju will not fall in Shiliang. Zun Wenruo really took one step and looked at 3 steps. And went back to tell the Hussar general that I need a large number of civil servants to manage. Hey! Sima Lang's eyes flashed with shock, although he didn't know what Zun Yu wrote in this letter. But Zhong Yao could say this. I am afraid that Zun Wenruo had almost arranged the matter of Yongju. After Sima Lang left, Zhong Yao sighed. Zun Wenruo, you are powerful. These people will become your pawns when the time comes, but I don't know which role I am in your arrangement. After saying that, Zhong Yao looked at the east silently and sighed. But that's interesting. There are also characters in this world who are beyond your Zun Wenruo's expectations, and it is also interesting to force you to this extent. See who is the better chess player between the two of you in the end, and now you are no longer taking risks, and you are fighting steadily. It's a pity that the Yang family of the 5th generation and 3 dukes, it may be difficult to turn over after that. Chess pieces, Yang Dezu is a pity. If you can jump out of this game, there may still be a glimmer of chance, but now I'm afraid I'm only tired of coping. I hope don't die, I still admire you. Zhong Yao looked back in the direction of the Yang mansion with a hint of mockery, and then returned to his normal nerd situation. Chen Shi, who had just stepped off the boat, naturally didn't know these things, but even if he knew, it was difficult to intervene in this distance, not to mention that Zheng Guochu had reached this point, and it had become the wish of millions of people in the 3 places of Yongliang Sili, the prestige of the Liang soldiers in the west, and the prestige of Ma Teng. At the end of the Han dynasty, all the people wanted was a bite of food. Why did the Yellow Turban rebel, except for that bite of rice? What else could they do? And when Li Ju and others deliberately preached that as long as the Zhenghua Canal was reopened, the surrounding people could have food, and this canal had to be dug, and it would block the people's way of life. The so-called general trend is gushing. Some things are not mentioned and no one cares, but when something is mentioned, it has to be done. Li Ju does not know that when he plans to excavate and dredge the Zhenghua Canal, it means that this matter must have a result, and now it is Zhong Yao who holds their lifeline. Kong Ming, Bo Yang is gone. Let's see how this Donglai construction is. We are average in everything else. We are very confident in construction. At least until now I have never seen anyone better than me. Chen Shi slapped Zhuge Liang and Lu Zun, looked at the crowd around and said with a smile. When Chen Shi left before, it was just a barren place, but when he came back, he wasted a little more time. But what he didn't expect was that this port had actually been repaired, and it was actually popular. Chapter 488 Sun Qian's Basic Construction. Lu Zun on the side has not yet been conscious, but Zhuge Liang has involuntarily curled his lips. This is no longer good at it. The Spring and Autumn Qin and Han dynasties have dared to do this for so many years, and it is only the number of Hans that have dared to do this for so many years, and it has been done, and it is Yu Chen Zichuan who has not yet been boiling with public resentment. This is just good at it? Chen Shi didn't pay much attention to Zhuge Liang's expression, and took the two of them to stroll around the port, but it didn't take long for Zun Yang to appear in front of Chen Shi in person. If you love to play and watch, come to the internet. Zun Yang, the governor of Donglai County, has seen the Marquis of Yingshang Pavilion. Zun Yang, who had an old-fashioned expression, appeared in front of Chen Shi with a respectful bow, and Chen Shi couldn't help but return the salute without solemnity, saying that what he was least good at dealing with was this kind of old-fashioned dogmatic role. It's easy to say, I don't know what the county magistrate is doing? Chen Shi asked. He didn't believe that Zun Yang was going around here every day when he had nothing to do. The Lord asked Chen Hu to quickly return to Mount Tai after arriving in Donglai, and Guo Fengxiao had a letter for me to hand over to you. Saying that, Zun Yang said with a dull expression, completely ignoring the crowd secretly watching around him. I accepted the letter. That guy wrote to me for the first time. As for returning to Mount Tai, I will rush back soon. I don't know if the county governor has other matters. Chen Shi took the envelope and received it in his sleeve without even looking at it. No, I have prepared the materials needed by the ministries. Just wait for the Lu family to come and station. And I have already built the port and the factory built by the sea ship, and the funds are in place. Zun Yang shook his head and made a gesture of invitation to Chen Shi, signaling that he should return to Mount Tai as soon as possible. After Chen Shi stayed away from Zun Yang, Lu Zun relieved his breath. Who is that guy? Standing by my side scared me half to death. It's really old-fashioned. Zun Shuruo. The ability is very powerful, but the personality is a little arrogant, and it is obvious that he does not want to have too much contact with Sichuan. Zhuge Liang said indifferently, a very powerful person, but he is also very powerful. A very powerful person. If it weren't for him, it would be hopeless to rebuild the Lujia shipyard this year, and now, as long as the people are in place, construction can start. Zun Shuruo has such ability. I really want to see what kind of elegance Zun Wanruo has. Chen Shi nodded and said. Donglai built well, and Zun Yang was able to prepare with a little guess at hand, so Chen Shi had to say a word of service. Zun Wanruo, the person who has always sat in the center under Cao Mengde. Zhuge Liang looked up at the sky. Even he had to admit the strength of the other party, although he was not as steady as Chen Shi, and the other party properly demolished the east wall to make up for the west wall, but he abruptly stabilized the current situation. Well, it can be regarded as the most powerful group of people in the world today. Chen Shi nodded and said, but it's a pity that his vision restricts his ability. Kong Ming, you have to work hard. Now you are not his opponent, and the most suitable person under Xuan Dagong to sit in the center is actually you. Aren't you and Mr. Wanru? Zhuge Liang was happy at first, and then reacted that Chen Shi was the best candidate to sit in the central government. I can only do a framework, and Confucianism belongs to checking and filling in the gaps. The only thing that can really be done is zhijing. Chen Shi said with a wry smile. Li Yu can indeed sit in the center, but he can't stand his style is not suitable for Liu Bei's side. If Li Yu sits in the center, as long as no one cares, he will involuntarily be ruthless, even a killer, so he can only let him check and fill in the gaps and be a panacea. Chen Shi knows his own affairs, and he may not be able to do well to let him be a county magistrate, but let him be a far-sighted prime minister who makes plans. Maybe he can make a plan that shocks everyone. The question is if he does it. Zhuge Liang thought about the previous situation, and couldn't help but smile bitterly. The most tired thing about the whole Taishan is really Lu Su, and Lu Su has to do everything. Lu Zun kept looking at the sky and pouting, very dissatisfied with Chen Shi's evaluation of Zhuge Liang, and of course he was even more dissatisfied with Chen Shi's not evaluating him at all. In this case, Zijing's conscientious work attitude will be exhausted to death sooner or later. Zhuge Liang smiled bitterly. He had already seen Lu Su's tragic ending, and Chen Shi finished his plan and let it go. Don't worry, no, we will all help, and isn't there still you? We are here to cultivate you in the direction of sitting in the central government. Chen Shi said with a smile. In other words, the burden is heavier now, and it will be much better in the future, saying that the popularization of Xuan Dagong's education seems to have begun. Kang Chenggong is already in place, and the rest are moral talents. Chatting and observing all the way, Chen Shi, Zhuge Liang, and Lu Zun had already walked outside the port, looking at the inferior version of the cement-paved road that could run 4 carriages in parallel. Chen Shi patted Zhuge Liang. Gong Yu did a good job. Not only that, if I didn't misestimate, this is the lowest level of road. There are county roads and state roads on it, and the roads of the 12 drivers are together. Zhuge Liang was amazed. In the future, the transportation will be convenient, it will be easier to travel, and the prosperity will be faster, and the transportation of aquatic products here will be more trouble-free. Well, that's pretty much the case, but you still need to take care of it on this road. Chen Shi smiled and said, Gong Yu is really good at doing this. On the other side, Lu Zun was already frightened. This was the first time he had seen this kind of flat road, not to mention that Zhuge Liang actually said that there were still 12 roads to walk together. How much manpower and material resources would it take? Thinking about Lu Zun felt big. Can everyone walk this way? After a long time, Lu Zun asked. Of course, everyone can walk, and of course these roads are sometimes occupied, but that's a rare case. Chen Shi smiled and said, he himself was building while fighting, ensuring that the place where he was beaten could get the same treatment instantly every time, otherwise he would have begun to push Jizhou flat now. In fact, at the beginning, Chen Shi also planned to make a weight limit, but later found that this was a joke. These carriages and ox carts pulled the most could not exceed 2 tons. Although his cement road was a pirated level of inferior versions of ordinary cement in later generations, but now this carriage will really not be crushed. In ancient times, sometimes don't think too much. High-strength cement and inferior cement are artifacts in this era.
Then how to recover the cost?
Lu Xun muttered, the money in the treasury is spent and there is no balance. What should I do in the future? It was quickly recovered. These things are cost prices, plus work in lieu of relief. Convenient transportation can prosper the economy. The overall calculation can be recovered in a year at most. Some seasonal things can also be delivered quickly, and more importantly, the loss of transportation materials. Zhuge Liang said with emotion, generally speaking, Sichuan will not lose anything he does. Chapter 489 Lu Xun, who is about to break away from Zhuge Liang's shadow. Generally speaking, I can't stop when I lose money. Chen Shi tugged at his mouth and replied, making Zhuge Liang half angry and not saying anything more about praising Chen Shi later. What are you laughing at? Zhuge Liang said angrily to Lu Xun, who was giggling on the side. Have you learned accounting? HMH, you underestimate me too much. I have not only learned accounting, but also learned the code. I have also learned to adapt to local conditions. And I have learned the numerology, grid, yin-yang gossip, strange door, and formation that you gave me before. Lu Xun patted his chest and said proudly. Although Lu Xun is a little big-headed, it is undeniable that these things are all for him. Zhuge Liang gave basic knowledge, and Lu Xun was hit hard by Zhuge Liang, so when he learned, it was not like learning at home today, and tomorrow he would be warped, but really working very hard, relying on his mind that was one line away from Zhuge Xun, and now he has mastered it all. All of them? Zhuge Liang was a little hesitant, but he didn't show it, and said calmly, that's good, I won't test you anymore. I'll give you something new when I come back. You can learn it yourself. If you don't understand, ask me. Lu Xun, who was instantly proud, was like a basin of cold water poured down, and his original triumphant expression was stunned. Looking at Zhuge Liang's indifferent look, he didn't know what expression to make. You must know that Lu Xun also planned to see a surprised look from Zhuge Liang's face, originally thinking that Zhuge Liang would not believe it and then test him, but he didn't expect the other party to be so indifferent. Suddenly there was a feeling of looking up to the mountains, feeling that he had learned so many things so quickly. It was nothing to Zhuge Liang at all. How long did it take the person next to you to learn it? Wow, Bo Yang, you are so powerful. Chen Shi was very satisfied when he heard the long list of Lu Xun's words, and couldn't help but praise. Forget it. It's nothing. Lu Xun waved his hand a little wilted, not taking Chen Shi's praise to heart. But then again, Kong Ming didn't seem to have learned these things directly. Chen Shi remembered the situation when he taught Zhuge Liang at that time, so he stuffed a stack of books and asked him to read it. Anyway, I didn't understand many things in elementary school, but I understood them if I kept reading them. Those who don't study in elementary school may not understand elementary school, but those who don't study in primary school definitely understand it. I didn't learn the basics. I remember that I didn't understand what I was doing, but I understood it later. I am difficult first and then easy. Zhuge Liang glanced up at Chen Shi and said, the textbook Chen Shi gave him at the beginning. Now he is half angry when he thinks about it. Oh, it's nothing, anyway. You probably know what's going on. Chen Shi's indifferent tone made Lu Xun, who was wilting on the side, even more hit, and his efforts for such a period of time were simply floating clouds. Keep working hard. Let's get on the carriage and go back to Mount Tai, and when you arrive in Fenggao, you can see what is called Prosperity, which is the county town that I spent a lot of effort to build. Chen Shi saw that the carriage and guards arranged by Zun Yang were already in place. Lu Xun, who patted the slightly wilted on the side, said, okay, I'll remember, master. Lu Xun said weakly. Then he saw Chen Shi get into the carriage and thought for a while and asked, master, what do you think I should do if I want to surpass that guy? You have to surpass him. You and he are not the same type. How can you surpass him if you respond to his strengths with your own shortcomings? You have no hope in this life. If you play to your strengths, you don't cover him. At least you can compete on the same stage with him. Chen Shi patted and said one after another, don't have psychological pressure. He is not a normal person. Don't be worse than him as you are. Oh. Lu Xun nodded and was a little disappointed, but he felt a lot better. Then master, then do you have any quick way? Let me press him first. That guy is so hateful. Lu Xun saw that Zhuge Liang had already entered the carriage and said to Chen Shi in a low voice. Let me think about it. Chen Shi said with a wry smile, Lu Xun's temperament is a little arrogant, and Zhuge Liang's personality is a little indifferent, and Zhuge Liang is now crushing Lu Xun in all directions. Naturally Lu Xun feels a little uncomfortable, but Lu Xun can open his mouth to Chen Shi, which means that he really regards Chen Shi as a master. Oh, when I get back to Mount Tai, I will find someone for you to take you. You learn from him for a while. Not to say that you can overwhelm Kong Ming, at least you can seize the opportunity to make Kong Ming a few times. How about it? Chen Shi saw that Lu Xun was under a lot of psychological pressure, and after thinking about it, he said, after all, you can't bring an apprentice with you.
And this kind of person? Thank you, Master. Lu Xun's face was happy.
Well, you can also learn the art of war strategy with him. He can be better than Kong Ming in this regard. At least he is full of conspiracies and tricks. It can be said that he is at his fingertips, and his personality is very lively. Chen Shi comforted him. It seems that Fa Zheng's current personality is indeed very lively, and his temperament has become very strange after being abused by Guo Jiao, but it is undeniable that he does not hold grudges now.
Great, great. I like the art of war strategy the most. Lu Xun immediately said happily. Who is he?
Zichuan. Are you going to hand him over to Fa Xiaoji to teach for a while? Zhuge Liang suddenly poked his head out and said, and Lu Xun also shrank back instantly.
Oh, Bo Yang looks a little afraid of you.
Chen Shi looked at Lu Xun and nodded to Zhuge Liang and said, Xiaoji's personality is relatively good, and he can probably get along with him, and Xiaoji can't stay in Beihai for a long time. Find him something to do. Zhuge Liang nodded, and glanced at Lu Xun when he retracted. I don't know why Lu Xun always felt some pity in Zhuge Liang's eyes, which made him really puzzled. Is there anything he didn't know in it? After I go back, I will take you to CAI to report to everyone, and you will be able to read Dongguan's books. Chen Shi stepped onto the carriage, and then stretched out his hand to pull Lu Xun up. Yang was not easy. When he was a child, Missa ran away. Xiong stared so closely, memorized the entire collection of books in the East View, guessing that childhood, when he was a teenager, there were probably shadows.
Thank you, Master.
Lu Xun felt that he was in a good mood to break away from Zhuge Liang's shadow, and he was even more satisfied with Chen Shi's arrangement, and he was a lot more excited when he answered. But he didn't see Zhuge Liang's pity on the side. Fa Zheng's hobbies were more strange. Poor Lu Xun, only 12 years old, I don't know if he can withstand it.
When you come to me, I will give you a book on the art of war and a book on psychology.
Zhuge Liang patted Lu Xun, who was excited, and didn't want to hit the other party too much, so that the other party would have fun in the carriage while it was not yet in Fa Zheng's hands, and then he didn't know what kind of future he would have. On the other side, Chen Shi opened the letter Guo Jiao gave him, a circle of 6 lines, a gossip in the middle. The whole piece of paper was cut into a square. I didn't know which side was the beginning and which side was the end. Only one corner wrote a 4th hexagram on the top and down. Fortunately, there is a difference between the upper and lower levels. From this place interpretation, the first one can't be solved. It's really troublesome. What does this guy Feng Xiao want to do? Chen Shi slowly deduced the accurate original code, while silently scolding in his heart. After all, what Guo Jiao did was really cumbersome.
Chapter 490. Prepare early. Can you understand?
Chen Shi turned his head to look at Lu Xun, who was sitting next to him, and asked, if you can, help me decrypt this for me. Feng Xiao is really entangled, and he actually uses a secret code to write a letter to me, or so many layers.
Okay, I should be able to untie it.
Lu Xun nodded and took Chen Shi's envelope, saying that Chen Shi had just browsed through it and found that the letter did not have any translation information at all. Directly the clear code was turned into a secret code, and then the secret code was encrypted, and there was no comparison table at all. Lu Xun didn't solve it quickly, unlike Chen Shi, who relied on experience to get the result as pure numbers. On the contrary, it took him a long time to derive them all. But it was obvious that Lu Xun was very entangled staring at the pile of numbers, how to crack this group of numbers, and couldn't help but look up at Zhuge Liang, who was taking a nap with his eyes closed.
Well, it's all solved.
Chen Shi saw Lu Xun look up and glance at the literal numbers and nodded. Zhuge Liang really looked like he was teaching well.
I can't solve it.
Lu Xun grabbed the ends of his hair and said helplessly, how to crack here? I feel that the key control table is missing. These should already be regarded as raw data. As long as the table is matched, it should be able to be deciphered. Well, it's very good. This is fine. This code does not come with a comparison table. Feng Xiao looks carefree, but rarely leaves omissions. Chen Shi smiled and said, go back to Mount Tai and look for Feng Xiao's house. You should be able to find the corresponding comparison table. In fact, Chen Shi has now guessed that Guo Jiao's designated comparison table is within the scope of those books. After all, there is obviously a handy cursive paper. Bamboo paper, rice paper. But this guy has to use not much silk paper now. Just go back to his house and look for silk books or books about silk. At this time, Zhuge Liang looked up at Lu Xun, who was a little happy. You still need to learn more. The comparison table of this thing. Guo Junsha gave a hint. Lu Xun looked at Zhuge Liang incredulously, and then looked at Chen Shi, only to see Chen Shi nodding. Lu Xun suddenly lowered his head and began to think about what he had missed, but he didn't expect it from beginning to end.
Kongming, do you want to see it?
Chen Shi shook the improved version of the silk paper in his hand. I looked at the letter and probably translated the whole envelope. I already know what the comparison table is. When you were not there, I had also flipped through his collection of books at Feng Xiao's house.
So I know what the comparison table is.
Zhuge Liang said calmly. He never forgot it, and naturally remembered what the full text of Guojiao wrote on the silk book he received from Liu Yi. Translate it. You won't talk nonsense anyway. Chen Shi casually handed the entire letter to Zhuge Liang and said. Zhuge Liang shook his head. In his opinion, Chen Shi was probably too lazy to go back to find the silk book. So he took the letter and quickly translated it, and with the rapid presentation of the translation, a hint of suspicion clearly appeared on Zhuge Liang's face. How is it? Chen Shi asked curiously. The whole letter is a mess. There are a few sentences about Gongsun Buague, a few sentences about the yellow turbans of Montenegro, and a few sentences about the Kui family of the Zhen family in Hebei. By the way, he also said to prepare early. Zhuge Liang said with a wry smile. What kind of things are these? Miscellaneous. There is no substance in it at all. Ready early? What preparations Gongsun Buague makes, what preparations the yellow turbans in Montenegro, what preparations the Zhen family in Hebei does, and the Kui family in Qinghe have nothing to do with us. Chen Shi couldn't help but think. Zhuge Liang immediately didn't say anything more. He was also thinking about what Guojiao's letter meant, although the content was very messy, but he didn't believe that Guojiao would be so bored to send such a thing to Chen Shi. I seem to understand, first Gongsun Buague, then the Montenegrin yellow turbans, and then the Zhen family. Does it mean that Yuan Shao's process and our process, if in order, Zhen's family means that it has not happened yet, and Gongsun Buague naturally means that it has happened, so it is said that the Montenegrin yellow turbans are happening? Chen Shi couldn't help but pinch his eyebrows. Gongsun Buague means that it happened. That is, Feng Xiao got the secret information, but it was not that the general of the White Horse was defeated and died. Chen Shi silently thought that it was probably not that easy, and it was estimated that he was defeated, so that Yuan Shao completely grasped the occupied area. Montenegrin yellow turbans, this is happening, that is to say, there is a situation we originally expected. Zhongyang has already sat on the leader. Chen Shi quickly understood the possible situation, so Feng Xiao meant that we needed to prepare for the reception, and prepare early. It seemed that we had prepared for a conflict with Yuan Shao. The Zhen family and the Kui family, although it feels incredible, Feng Xiao put these two families together. I am afraid that it means that the Kui family is also a secret chess. Today's Yuan Shao is brave, resolute, and heroic, and the suspicious and cowardly Yuan Shao in history is completely different. Feng Xiao is to arouse the most complex side of people's hearts. Step by step, when Chen Shi arrived at Zhanzhen Kui's, Chen Shi instantly understood the meaning, and at the same time guessed Guojiao's thoughts. The most terrifying thing about Yuan Shao now is the heart. It is estimated that Guojiao and the others also understand that even if Yuan Shao is defeated, it will be difficult for us to sweep the world in a short period of time. Only Yuan Shao's own comatose moves can we still have the spare strength to sweep the world after defeating him. The north is the richest, the most populous, the average is the most prosperous, and the strategic base for grain and horse production Jizhou must be completely taken. Chen Shi had a touch of coldness on his face. Compared with Cao Cao, Yuan Shao was the biggest obstacle now. Once the war started, it meant that Liu Bei's side was ready to face Yuan Shao, Liu Biyu, and Sun Ce at the same time. You have to hold back, you can't touch Liu Biyu yet, but when the time comes to clear the field, Liu Biyu must be the first to go out, and it seems impossible for him to fall to us. Chen Shi silently calculated the comparative situation. He had to be fast enough to deal with him. Chen Gongtai's ability was good, but he didn't know if he could be convinced. After Chen Shi quickly figured these out, he glanced at Lu Zun, only to see that the other party was still frowning and thinking about what he had missed. Chen Shi couldn't help but be a little funny, stretched out his hand and patted Lu Zun. Okay, don't think about it. You will understand when you get to Mount Tai. Sometimes the simplest things are the easiest to ignore. We're ready. Zhuge Liang looked up at Chen Shi and asked. I've been preparing, and I've never been ready, but when it's time to do it, we must not be merciful. Even if we are not ready, we still have an absolute advantage if we can't achieve perfection. Chen Shi smiled and said, besides, God won't wait for you to be ready. Chapter 491 Preparing to Clear the Field. That's good. I'm afraid that neither Guo Junshi nor you, or Yuan Benchu's strategists are not at ease this time. Zhuge Liang thought for a while and said, probably, only I don't think so. Chen Shi said with a wry smile, the geographical location of the Montenegrin army is destined to be the scope of the battlefield. But will Chen Gong Lu Biyu really tolerate this kind of thing? I'm afraid it won't be that easy. After that, Chen Shi didn't say much. In fact, whether it was Cao Cao, Yuan Shao, Liu Bei, Yuan Shu, they were all very entangled in Liu Biyu, who was now stuck in the middle. If they were to fight, they had to beware of others to help. If they didn't fight, they would definitely hesitate to do it in the future. Chen Gongtai obviously did not intend to let Liu Biyu compete for hegemony in the world from the beginning, and the place in Yangzhou was just a capital to settle down. After all, Liu Biyu lacked the ability to dominate the world, and he could be a general and a commander, stationed on the frontier, but he could not be a monarch, so Chen Gong's approach was actually to wait for the situation in the world to change. That is, when deciding on the hegemon, he could be a help in the snow. At that time, both Chen Gong and Liu Biyu will spend the rest of their lives safely. As for the current seemingly dangerous situation, it actually depends on his grasp, and Liu Biyu's strength is actually no different from Injuru Osu, because after the situation stabilizes, although it is difficult to expand in Yangju, it is absolutely difficult for anyone to reach out and attack. Chen Gong carefully compared the strength of Liu Bei and Yuan Shao, and it seems that Liu Bei and Yuan Shao have their own advantages and disadvantages, and the two sides also have their own victories in terms of military strength. Whether it is Yuan Shao's cavalry or Liu Bei's navy is an absolute advantage in the north, and it is absolutely difficult for any prince to match it. Because of this, Chen Gong knows very well. The result of the Yuan-Liu dispute is probably difficult to appear in a short period of time, and the two sides are all leaders from the monarch to the civil and military ministers to the army, and Chen Gong is confident that he can definitely use his wisdom and strategy as a weight to overturn the balanced situation at the most dangerous time. As a game breaker, no matter who wins or loses in the end, it will be fine with them. Chen Gong's thoughts were actually almost guessed by Liu Bei, Yuan Shao, and Cao Cao's advisors, but they were not easy to do, because they were holding each other back and were not afraid of Liu Biyu. But fearing other princes around him, this is the reality. Before Zhuge Liang mentioned the Montenegrin army, he was actually saying that Yuan Shao's advisors and Guojiao meant to press the battlefield to the Yangju area and beat the rabbits. Combine the strength of the two families, they took the opportunity of the war of the Montenegrin army to get rid of Liu Biyu. After all, the situation in the north is basically very clear now, and Yuan Shao and Liu will inevitably have a fixed tripod in the north, which Yuan Shao and Liu Bei are confident that they will be themselves, and they both understand that the other party is their real enemy. So before competing for the northern hegemony, there will inevitably be a clearance. Purge all the troublesome ants, surrender or die, only these two roads can be taken. Zhongjia and Juyi forcibly took Yuju, and it took more than half a year to beat Gongsun Buigui out of Yubaping, and in a short period of time, Gongsun Zon was difficult to look south. Because of this, Yuan Shao was able to free up a hand, ready to pinch the Montenegrin yellow turbans, plus sweep away the internal rebellion, and by the way, add to Liu Bei's blockage. Slow down Liu Bei's development speed. Similarly, Guojiao also held the same idea, and he didn't want anyone to make trouble in the dispute between Yuan and Liu. At least those princes who are obviously likely to be dragged back, such as Yuan Shu, such as Liu Biyu, such as Zhong Yong, must be severely damaged before Yuan Liu takes action. Destroy what can be destroyed, and abolish what cannot be destroyed, and abolished must not give them the opportunity to interfere with the overall situation. In this way, Yuan Shao's advisors and Liu Bei's advisors coincided, and they both planned to drag Liu Biyu into the battlefield and use the other party's hand to destroy Liu Biyu, and both sides were confident that they could definitely do it seamlessly. Both sides know that the other party wants to destroy Liu Biyu with their own hands, but they are both confident that they are the biggest winners. Alas, they are not easy to deal with, but you probably underestimate the combat effectiveness that broke out when Chen Gongtai and Lu Fengxian worked together. Chen Shi thought with a wry smile. It's not that Chen Shi is not optimistic about the cooperation between Guojiao and Guan Yu, but when the two strong meet, if there is only the other party in their eyes, it is easy to be calculated by the third party who looked down on it before. If only Guan Yu and Guojiao led the army to attack Chen Gong and Liu Biyu, Chen Shi was absolutely relieved, but if it was in this situation, it was very likely that Chen Gong would seize the opportunity to attack head-on. Fortunately, there is still plenty of time now, so I went back and wrote a letter to the second master to let him be careful. After all, Zhong Liao and Zhou Shun are all unknown people, but they will definitely not be inferior to the top generals, especially Zhong Liao. Once he has a mental calculation, I am afraid that the second master will also suffer. Chen Shi couldn't help but frown when he thought of Zhong Liao's courage. Liu Biyu's strong players still have goods. After that, the carriage flew all the way, supported by hundreds of cavalry sent by Liu Bei, and there was no obstruction on the road at all, and all the caravans would automatically avoid it when they saw it from a distance. Let's rest here tonight. After sleeping outside for 2 days in a row, he finally flew to the place managed by Fa Zheng. When Lu Zun got out of the carriage, he looked at the busy people everywhere and was very curious. Obviously it was close to dusk, but there was still a lot of construction here, and it looked like a city was going to be built. What's going on? Lu Zun asked curiously. Isn't there a curfew? What if something happens at night? A curfew is in place, but the time has not yet come. Zhuge Liang listened to the trumpet in the distance and said calmly, "This guy Fei Xiaoji." Yes, well done. Chen Shi nodded and said, I didn't expect it to be done to this extent. In the future, Linzi will probably be more prosperous than imagined, and it is estimated that it will be second only to Fenggao in 3 years at most. Zhuge Liang looked at the people who were coming and going and said with emotion, this guy said he wouldn't do it, but he is actually very powerful. Zhuge Liang praised Fei Zheng for 2 sentences, and then remembered Fei Zheng's wonderful personality and couldn't help but pull his mouth. It's that there is something wrong with this temperament. Temperament doesn't matter anything. He did a beautiful job. I guess Gongyu didn't even notice. Chen Shi looked at the wide 12 roads in all directions in the center of the city and sighed. I haven't seen it in such a short time. Fei Zheng is actually getting better and better at government affairs, and sure enough, smart people are smart people. Probably he still wants to build waterways, which completely occupies the convenience of land transportation and water conservancy transportation. Zhuge Liang shook his head and said, this guy definitely didn't know how to do it before, but he didn't want to do it. He really started working, and it was indeed done in one step. Chapter 492, Goodbye Fei Zheng. Probably wants to use salt and iron as the main industry of Lindsay. He used up the power given to him by Xuandagong at one time, and even demolished the original Lindsay city, and rebuilt a city here, insisting on taking advantage of the convenience of transportation, looking back at his planning map. Chen Shi shook his head and said, Fei Zheng has a good brain, and he has quite a lot of preparation plans. Plus Sun Qian built the road to build the intersection of the state and county roads to the side of the old city of Lindsay at that time. Anyway, Lindsay City will be renovated sooner or later, and the iron or agricultural tools before Farjing are one stop, and the plan of selling without worrying about sales has accumulated enough popularity. So he directly exerted his popularity to move the new city to the south for more than 10 miles, and moved the entire traffic artery to the inner city of Lindsay, so that the traffic can be regarded as taking advantage of the big advantage. Planning map. Xiaoji still understands this? Zhuge Liang's eyelids were beating wildly. What he hated most was this kind of difficult urban construction planning map, especially the detailed version of the urban construction planning map. Zhuge Ku felt a headache every time he saw it. Very good. The urban construction planning map of the inner city in the late Fenggao period was made by him, integrated into the defense structure, and that guy has a very sufficient imagination in this regard. Chen Shi said strangely, he and Liu Xiang designed a drainage facility to defend against water attacks, and his hands-on ability was average, but his brain was very flexible and unrestrained. Zhuge Liang tugged at his mouth, and without speaking, he knew that it was not so simple for Fei Zheng to be valued by this group of people. Especially that guy's personality was still a bit strange. Speaking of which, Chen Shi also felt strange that Farjing did not show special ability for urban construction in history. As a result, in this life, I just listened to Chen Shi talk about something related to urban construction, and as a result, I just completed other more detailed parts by myself, and then became self-taught. Okay, let's not talk about this. I went to the post station to have a good night's rest, and I don't know if Xiaoji returned to Mount Tai or was still in Qi after being demoted from the position of governor of Beihai County. Chen Shi said as he took the Lu family and his party to prepare to go to the post station to rest, although the new Lindsay city had not yet been built, but due to the convenient transportation, the place where there should be was complete. 90% of the time is in the state of Qi, and I don't know why I always feel that he has a special affection for the official position of Prime Minister of Qi. Zhuge Liang looked left and right at the endless crowd and said calmly, as the first person to obtain an official position on his own, it is strange that he cannot pay attention to it. Chen Shi shook his head and said, the 17-year-old 2,000 stone official is slightly younger than I was, so it's strange if I don't have special feelings. Yo! Zichuan, Kongming, you really passed by here. Just when Chen Shi was about to enter the post station with Zhuge Liang and others, Fei Zheng, who was wearing a green shirt and slightly tanned skin, waved and shouted from a distance. You are almost like the bandits who robbed the road and set up a road. The road has been robbed by you. Can we not pass by? Zhuge Liang saw that Fei Zheng's habitual temper was not good. When he was in Mount Tai, he often pinched Fei Zheng. Of course, Fei Zheng provoked trouble for a long time at the beginning of the new year, but Zhuge Kongming was not a role that could not fight back. Yo, you don't know anything about it. I'm not as low grade as you. Fei Zheng seemed to have worked hard for a while, and it was much better than before, when he was sharp and wanted to provoke everyone he saw. You built the city here. Do you dare to say that you didn't pay attention to the city tax? Zhuge Liang glanced at Fei Zheng, calmed down and said, it's really unfortunate. Sure enough, your grade is constantly declining. Alas, Zhuge Kongming, who used to play happily with me, is gone. Fei Zheng said in an extremely frivolous tone, saying that at the beginning he really paid attention to the city tax, but then his mind was messed up and he found that he didn't need this. Lu Zun stared at the slightly dark-skinned young man in front of him, but it obviously made Zhuge Liang's abnormal young man very happy, which was the new teaching prepared for him by his master, which looked very powerful. What's going on with you two? Chen Shi scratched his head and asked. He seemed to smell a smell of gunpowder. What is going on with these two? Fei Zheng won't say it. Zhuge Liang is not such a personality. I just feel that Kongming's level is constantly declining, and Kongming, who made me feel amazing in Mount Tai, has also changed and become mediocre. Fa Zheng's look of great pity made Zhuge Liang have an urge to hit someone. You're just declining, Zhuge Liang said with a slight annoyance. The vision has dropped to the point where I will only stare at the city gate tax, TSK, the economic effect brought by the caravan passing relative to the income of the city gate tax is greater. Your vision is narrow. Kong Ming, the former governor of Beihai County Kongwonju, has a sentence that is very right. The hour is over, the big is not necessarily good. Fa Zheng's teasing tone gave Zhuge Liang an urge to rush up and beat the other party, and he already understood what Fa Zheng meant before. Well, it's good. Chen Shi thought for a while and said, Xiaozhi, you still have some insights, but you have dredged the surrounding counties and reset the road guides? The state and county level are all acquaintances to say hello, and the county level is just an order. Fa Zheng said this kind of use of power for personal gain without care. How about it? My trick is good. As long as the regular nearby county road leads me, I will not charge the city gate tax of the caravan, so that as a large city with complete urban facilities, it is not only at the intersection of the main road, but also convenient water conservancy, which has considerable benefits for merchants, and it is impossible not to prosper. The more Fa Zheng said, the more proud he became, and the more excited Lu Zun was. It's really powerful. It seems that you are very promising in this regard. Chen Shi praised Fa Zheng for a beat. It is undeniable that this guy is really doing a good job. HMH, that's natural. I studied these things well, and more importantly, I studied your previous actions well, and finally found that all your practices are related to the planning of the city itself, so I have specially studied this new Lindsay city from the beginning of the urban planning, what drainage, sewage discharge, ground channels, underground tunnels I have designed. Fa Zheng said extremely proudly. It is definitely fireproof and waterproof. He found that Fa Zheng was obviously very powerful, and he was extremely thoughtful. Even Chen Shi did not find the slightest mistake. As for Zhuge Liang, he could only stand aside and listen to the other party. HMH, I even let the feng shui master see the underground water veins when I designed this city, and deliberately drilled dozens of deep wells with water veins. Fa Zheng continued to explain. To be honest, he was hitting Zhuge Liang, the kind of gadgets that used to be no longer popular, and pure talent learning can make the other party feel pressured. Chapter 493 Guo Jiao's Inheritance. When building the granary, I also let the feng shui master see the place. I built the entire granary underground, and there are rammed earth fireproof mezzanines between the granaries, and they are all partitions. Even if a certain place is ignited, it can be sealed directly. When he said this, Fa Zheng's expression was extremely proud, and he habitually raised his eyelids to look at Zhuge Liang. It's really in one step. Chen Shi couldn't help but give Fa Zheng a thumbs up. You can be considered to understand what was thrown to you before. That's natural. I did a good study. Recently Kang Chenggong brought a child of his clan over. You didn't see it. That person is really a wizard, not only proficient in literature, but also very good at 100 craftsmen. The seal is what he proposed to build, and he also completed it. Fa Zhang smiled and said, and then recommended a person to Chen Shi. Zheng Hun, Zheng Wengong is right? Chen Shi raised his eyebrows and said, at present, the only one who can make the proud Fa Zheng admire him very much in literary talents and 100 craftsmen is Zheng Hun. Hey, you know? Fa Zheng was surprised. I asked Wei Xiao to look for these people very early, but at that time, he and his brother might have committed a crime, and I couldn't find it. Chen Shi sighed and said. Of course, Chen Shi knew that Zheng Hun should be in Chang'an after 191. The problem was that Zheng Hun had long been gone when he went to find it, and at that time, Zheng Hun's brother Zheng Tai was fooled by Zun Yu to find trouble with Dong Zhuo, and they were all imprisoned. I always feel like there are too many things you know. Fa Zhang said unhappily, but he did not provoke Chen Shi like he provoked Zhuge Liang. He still has this kind of self-knowledge. Okay, let's talk about it inside. It's okay for you to get stuck here. Chen Shi didn't bother to explain what was going on. As for Mrs. Lu had already gone in, and only informals like Fa Zhang and Chen Shi would block the door. Let's go, take you to eat, and you won't get tired of eating. Let you taste the most famous fish belly Tibetan mutton and fish slices in Qi. By the way, I have already made the kitchen utensils you mentioned before, Zichuan. It really works. Fa Zhang waved his hand and directly took a few people to the dining room inside the station. It is said that the post station originally did not have this thing, but when the new city was built, Fa Zhang had no place to live and lived in the post station, so naturally all the food and drink necessary things were moved in, and the kitchen was also in it. Oh. Eat fine meat. Not tired of fine food. Although I don't like fish slices very much, I like cooked food very much, and I don't want to be the same as Chen Yuanlong's bad luck. Chen Shi yawned and said, let's go, let's see how your small kitchen is. It's really not used to sleeping in the air these days. I'll talk about important things later, and I'll eat you first. Chen Yuanlong's unlucky. Fa Zheng couldn't help but think of the situation that Hua Tuo came back to tell him. Frightened him to death and did not dare to eat fish slices again for a long time. But after a long time, it was a matter of time, and now that Chen Shi mentioned it, Fa Zheng felt that it was better not to eat such dangerous things. Let's eat cooked food. Fa Zheng exhaled and said, I don't want to be like Chen Yuanlong's unlucky bastard. I actually ate so many small insects, I'm afraid to think about it, according to Dr. Hua. If he goes 2 years later, Chen Yuanlong can prepare the coffin, and I will go to Dr. Hua to take a look at it again, and I have eaten a lot of that kind of thing during this period of time. Eat less raw food, and don't eat live. Chen Shi patted Fa Zheng on the shoulder and said, he had been a little sleepy recently, and according to his estimate, it seemed that natural disasters were brewing in the territory under Liu Bei's rule, but he could still bear it. Fa Zheng looked at Chen Shi, who was a little sleepy, and couldn't help but lean back, and then looked around. I didn't bring Meiji, just one Kong Ming in this, why are you so tired? Roll on. Chen Shi said with some annoyance, how old are you to start thinking about this, really? It's just strange, as for the age, it seems that you are quite old, but this guy should be the Lu Boyon you mentioned to me before, his eyes are dripping, and he looks like an elf. Fa Zheng unceremoniously picked up his shelf and said, saying that he now has this qualification, whether it is status or age. Lu Zun has seen the Prime Minister of Qi. Lu Zun hurriedly came out and bowed to Fa Zheng. It looks really good. Fa Zheng touched a few long beards that he had finally grown. I'll take you to the brothel in the evening. Fa Zheng said to the respectful and polite Lu Zun extremely fiercely. Chen Shi and Zhuge Liang's skin couldn't help but twitch twice, while Lu Zun was directly stunned. His family's door rules were extremely strict. How could he be allowed to go to that kind of Flower Street and Willow Alley? And besides, the Lu family was a high-ranking family after all, not to mention that the singers in other families were all piled up. It looks a little dull. It seems that you have never been to that kind of place. Okay, I'll take you there at night. You must be curious. Fa Zheng unscrupulously expressed his opinion. But don't be shy to go sooner or later. Snap. Fa Zheng was hit on crutches on his back. You rebellious son. Fa Zheng's father angrily hit Fa Zheng's back with a stick, directly staggering Fa Zheng. Fa Zheng didn't even look back after being beaten. He knew that it was definitely his father, and hurriedly ran out. Recently, Feiyan was very satisfied with the performance of his son in the construction of the new Lindsay city, especially when he saw the heartfelt gratitude between the eyebrows and eyes of those people. Feiyan had a feeling that his son had finally become a talent, and as a result, Fa Zheng said such shameless words in public, which made Fa Yang bear it. You dare to run. Although Feiyan said that he had a crutch, his legs and feet were actually quite dexterous, just to show that he was old, and his son was now in charge, so he took a crutch to signal. But now seeing that his son was so shameless, he was directly angry, and he wanted to beat him with a crutch. Rebel. After Fa Yang chased Fa Zheng and ran around the beam pillar several times, he knew that he couldn't chase him anymore, so he pointed at Fa Zheng angrily and scolded, Is there a maid at home? Yes. Fa Zheng replied in a low voice. Is there a singer? Feiyan continued to ask. Yes. Fa Zheng quickly replied. How much do you know about piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting? Feiyan said with a tilted beard. There are still a dozen. Fa Zheng replied cautiously. Then what are you doing in the brothel? Fa Yang asked angrily. Don't you want to think about what your identity is? What is their identity? Is that kind of place that you can set foot in? Do you want to eat at home? I'm going to see a play on this, really. You see that Bo Yang is new to me. I'll take him to see how good our best entertainment program in Taishan is. Fa Zheng quickly made up the reasons and carefully explained to Fa Yang. Chapter 494 The hottest entertainment today. The troupe can't invite you to your home. Feiyan was instantly angry. This person is talented and lively. Fa Zheng said cautiously. He could say that this was all taken by Guizhou, and no matter how good the family was, he wanted to go out to forage for food. You won't set up a table at home and call someone over? Fa Yang supported the ground with a crutch, and stabbed the ground, and the bluestone slab on the ground cracked directly, and Fa Zheng's hair exploded, and he almost forgot that his father could fight no matter what he said. This is not good, abandoning public affairs for personal reasons. Ahem, I'm a clean official. Fa Zheng coughed twice and said a little embarrassedly. Okay, the wings are hard, right, there are so many reasons to go to the brothel. Fa Yang's beard trembled, and Chen Shi and his party all looked at their noses and looked at their noses and their hearts to count ants. Dad, save me some face. Fa Zheng saw that he really couldn't stand his father's education and said with a wry smile, I'm just laughing, joking.
Do you still go to the brothel? Fayan pulled out the crutch stuck in the crack in the bluestone slab, coughed twice and asked. I'm not going. Fa Zheng bowed his head and said, silently adding in his heart, I will only turn the Chinga of the brothel into our own maid, anyway. So many maids are not every one of them. Occasionally there are a few, you won't pay attention, I don't believe you still count every day. Are you still going to the play? Fa Yang glanced at the few people who lowered their heads and counted the ants and were very satisfied. I will move the troupe to perform at home in the future. Please watch, smash the back wall for everyone to see, and have fun with the people. Fa Zheng lowered his eyebrows and said, obviously a little aggrieved. Fa Zheng's father fell in love with this entertainment show since that time when he broke ground for the city. Fa Zheng invited the branch of Man Xianglo to come over and sing a play. After all, there are very few entertainment programs in this era. An opera can be regarded as a wealthy family in the upper echelons, and it is a small commoner. However, the first-class actors and skills are all in the fragrant building, which is unique and has no semicolon, and it is not easy for others to listen to it. However, what is more pitiful is that Manxianglu is a brothel after all, and some people always have some cleanliness habits that cannot be changed. For example, Fayan will never go to the brothel. Although Fayan was a little distracted when there was a play in Manxianglu every day, the habit he had saved for decades was difficult to break, and of course, his son Farjing was not allowed to go to the brothel. However, it is obvious that Fa Zheng has gotten used to it without Fa Yang knowing. Didn't you say that you won't abolish public affairs for personal reasons? Fa Yang glanced at Fa Zheng and asked. That is not public, the thing itself is private, but we usually use it as a public property. As he spoke, Fa Zheng winked at Chen Shi. The actual backstage of Manxianglu is Chen Shi, right? Pharaoh, in Xia Chen Zichuan, Chen is the big owner of Manxianglu. You say move to you. Besides, a brothel on top of the fragrant building is actually the prejudice of others. If you don't believe me, ask Xiaoji. Those who don't do flesh business in it are just listening to music. Chen Shi had no choice but to step forward and bow. It's good to listen to the song. A cappella can cost a lot of money. Fayan couldn't help but shake his head. He had seen that crazy time. The first time he set up a stage to sing outside in the open air, and finally the next rich man offered it directly for 100 gold in order to let the other party sing another song, but he had to rap really well. It was just to find something to do for those wandering women. By the way, it's just to let the people have fun, but I don't want to make people so fascinated. A song of 100 gold. This price is a bit too much. Chen Shi tugged and said, it hasn't been a year, and the price has risen to this extent? Cut, a song of 100 gold is enough. Your three maids. Chen Yun is the most outstanding. At that time and Chen Ying played the white snake and green snake, the head of the Wu family was immediately willing to pay tens of thousands of gold to ask Liu Luo for the two of them, and then learned that it was your pillow talent who retreated and then offered 2 pieces of white jade and jade to ask for another performance. Fa Zheng curled his lips and said, now there are a total of 5 famous actors, 2 of whom have married and are no longer performing, and the remaining 3 are in your backyard. Hey, don't talk nonsense. What is my pillow person? Chen Shi raised his eyebrows and said, I didn't touch those 3. Everyone knows this, but sooner or later the maid will be the master's, and she is so good, are you willing to let it go? Fa Zhang glanced at Chen Shi contemptuously. I really can, as long as people are willing to marry, I will give her household registration. Chen Shi glanced at Fa Zhang and said, Dad, okay, now you can rest assured, I won't abolish the public for personal reasons at all. When I go back to Mount Tai, I will ask Zichuan to make a full-name corner play. Even the miscellaneous soldiers are famous actors. Fa Zhang said with some embarrassment, even if your maid is stupid and famous now, I don't know how you taught her. Fa Zhang stretched out his hand to support his father, and then patted Fa Yang on the back to give Fa Yang a good breath, and Zhuan Yang also squinted his eyes and enjoyed Fa Zhang's actions, so he looked like a father and son filial piety, and he didn't expect that a few minutes ago, Fa Yang also scolded Fa Zhang for his son. You kid, remember me, this time I will save you some face for your friend's sake. If you dare to mention it to the brothel, I will discount your legs. Fa Yang said viciously after being helped aside by Fa Zhang. Okay, I won't forget. Fa Fang said perfunctorily without changing his color, and then saw that his father's face was still a little gloomy. Don't worry, I will definitely do what I told you, and I will move that troop here when I come back. Ch, get out, don't embarrass me anymore. Fayan waved his arm, shook Farjing away, and walked towards the back room. It doesn't look easy for you. After Fa Zhang came over, Zhuge Liang sighed a little and said with some envy, my father just can't get used to my style. He was taken bad by Guo Junxia, and he brought me out to take medicine and go to the brothel to eat the overlord's meal. Fa Zhang said with little seriousness, and then thought of Guo Jiao's oppression of him, and couldn't help but tremble.
but I have to admit that this kind of life is really chic.
Don't learn from him.
Chen Shi slapped Fa Zheng on the shoulder. Learn something good, don't learn his dross.
Ha ha ha, Feng Xiao told me that he and you once had a meal with you, and he went to the brothel without giving money.
Fa Zheng wanted to go. Guo Jiao's expression couldn't help but look a little teasing at that time, while on the other side, Lu Zun's great aura of his teacher Chen Shiguang suddenly shattered to the ground, and his tall back continued to shrink.
By the way, aren't you going to marry yet?
Chen Shi looked at Lu Zun a little embarrassed. He had indeed done these things, so he asked on a more lively topic. According to age and family, it was time for a generation of noble sons like Fa Zheng to be young, rich, and high-ranking.
Don't mention this, I'm annoyed.
Fa Zheng smiled bitterly as if he had been poked in an instant. Let's go, I'll take you to eat something, don't mention marriage.
Chapter 495 Thoughts. What's wrong with this guy?
Chen, she asked puzzledly. Wouldn't it be better to find a good person to get married to? After saying that, Chen Shi looked at Zhuge Liang. This guy belongs to a person who has a wife, but does not marry a wife. Just like Zhuge Liang's sister married Pang Tong's eldest brother, Zhuge Liang himself will also marry Huang Chengyan's daughter, and the marriage between the families has long been arranged. Just like Chen, she must marry Fan Jian.
It's not that easy. The marriage I got engaged to when I was a child can't be married.
Fa Zheng smiled bitterly and said, I'm nothing. My father is quite uncomfortable.
Which one? So stupid.
Chen Shi was stunned directly, and such a family, the things that broke the contract can actually be done, and the face is gone, thinking that his family was a down-and-out mess. He himself was also a tuberculosis ghost, and Fan Liang didn't say that he would not marry Fan Jian.
Jiang family.
Fa Zheng tugged and said, Fufeng surname, I married a girl from their family when I was a child, and it was common when I was young, but well, our legalist family has declined, and they have a little refusal. Before I sent someone to pick up my father planned to bring her together, but the result. Speaking of this, Fa Zheng's eyes couldn't help but flash with a cold light. He didn't mind who the person he married was at all, but you absolutely couldn't break off the engagement, especially the way of not giving an explanation without a reason.
Liangju Jiang family? Chen Shi asked uncertainly.
The ancestral hall is in Liangju, but there are also many in Fufeng. Fa Zheng said unhappily, bully my small family, I will definitely talk to their family if I have the opportunity. Chen Shi saw the coldness under Fa Zheng's calm expression, and knew that this guy's nature was about to be exposed. Fa Zheng was originally a character who had to be retributed, and he was beaten and educated by Guo Jia for a long time before he was no longer the same as before, and now it seems to have relapsed again.
There are eyes but no beads.
Zhuge Liang shook his head and said. Although Fa Zheng often provokes trouble with him, he also admits that Fa Zheng's ability is definitely one of the best in the world. The current Fa Zheng is only 17 years old, and there are still decades to prosper legalism, and the Liangju Jiang family offended this kind of person at this time, not with eyes and no beads.
Who knows what they think?
Fa Zheng said disdainfully, if it weren't for this being too far from Shiliang, I'd definitely let the Jiang family understand how to behave. After tugging at his mouth one after another, he suddenly found that this Fa Zheng, who was about to become his new teacher, seemed a little ruthless.
Why don't you marry a concubine first?
The position of the wife hangs in the air first. Chen Shi comforted, but don't really let Fa Zheng go crazy. Basically, our group of officials in Taishan are all in the position of wives and concubines.
I have a concubine. Fa Zheng tugged and said.
At that time, his father was upset when he first talked about it. Fa Zheng found a concubine Qian to appease his father first, and then he said that his wife's affairs would not be too difficult for Fa Zheng to find as much as he wanted with the previous Jiang family's identity.
Oh, that's fine. Just look at it.
Chen Shi nodded and said, but it was obvious that this matter was definitely a thorn in Fa Zheng's heart.
Forget it. Let's not mention this.
Fa Zheng said a little gloomy, and he was very puzzled. Just his current identity, this status. There is also this ability. The Jiang family has a brain problem. He didn't say to break off the marriage. How could he think of breaking off the marriage over there? This is not reasonable at all, okay? Fa Zheng also thought at first whether the Jiang family thought that he was too fierce now, and his daughter couldn't afford to climb or anything. But when he thought about it, it was impossible, not to mention that other Jiangying played with him when he was a child. Although Fa Zheng had a strange temperament, but he was very good to his own people, and he was very nostalgic. Besides, his father is still alive. His father is still a great Confucian. How could he do that kind of thing that dislikes the poor and loves the rich? The great Confucians at the end of the Han dynasty all wanted fame and death. Not to mention this kind of thing. If Fa Zheng dared to say once in front of Fa Yang that he would not marry Jiang Ying, he would definitely be beaten to death in the ancestral hall by Fa Yang. So Fa Zheng thought about it. It is definitely not their family's problem. It can only be said that the information dissemination is too slow, and he did not enter the official position at the beginning. Otherwise the Jiang family would never be like this if they spoke with official documents. But this can be regarded as seeing through the face of the Jiang family. But it is a pity to think of Jiang Yingfajing. He has always thought that the other party will become his wife in the first 10 years. And the result is a pity. Let's go, eat something, take a break. I still have work to deal with tomorrow, so I won't go back to Mount Tai with you for now. Fa Zheng waved his hand, and the depression on his face was swept away, and he once again regained his previous indifferent look. Oh, you're going to leave after building infrastructure and landmark buildings, right? Chen Shi followed Fa Zheng towards the back room, asking as he walked. Well, I'm afraid I'm going back, and they built the city for me. Fa Zheng nodded and said, build the iconic building, and even if I go back to Mount Tai, they will have a template to follow. That's fine, then I'll leave Bo Yang with you. You remember to teach him the art of war and strategy or something. He and Kong Ming can't go together. Chen Shi patted Lu Zun and said, don't underestimate him, he's very smart. Oh, then stay with me, I have nothing to do. Take him to build a city, and you will understand if you see more. Fa Zheng looked sideways at Lu Zun, who bowed to him, and nodded. Does Kong Ming want to go back and continue his studies? Tiske. If this continues, when he comes out as a minor official, I may have to govern the government affairs of a state. I will go back to deal with the government affairs of various states and counties with Lu Zijing, and by the way, carry out long-term planning. Maybe some of the things you will do in the future are my plans. Zhuge Liangyun's light statement made Fa Zheng choke half to death, and he couldn't help but look sideways at Chen Shi to confirm the authenticity of these words. HMPH, I'll go back to Mount Tai after a while. Although it may be to start Lu Su at the beginning, but with Zhuge Liang's talent, it is estimated that it will not take long for Lu Su to delegate power and hand over some simple government affairs to Zhuge Liang to handle. This kind of thing Fa Zheng is very sure. After all, he and Zhuge Liang have been fighting for a long time, and neither side has taken advantage. Well, you'll have to go back sooner or later. To be precise, everyone needs to get together soon. Chen Shi said with a smile, and Fa Zheng instantly understood the meaning of Chen Shi's words, and finally began to rub and make a preliminary warm-up for the final Northern Merger Yuan Shao plan. Okay, today I won't talk about political affairs, only talk about the wind and moon. The banquet will start, and the songs and dances will be played together. Fa Zheng entered the main hall and laughed and arranged, watching a new city gradually build little by little. In addition to excitement, and the fatigue of maintaining official authority in front of people, no one dared to indulge with him, and today he can finally put down his mask and have a good rest. Chapter 496 Current Technical Scraping Plan. Chen Shi, who ate Fajing, didn't feel distressed at all. No matter if he was a singer and dancer, Chen Shi was a comer, but then again, Fajing's chef cooked well. ***. This is also for you. Chen Shi handed the small plate on his table to the small table of Lu Zun, who was waving chopsticks next to him, and it was obvious that Lu Zun, who used to eat stew every day, was very satisfied with the novel way of eating stir-frying. Oh, thank you, master. Lu Zun stopped his chopsticks and said respectfully. You're welcome, if you like it. Xiaoji will have another one. Chen Shi pointed to the table and said, give him fried rice, don't come to steamed buns, he may not be used to eating, all kinds of dishes are ordered, Bo Yang likes this way of eating very much. Fa Zheng waved to the side, and quickly replaced Lu Zun's small table, and then set up a table with small plates and bowls of various dishes. No. Lu Zun hesitated a little whether he was finishing here. Eat with confidence, my father and your parents and grandfather have already had a banquet, and the opera after that has been arranged. Fa Zheng saw through Lu Zun's hesitation at a glance, so he said with a smile. Originally, according to his identity, Fa Zheng and Chen Shi should have gone to entertain the Lu family, but unfortunately Fa Zheng felt that he was not old enough, so he asked his father to entertain the Lu family on his behalf, and he entertained Zhuge Liang and others. After naturally, Feian went, it would be a little inappropriate for Chen Shi to sit as a companion, so he divided it into two tables. The main banquet was in the main hall, and their party was in the main hall, but in this way, this group of people had no scruples. Thank you. Lu Zun respectfully bowed to Fa Zheng, and the life etiquette instilled since childhood was vividly expressed at this moment. You're welcome. In the future, you will find that eating every day is nothing. Fa Zheng smiled and said, many things change your habits subtly. No matter how good things are, when you get used to them, you will ignore them, and soon you will get used to living now. Yo, Xiaoji, you can say such a thing too. Chen Shi smiled and said, yes, subtle is the most terrifying, little by little changes your thinking pattern, and gradually makes you get used to a life that was difficult to get used to before. This is what I summarized from my lord. Fa Zheng said with a smile.
Even if the former lord was in a high position and sat on one side, he had a little bit of a small family in his bones. And now it has gradually become more atmospheric, and I don't care about temporary gains and losses as before. Certainly, it has been like this since ancient times. By the way, did Yuan Benchu send the beautiful horse? Chen Shi nodded. Then he asked curiously. It's sent, the beauty is quite beautiful, so forget about the good horse. Fa Zhang curled his lips and said, Yuan Benchu was not a fool, on the contrary, he could say that he was one of the few male lords in the world, and naturally knew what could and could not be sent, and the beauty could not increase his combat effectiveness by sending it. BMW, on the other hand, can increase the enemy's combat effectiveness in this way. Although the horses sent over are good, there is still a lot of gap between the mounts as top generals. Yuan Benchu is not so easy to deceive. What about strange and obscene things? Chen Shi asked curiously, for example, the curiosities of the former Han dynasty. There are many. Zhongshangshu seismograph and armillary sphere were sent over during the reign of Emperor He, as well as some self-propelled boats made by the masters of the former Han dynasty, as well as birds, and the rest are also some gold and jade toys. Fa Zhang shook his head and said, except for the seismograph, the armillary sphere is a bit useful, the others are some playthings that kill the mind, you are sure nothing will happen. What about wheel pods, drum carts, and so-called flying things? Chen Shi asked curiously. After all, the armillary sphere has been sent, and the rest will not be less. These things seem to be useless, but in fact they have a high technological content. The wings of the flying sky are gone, but the drum cart and wheel pods are there. Are you useful? Don't play with things and lose your mind. Fa Zhang said curiously, the plaything is not a joke, although Zheng Hun admires it quite a bit, but it is obvious that for Fa Zhang, the other party belongs to the typical plaything loss, and a good talent is invested in how to create, and the result is useless. Some things are just that he studied in the wrong direction. Chen Shi tugged and said, he really didn't want to complain about Zhong Hang. Take the wheel pod as an example. That thing claims to have been error-free for decades. Well, it should be said that the accuracy of the things made by Zhong Heng is very high, and the leaky armillary sphere is said to have the same accuracy as the stars of the week, which means that as long as this thing is not destroyed, the time accuracy is no problem. Why should such an accurate thing be used as a calendar? Can you make it into a clock and die? Isn't it just to display the degree of sliding at each moment, which is already equal to 0 compared to the previous difficulty coefficient? Besides, there is such a thing as a wooden walking horse. It should be said that this is obviously the result of the crooked technology tree. The use of machinery in it is against the sky. The large equipment you use to make ships is much better than those that make people funny. There is also a guide car, not to mention whether it is allowed or not. The automatic clutch gear technology is pointed out of which technology tree. With this technology tree, many agricultural tools can be manufactured, and as a result, Zhong Heng used this high-end black technology to restore the small toy of the guide car, proving that he could achieve the level of the sages of the Shenyuan Yellow Emperor era, and then it was lost. Just like that. Oh, whatever you want, you can go back to Mount Tai and ask Zijing. He collected all the things that were not very suitable. Although Fa Zhang didn't understand Chen Shi's meaning very well, he also understood that Chen Shi had a way to deal with it. In fact, Chen Shi knew early on that in addition to the beauties, what was sent would probably be some corrupt Liu Bei's materials, but most of these things in ancient times were some black technology, which was of great research value. For example, studying Zhong Heng's gear technology could improve many existing tools, but unfortunately many people did not notice this aspect. After all, there are many things that Chen Shi knows, but limited to the current social development and current technology. Even if Chen Shi points out the verbal points, he cannot make them, so finding similar means in ancient times has become the most time-saving and labor-saving way. After all, there are many technologies in ancient China that have been passed down and gone. For example, drying salt. This technology was born during the Shennong period, and then matured in the early years of the Western Han dynasty. But because a certain prince and king rebelled with this technology was officially blocked, and then strictly investigated for more than 100 years, and finally successfully lost. For example, glass. There was mature glass technology in the early spring and autumn period, but due to the influence on the semi-porcelain of the Chu state at that time, that is, the interests of something that was not considered porcelain, but far closer than the original pottery, were directly blocked, and the technology was all gone, leaving the physical object as the collection of the aristocracy at that time. Chapter 497. There are always strange people. For example, the cow nose piercing was there before the Pre-Qin dynasty, but the Han dynasty was gone, and then the Jin dynasty had it, and the Tang dynasty was gone. What Chen Shi has to do now is to collect those inexplicable technologies and break them on the right path, not to mention anything else. At least in his eyes, he can at least see a better way to use these black technologies. As for materials or something, there is a technology in this world that is darker than black technology called warming.
So as long as the technology is high, materials are definitely not a problem, and the top black technology warmth meets all your needs. Of course, this is a bit exaggerated, but generally speaking, most of the technologies that can be used in this era, materials may not be a problem for this era. If you are really useful, I can help you collect some. There are people in Chi who like to collect these things, but now the hobby has become watching dramas. Fa Zheng curled his lips and said, there was a local tyrant in Chi who used to like to collect this kind of material that was not precious, but very fun. Oh, there is such a person. Then I will go with you when the time comes. Chen Shi nodded and said, he was very interested in ancient curiosities. After all, sometimes the scientific and technological content in them was quite high. Well, then you can leave tomorrow afternoon, and you are not in a hurry at this time. As long as Xuandagong's order is not dead, the order is very flexible. Fa Zheng nodded and said, and then motioned for the song and dance to leave. After the wine and food were full, it was almost in the middle of the moon, and Fa Zheng had ordered someone to inform Mang Xianglu that the opera was ready. On the other side, Feiyan and the others were also guests. There is a lot to say between the old man, whether it is talking about the customs of various places more than 10 years ago, or quoting and arguing the scourge of the party confinement of that year. Fa Yang and Lu Kang both have a feeling of cherishing each other. After all, they are also erudite people, and both sides have gained a lot after some discussion. In other words, both Feiyan and Lu Kang are already over 70 years old, and they both have a very young son. Lu Kang's eldest son is only 30 years old, the second son Lu Ji is only 10 years old, and Feiyan's eldest son Fa Zheng is only 18 years old. Both of them have a feeling that they are getting older. You must know that it is also a skill to have a son in the family in this era, and Zhuo Ci's ability to leave a name in the world is more because this person is a master of the art of the room, such as Sima Fang. Before Sima Yi became famous, Sima Fang was known for having 8 sons, and it seems that this person also had Sima Minute in his 60s. Should it be said that it is gratifying? Brother Ji Ning is invited. Fa Yang smiled and made a gesture of invitation to Lu Kang. I didn't want Lu Kang to make a please. Please also ask Brother Ji Mao to go first. The guest is at his disposal. How can I go first? Ha ha ha. Fa Yang stretched out his hand and pulled Lu Kang's arm. It's not good for the two of us to push and push over in front of people, so it's better to go together. In that case, it is better to obey than to be respectful. Lu Kang also laughed. Speaking of Lu Kang, he was quite shocked when he first entered Linzi New City, and when he saw Fa Zheng, he knew that Fa Zheng was not only a genius, but also a celebrity in front of Liu Xuanda. Otherwise, it would be impossible to hand over such an important matter to Fa Zheng to deal with, compared to previous rumors. Lu Kang saw it with his own eyes and felt even more shocked. After seeing Feiyan, Lu Kang naturally did not dare to rely on his identity, but deliberately met Feiyan in his intention, so how could he not be a guest and host? The moonlit night at the end of summer was cloudless, and the bright moon was like a wheel, so that the torches originally prepared had no value, and the backyard of the post station also smashed the back wall directly as Fa Zheng had arranged before, and set up the stage here. The people of Linzi, who learned that there was an open-air theatre here, prepared early, and also for the sake of safety, Fa Zheng also had to mobilize the Tunchen soldiers to patrol around, and when Chen Shi and his party arrived here, it could almost be said that there were crowds of people, and there were heads everywhere at a glance. So many people. Chen Shi tugged and said, I doubt that the people behind me can hear it. Then frowned, and this safety cannot be guaranteed. What if there is a stampede? Cut, drinking saliva can choke people to death, not to mention watching a play. Don't look at the crowd every time. So many times I haven't seen an accident. There are many Tunchen soldiers to maintain discipline, and no one dares to make trouble. In the past, these girls sang loudly, they still made trouble, they couldn't hear it at all, and then who dared to open their mouths to make trouble, beat him together. Fa Zheng curled his lips and said, so powerful? Lu Zun said in surprise, this actually attracted so many people, it's amazing. Cut, there is something more powerful. Fa Zheng tugged and said, Man Benning has set a new law, that is, as long as anyone who causes public outrage among the people is killed, it is not guilty, so you know. This can be regarded as public anger. Chen Shi tugged and said, if I had known that there were so many people, I should have built a theatre. It makes sense. Okay, let's build Linzi first. Anyway, we are building a new city, so I always feel that Mang Xianglu is a little wrong. Fa Zheng has been with Chen Shi for a long time, and he also knows what specialization is, and instantly derives a series of meanings from Chen Shi's unintentional words. I see, the tea house that sells tea is one kind of facility, the restaurant where the banquet is held is another facility, and the tavern has become other facilities. No wonder, the singing naturally has its own building. I have been singing in the brothel before, no wonder I always feel that something is wrong there. Zhuge Liang also reacted. It was obvious that Zhuge Liang's sensitivity to these things was not as good as Fa Zheng's. The binding force of conventions is more effective than laws and regulations, so now Burning is writing those reasonable conventions into the trial law, and it is obvious that the effect is good. Fa Zheng smiled and said. Seeing Lu Xun covering his mouth, for fear of arousing public anger, Fa Zheng smiled and comforted. But it doesn't matter if you speak quietly now. Someone left a set of methods for using anger after watching the play, saying that he was very satisfied with the play, but the voice was too small, so he left such a method. Speaking of this, Fa Zheng stopped speaking, until Zhuge Liang opened his mouth to ask before continuing. That method can expand the sound to more than 300 steps to be heard, and what is even more amazing is that it is not deafening, but the sound is the same size within the range of more than 300 steps. This is all at the level of secret arts. Chen Shi tugged and said, which master is so boring? I don't know, I only left a song on the bamboo slip. He said that he would come to listen to the music if he had the opportunity in the future, hoping to leave him a place, and then he said that he was going to kill people in the Jiangdong area. Fa Zheng shrugged his shoulders indifferently and said. Chapter 498, a certain version of the divine drama. Chen Shi's face twitched twice, and finally he didn't speak. He had already guessed who the other party was, if according to a certain version, this was also one of the top masters in the world. But if he thought about it, only a master of this level could calmly come up with this secret method in return. Soon after the crowd settled down, the opera was officially started. Chen Shi swept over. No one knew him. But it was right to think about it. No matter how loose the conditions he gave to the maids, it was impossible to really let them go out of the city to perform according to the simple mentality, not only identity issues, but also safety issues. Chen Shi looked at the two women who came up and knew what they were doing. But it was said that Chen Shi was looking for something to do for the women under Liu Luo at the beginning, so that the convention became an opera only for women to sing. But what about Fahai? Could it be that Fahai has also become a nun? This is really a big idea. Hey, Zichuan, your expression is simply waiting now. What are you waiting for? When the curtain rested, Fa Zheng also cleaned up his mood, and inadvertently stared at Chen Shi's expression, so he asked with interest. Wait for Fahai. Chen Shi was startled, and then replied with a smile, thinking about the female version of Fahai or something. In fact, Chen Shi is also quite curious now. The girl who plays the White Lady really has a trace of dusty temperament. Oh, Master Fahai, this is a master. Fa Zheng said in a low voice, let me tell you, I have no interest in Bai Suzhen, but I really admire this Taoist priest. This is the true Taoist priest. Bai Suzhen flooded the Golden Mountain or something. It is simply too immoral. Sure enough, he deserved to be killed. Pay attention. Has anyone next to you seen it yet? Zhuge Liang pointed to Lu Xun, whose eyes were shining, and said, sure enough. In an era when this kind of entertainment program was very poor, Lu Xun, who came into contact for the first time, really liked it very much, and then looked at old Mrs. Lu, and Lu Jun also looked preoccupied. Do you say it again? Chen Shi pouted his ears and said, Fahai is a Taoist priest, who wrote the script for this. Didn't you write it? Fahai was the boy who sat down with the Taiching moral heavenly venerable, and then because his mind was restless, was beaten down by the heavenly venerable to understand the red dust in order to transcend the 3 realms and 6 realms. Fa Zheng asked puzzled. When did I write such a ridiculous script? Chen Shi tugged and said, and how could Bai Suzhen be killed? She is the apprentice of Lishan's mother, and she went down the mountain just to repay her wish. And who else is there? What about the god of wealth? Didn't he reincarnate as Bai Suzhen's son? Didn't he become prime minister after that, and save his parents 20 years later? Then his parents became immortals. What kind of plot are you? Fa Zheng tugged and said, how could a god be reincarnated as the son of a monster? And there is obviously something wrong with her wishes. This is harming people. I just want to know who wrote the plot. Destroy the original. Chen Shi said with a tangled face. How can this kind of plot deceive tears? What kind of tears are you liking? How good? The monster is dead. The Taoist priest has ascended to the throat. Xu Xian has entered the Fahai gate, and sooner or later he will become an immortal. Fa Zheng's big eyes flashed in confusion and asked Chen Shi, in his opinion, where is Chen Shi dissatisfied with this proper perfect plot? I want to know now who changed my plot so strangely. Chen Shi asked with a dark face. This is not the plot he wrote at the beginning, right? The original version must have been written by you, and the later one must have been passed down by your family. At most, it is polished, but thinking about your previous plot, and then thinking about this, I think you should ask your wife and concubines to help you find someone to polish it in the future. Fa Zheng mercilessly gave Chen Shi a painful blow, and in addition to Lu Xun, whose cheeks were red and his small fists were clenched, Chen Shi knew that it seemed that this plot was in line with the Han Dynasty's view of right and wrong and aesthetics. I'll go, if this version, my Chen Yun and Chen Ying won't be hacked to death. Chen Shi tugged and said, according to the current enthusiasm of these audiences, how could Chen Yun and Chen Ying be better? Cut. At that time I played the version you said, Chen Yun, who passed away, and the naive and unruly Chen Ying deceived the tears of the Taishan people, and then your wife was bored and went to see it, and asked her to change the script to this way, but I think this is still in line with reality. Fa Zheng curled his lips and said, looking like he didn't care. In fact, Fa Zheng was very concerned. He was deceived at the beginning. He would never tell Chen Shi this kind of thing, so he agreed very much to the revision. The previous version was too tear-jerking, but thinking about that version of the plot is still fresh in my memory. Jenna. Chen Shi tugged. After that, Yuna and Yinga won't go out to perform operas. Oh, it seems that they rarely perform, but I hope they will perform again, although the script changed by CIDA is graceful. But it is not as good as your earliest plot. I heard that you asked CAI to fill in the rhetoric at the beginning, right? Fa Zheng asked curiously. Chen Shi said absent-mindedly. He knew very well what was going on with Chen Yun and Chen Ying, and he knew with his toes that he was worried that Chen Yun and Chen Ying were worried that Chen Yun and Chen Ying would become more and more famous, and finally be taken into the room by Chen Shi. After all, the maid in this era was also a kind of pillow person. However, Chen Shi is not worried that the traditional will embarrass Chen Yun and Chen Ying. At most they will not participate in the performance for a short time, just stay at home obediently, and there will be no restraint on the rest, not to mention that there will be no accident with Chen Lan. Chen Shi understood early on that the traditional and simple was only because his status was getting higher and higher, and some gathered less and left more, worried about losing his favor, but he didn't have any bad intentions. For this situation Chen Shi really didn't know what to do. The best way was to accompany her to make her feel at ease. Forget it, go back and spend more time with them. But in the environment of the inner courtyard, no matter how complex and simple it is, you won't feel at ease. Chen Shi thought speechlessly that in addition to himself, he also had a wife and a concubine in the inner courtyard of his family, and the rest were all maids, and normally no man entered the inner courtyard. Why don't you chase a few? Then Chen Shi gave up. This is not a good idea at all. As for waiting for these maids to marry, Chen Shi can only fantasize. As far as the Chen family's degree of relaxation, if they don't wait for their sweetheart, it is better to stay in the Chen family. At least the traditional and simple heart is not bad, will not deliberately find trouble for them. The Chen family is also a pretty good destination. And Chen Shi dares to guarantee that there must be someone waiting for Chen Shi to kiss Fangzi. Inside. At the end of the song, as Fa Zheng said, the white snake died, the green snake helped the tyranny and was crushed under the river. Fahai's merit successfully ascended to the heavens. Xu Xian had no intention of doing anything, and saw through the red dust and aspired to become an immortal. Chapter 499. A virtuous person comes from afar. At the end of the song, Lu Xun was still waiting for the next play with great interest, and the people of Lindsay were the same, but after a long time, no one came on stage, and the people below understood that the opera was over. That's it. I still want to see Xu Hanwen succeed in cultivating and killing the green snake as well. Lu Xun looked at Fa Zheng unhappily and said, it's too much to end like this. Snap. Lu Xun was slapped twice. Chen Shi was dissatisfied with Lu Xun's unsympathetic expression that he wanted to kill the green snake, and Fa Zheng was unhappy. The Legend of the White Snake is already a rare long-form play. You are actually too short. Is there anything else? Fa Yang sat for a long time, and he didn't bother to stand up, so he directly stretched out his crutches and asked at Fa Zheng's feet. This track is over, so I invited one. This is a rare long drama. Look at the sky. Fa Zheng pointed to the full moon that was already close to the center, and it was now high o'clock. Oh, this song is good, but since it's over, let's slowly disperse the people. Don't have any accidents. Fa Yang stood up with a cane, and then smiled and made a gesture of invitation to Lu Kang. Fa Zheng tugged, and the Tunchen soldiers who had originally inserted it in vertical orders began to guide the people in order, and it didn't take much time for most of the originally dense figures to disappear. This Qi state Xiangfa Xiaoji is indeed not simple. A little old man who looked like he was in his 50s and looked in the direction of Fa Zheng and sighed. It's only a double 10 years old, and it's only been a year since I ruled the state of Qi, and the state of Qi can be described as living in peace. I don't know how amazing Chen Shi, who is called a wizard, will be. They are all very powerful, much better than when we were young. A man in green clothes next to him said with a smile. What Kong Wenju said is indeed correct, so I don't know what happened to Liu Xuanda. HMH. Do you still want to pursue an official position? A little old man with grey hair said. How can money and official positions be important for the people to live in peace? Do you want to be intoxicated by prosperity? If you don't hold a high position, how can you show your talent and save more people? And virtue can be influenced, but I believe that the government is trustworthy and the people are submitted. Moreover, how long can a person's virtue and a person's trust last? The man in green clothes glanced at the grey-haired little old man unhappily and said, I can do it for a day. It's better to go for a day than to pursue an official position and get nothing. The white-haired little old man said calmly, what's more, even if the people are ignorant, as long as they are educated to make them virtuous. This world can also be governed for a long time. HMPH. As for education, I believe in the law more, and the harmony of virtue and law is the foundation of long-term governance, not to mention that there must be yin and yang in the world, both virtue and virtue are ordinary people. How many people can you educate? The man in green clothes said with a sneer. Learning is endless. If you don't learn, you can't influence the people of the world. Isn't it influenced? The grey-haired little old man said with a flat expression, as if he didn't take everything to heart. The little old man standing between the two looked at the two guys in their 40s with such a calm expression. For him had been accustomed to the situation of these two guys debating when they met for many years. Okay, let's rest. The little old man standing in the middle plucked out his ears and said, it seems that the time of this battle is a little too long. What is the situation? Cheng H, I won't fight with you. You and I are equally knowledgeable, and our will is also a firm person. If you want to prove right from wrong, then you can only speak with facts. I and the three of us came from Liaodong. In addition to being entrusted by Kong Wonju, I am afraid that we also have the intention of seeing Liu Xuanda in it. In that case, then don't fight, leave it to Liu Xuanda to evaluate. The man in green snorted coldly. He knew very well that it was difficult for him or the other party to be convinced. We'll see. As I said at the beginning, I will be my teacher, you will be your little official, and right and wrong will be judged by future generations. The white-haired little old man said calmly, and walked towards the inn in the city. The man in green clothes shook his head, did not take the stubble, and followed directly. He was thinking about when and what opportunity to contact Fa Zhang. He did not want to contact Liu Bei too early. What he hoped was to rely on his own ability to enter Liu Bei's eyes, rather than the so-called exceptional promotion because of fame. Early the next morning, Chen Shi washed up casually and went to look for Fa Zhang. Bell, bell. Chen Shi's manic knock on the door. He saw it clearly yesterday. Fa Zhang is not resting alone, thinking that he was harassed by Fa Zhang many times at the beginning, and now he finally has the opportunity to return it. Who? Don't you let people rest early in the morning, disturbing people's dreams. Fa Zhangda was in his arms in the morning, and was about to kiss Fangzhe when he heard a manic knock on the door, and suddenly felt extremely depressed, so he yelled at the door. Young master, leave him alone. The concubine in Fa Zhang's arms said a little depressedly. I guess it's only Chen Zichuan, that guy. Fa Zhang said with a wry smile, you continue to rest, I'll go out and talk to him, this guy really holds a grudge. I will serve you to dress and wash and comb. Saying that, the concubine also got up, and then winked at the two maids on the side, signaling them to bring the clothes over. Soon Fa Zhang changed his clothes and came out, but his eyes were obviously a little swollen. He yawned, and waved to Chen Shi standing outside the door. You really hold a grudge, I knew that I would arrange a maid for you yesterday. Speaking of this kind of stay, Fa Zhang should normally arrange a maid for Chen Shi, but due to Chen Shi's style, this arrangement was turned off, but looking at this situation in the morning, Fa Zhang regretted it a little. TSK, TSK. Chen Shi looked left and right around Fa Zhang with interest. I didn't see it. Okay, you have to leave in the afternoon, so don't use this boring way. Fa Zhang said unmovedly, his skin has been honed very thick now, and Chen Shi's way is completely unhindered. You guy. Chen Shi raised his eyebrows. Really, if you don't learn from Feng Xiao well, you will learn some dross. Dregs are just misplaced good things. That's what you said. Fa Zhang said indifferently, he is now quite a bit of Guo Jiao's thunderous momentum, and no one can stop him if he wants to go to the brothel. Chen Shi shook his head, a little helpless for Fa Zhang. Sure enough, people who just fell asleep in the morning are always a little dull, their skin is a little thick, and many things can be ignored. When Chen Shi and Fa Zhang pushed the door and walked out of the moon gate, Zhuge Liang, who was originally reading under the stone platform on the side, also closed the book and followed. Compared with Chen Shi and Fa Zhang, who were lazy people who could sleep until noon, Zhuge Liang got up and read books every day, although he had already read these books, but there was a sentence that Zhuge Liang firmly believed in reviewing the old and knowing the new. After walking a section and turning an alley, Chen Shi listened curiously to the sound of reading in his ears, looked sideways at Fa Zhang. The education popularization plan has not yet been popularized to Lindsay, and the second stage has not yet begun. Chapter 500 Teaching According to Aptitude. Don't look at me like that, I'm not at the point of being selfless yet, and it's not something I can do to build the academy with my own money. Fa Zhang glanced at the courtyard where the sound of reading came. Maybe there are great good people. Zhuge Liang glanced at Fei Zheng and didn't speak, but the look of Fei Zheng also knew what it meant. In this era, there are good people building porridge sheds, and there are good people repairing bridges and roads, but if you want to build an academy, it is unlikely that it will be possible. One is not so far away, and the other is not much use to build, at most his own children plus book boys and playmates. Cut. Maybe there is a great Confucian in a good mood. Fei Zheng argued strongly. Zhuge Liang curled his lips. Dayu is in a good mood. Dayu teaches students to teach 14 or 15 years old, and the voices that come over are all old children. Meng Shuo is now taught by himself, okay? Go in and take a look. Chen Shi shook his head and walked in the direction of the academy, and when he got closer, Chen Shi also heard clearly what was being said inside, and I have to say that the 1,000-character text used by Chen Shi during Enlightenment has been popularized. TSK, the Confucian scholar who lectures is good. Fei Zheng listened to 2 sentences and said in a low voice. It's not just good, although I don't know which of the children below are from, but from his questioning and teaching method, it can be said that he teaches students according to their aptitude, and the great Confucians also have boring times. Zhuge Liang said in a low voice. He and Fei Zheng didn't know much about whether they were great Confucians or not. After listening to the morning class, go in and take a look, Xiaoji. If this master has a good teaching level, you can hire him then. Chen Shi straightened up and asked in a low voice. If it were really a great Confucian, these children would be home at about the same time. Speaking of Liu Bei's wish, Chen Shi made a lot of preparations. After all, the times are different, and some things have to be considered, so Chen Shi needs to plan many things before they start popularizing education. The children of poor families were in charge of the family early, which was not a joke in the Han Dynasty, and there were not a few wealthy families who got married and started a family at the age of 17 or 18, but they were placed in poor families. I have been married and have children for a long time, and children of 7 or 8 years old are also very important laborious at home. At least you can do small work. Chen Shi can't force this situation. After all, you can't let people gamble desperately for a reading and literacy, and then the whole family has problems, so Chen Shi can only say that he is on vacation when most farmers are busy. Most of the classes are held when they are not busy, so that they are from the hour of the rabbit to the hour of the hour and the hour of the hour from the hour of the hour to the hour of the hour, and then the whole day is held during the worst time in summer and winter. As for Sanju, it's all drizzle in the dog days. Compared to working at home, it's very easy to go to school, and it's also taken care of 2 meals. Of course, you can't let it waste food if you don't pass it. Finally, hearing the sound of school dismissal, Chen Shi looked sideways at the sky before it was still o'clock. It is estimated that the other party has the same considerations as him, and then the backyard door opens without waiting for him to knock on the door. A little girl who looked only 10 years old poked her head out with pigtails. Hey, there are really people. Grandfather, please go in. The little girl looked at the 3 of them curiously before opening the backyard door and bowing to the 3 of them. Thank you, young lady, for opening the door. Chen Shi said with a smile, and then strode inside. Looking at the stone platforms and stone benches placed in the courtyard, Chen Shi naturally understood that the ruddy little old man sitting in the main seat now had taught those children before, but looking at the courtyard, the other party was not a rich and noble person. Before Chen Shi reported home. The other party waved his hand. Sit down, Marquis Chen, Fa Xianghua. The old man has inconvenient legs and feet. Chen Shi raised his eyebrows, and then a smile appeared on his face, and he waved at Zhuge Liang. Uncle can look away, there are not only me and Xiaoji here, Kongming tilde. Zhuge Liang smiled bitterly, stepped forward and bowed to his old man, Langye Zhuge Kongming. Langye Zhuge. The old man touched his beard. Oh, I don't know which Zhuge clan you are, but you will definitely surpass your ancestors in the future. You should put down some things to specialize in internal affairs. You're good at internal affairs. Maybe you govern the army, coordinate, plan, military strategy as long as you work a little hard to become a temporary talent, and even your all-round development can make people feel shocked. But the one next to you is more comprehensive than you. Chen Shi raised his eyebrows. What is the situation of this guy? He can actually say such a thing, but even Chen Shi has to admit that Zhuge Liang should indeed refine internal affairs, which is why he is ready to hand it over to Lu Su for discipline, because Chen Shi also feels that Zhuge Liang is definitely not a bunch of opponents if he is better than Chimo. History has clearly told Chen Shi that Zhuge Liang's command of the army is stable, but it is stable, and it is okay to deal with ordinary people when the strength is not superior, but it is really not good to deal with some people. It is not easy to win, and it is also difficult to lose. On the contrary, Zhuge Liang's internal affairs are very good, the absolute top in the world. This is still because he spent a lot of time learning other things, otherwise it would definitely be more terrifying. But now this is not Chen Shi's words, it is an old man who is meeting for the first time, and Chen Shi dares to guarantee that he and Zhuge Liang are seeing each other for the first time. Seeing that Zhuge Liang did not speak, the old man set his sights on Fa Zheng, Fa Xianghua. You are probably the top resourceful person in the world. You have few paths to choose from, there is no distraction, but the heart is too small. If you still have the current heart in the future, I am afraid it will be difficult for you to erase the biggest shadow in your heart. You should go and see more about the difference between the lives of the people and the wealthy merchants. Ife's face darkened, but he didn't say anything. He knew what his biggest obsession was. There was that shadow. When he did something, he would inevitably think back to that person. Naturally, he would think twice. But it was not easy to erase that shadow. He calculated the other party, and as a result, he was played with by the other party. And it was estimated that it would be impossible to erase it if it did not exceed the other party. When the other party said this, Chen Shi was even more curious. Fa Zheng had never shown his careful eye, but now he is quite second. But Guo Jiao once told Chen Shi that Fa Zheng was quite vindicated, which made Chen Shi very sure that Fa Zheng was still the original mind, but he was deeply impressed by Guo Jiao in some way, and he was suppressed.
Oh, what about me?
Chen Shi asked curiously. The old man pointed out the most suitable way for the two of them, and also pointed out the solution, and also gave me some guidance, which I was also very annoyed with. The old man smiled. Chen Hu, your troubles are not solved by the old man. My eyes can see a person's qualifications clearly, and I can also feel the nature of others, and know how to educate others. But Chen Hu, you have been fixed, and although your heart is not very good, it is not something I can point out. After saying that, the old man's complexion dropped a bit.
Oh, that's fine.
Chen Shi nodded. But listen to what the old man meant. Are you some kind of ability similar to spiritual talent?
Chapter 501 A word breaks the sky.
Yes, an inexplicable ability, very strange. One day when I was reading a book, I suddenly found that I could observe other people's materials, and then I consulted a lot of ancient books, and finally determined that this was the result of essential sublimation.
The old man said with a smile. Well, it should be. Chen Shi nodded. It came naturally.
I guess so, but it's far from what you wait. You are still very young. The old man smiled and said, Kong Wenju invited me to come to Mount Tai to take a look, and I met many people with extraordinary intelligence along the way, but there are very few who can compare with the three of you. He is a genius of heaven. How can he allow others to be comparable, the pride of heaven, unique? Chen Shi said loudly, he himself has 1,000 years of heritage, and the two people behind him are rare geniuses, as they should be. Indeed, this is your time. I went to Chenliu to meet a person before, a man who was called an all-rounder in our time, and his glory covered that era back then. The old man said with a look of remembrance on his face, but now it is already in its twilight years, and it is difficult to have the original glory. Let me tell you a good news, he is very optimistic about Liu Xuande.
Zun's 8 dragons. Ci Ming is unparalleled.
Chen Shi gritted his teeth and said, the only one who could be called an all-rounder in the last era and covered the glory of the entire era was Zun Shuang, the figure who surpassed that era in terms of knowledge and vision. Yes, it's him. I think he didn't have the level of you at the beginning. He didn't realize his spiritual talent until he was over 30 years old. The old man smiled and said, your talent is more terrifying than his.
Chen Shi didn't speak,
but secretly began to speculate about the identity of this person. It was an accident that Zun Shuang did not die, and the reason was because Dong Zhuo was not successfully recruited in this life. But if Hua Tuo didn't slip across the line, Zun Shuang shouldn't have a few years to live. Chen Hu doesn't have to care about me, a bad old man, although he has a thin name, but he doesn't have any bad thoughts about Liu Xuande. On the contrary, I admire his great wish, no matter whether he can fulfill it or not, but daring to say that sentence taught when young in front of the people of the world is enough for me to admire. After all, the old man is also a highly intelligent person. And Chen Shi's expression was not hidden, and the other party naturally saw through what Chen Shi thought at a glance. Then I don't know what the old man has to say. Chen Shi said calmly, I can know Zun Sikong. And so familiar, he must also be the leader of that era, and now there are probably not many people who can become guests of Zun Sikong. I don't believe it, Tilda. Chen Hu doesn't have to doubt my thoughts. I will not be an official, I will only find a place to teach, and I will bring all my students who are suitable for teaching, leave everything I have learned, and help Xuande Gong to help Xuande Gong. I really want to see what the era of reading is like. The old man's words were sonorous and powerful. In that case, then it is not difficult for me to be an old man. Chen Shi nodded and said, anyway, he would have to investigate the identity of the other party when he turned back. Siming's body is not good. If it's okay now, he will come, and he also wants to see what the era when everyone is like a dragon is like, but it's a pity, those who want to come are old and can't walk. Saying that, the old man here looked a little complacent, only he was in good health. Time is not forgiving. Something that can't be helped. Chen Shi said calmly, I want to know why Zun Sikong is suddenly optimistic about Xian Di Gong. If I remember correctly, as far as I know, Zun Sikong was not optimistic about us before. Hey, that guy Siming is just hard-mouthed. He really didn't like you at first, but as the founder of Yingchuan Academy, do you think he doesn't want to do what you are doing now? The old man laughed and said, he wants to, but he can't do it. Just one Yingchuan Academy spent most of Siming's savings. Not to mention a county and a state, and even the world. When it came to the last game, there was obviously a hint of fanaticism in the old man's voice, and if nothing else, this guy would be Liu Xuanda's fanaticism in the future. Normal, with his inefficient teaching method, it's not bad if he didn't smash the Zun family.
Chen, she said calmly.
Yes, I can't afford to read. This is still Siming pulled down his face and borrowed thousands of books everywhere to have a foundation, and later with your Chen family's partner, it can be regarded as being able to open an academy. The old man smiled and said, money, food and books, this is the biggest problem, and you solved it. Siming was very happy. He said he would try to live until he could see that day come. As long as his Zun family joins us, we can save a lot of effort. Chen Shi tugged and said, you tell him that as long as he tricks Zun Wenruo and Zun Gongda home, and then calls Cheng Zhongda, a teacher at Yingchuan Academy, back, and then gives an order to the auditor Shi Jizai, and finally knocks them all out, puts them in sacks and sends them to us, guaranteeing that we will see the prosperous world soon. Ha ha ha, it's really a good idea. I can talk to Siming. The old man laughed. His expression was not mocking, but he had an expression that should be like this. Your spiritual talent is an important reason why we are optimistic about Liu Xuanda, and we don't expect eternal prosperity. As long as 50 years, let us witness the era that everyone is like a dragon and the sages have always longed for. Can you tell me, who told Zun Sikong about my spiritual talent? Chen Shi's expression was slightly startled. He didn't remember telling outsiders about his spiritual talent. As for Fa Zhang, these people were very strict. Zun Wenruo told Siming, but don't care, he won't assassinate you. Let's say so, for Zun Wenruo, Liu Xuanda's importance is not as high as yours. Your spiritual talent is destined to be a last resort. No one will come to plot against you, and the people of insight in the world will naturally protect you. The old man said solemnly. It's not so exaggerated. Chen Shi tugged and said, and then couldn't help but think of his previous nervousness. It couldn't be true. That's the truth. I've been following you since I saw you, and at the same time, what do you think Zui Yuanfang is doing in the Taishan Jingling Hall? He is guarding your hometown. As soon as Chen Shi spoke, a Taoist priest appeared directly. No one can kill you, it's not a joke. Who are you? Chen Shi instantly became wary, and at the same time, Fa Zhang, Zhuge Liang, and the old man sitting on the stage all looked at this man who suddenly appeared and couldn't tell his age. Those who protect you, keep you from being killed in this life. The man's expression was calm, but a hint of hope flashed in his eyes, and then he waved the dust, and you also come out. Saying that, the man in black brushed the dust, and a strong man appeared on the roof, only to see the strong man looking at the Taoist priest costume with a wary expression, and he couldn't tell the man of that age. Chapter 502. You are very important. Who the hell are you? The strong man holding the gun jumped down from the roof, appeared between Chen Shi and the Taoist priest, and asked in a low voice. Like you, they are all here to protect him, but they arrive a while later than you. The Taoist priest said calmly, Chen Hu, we have determined your spiritual talent, so those of us who are outside the world, although we focus on cultivating immortality and visiting the Tao, it is necessary to save your life. HMPH, if I remember correctly, there are many guys among you who don't listen to the command. The strong man with the gun stared at the other party and bowed slightly. Since Tong Yuan received the news about Chen Shi's spiritual talent, after repeatedly confirming it, he threw out his biggest card, his junior brother Han Qiong, saying that this is still because he hasn't recovered yet, otherwise it will definitely be him. Although Han Qiong is not as strong as Tong Yuan's martial arts, he is not weak, as the first batch of top masters to break through to the inner qi and leave the body, even if he does not rely on secret techniques, unique skills, and pure slashing. It is not easy for Liu Biyu to cut Han Qiong to death, not to mention that he has a lot of secret techniques. Because of this, Han Qiong followed Chen Shi all the way, and did not let Chen Shi find out. The same Taoist priest was the same, but he was even more arrogant. Donglai Seaside saw Chen Shi who was getting on the boat, and Nanhua, who originally planned to go back to the mountain to chant scriptures, directly extinguished his original thoughts, because he saw the hope of ascension in Chen Shi, and the normal channel could not soar, and the great merit Juxia ascended to the head office. In fact, at first, Nanhua always felt that he had done something wrong. Let the beasts run rampant, let the warriors be too strong, and let the world be in chaos. But after seeing Chen Shi, Nanhua found out. In fact, he has always wanted to be bad. Nanhua realized the moment he saw Chen Shi, fortune and misfortune depended on each other, and many fierce beasts were born. But didn't it also give birth to a teenager who could create decades of peace and prosperity, as long as he protected the safety of the other party and grew up? The Han dynasty had been in good shape for nearly 100 years, and tens of millions of people had no worries about food and clothing, which was definitely immeasurable. When the time comes, as long as you give yourself a little profit, won't this soar? After that, Nan Hua didn't say anything directly, and just followed Chen Shi. Not intervening in any war, only protecting Chen Shi. His task is to cause all attacks that can threaten Chen Shi to cause accidental deviations. This is why in the entire Yangtze River water battle, Chen Shi didn't even see a bow and arrow. Chen Hu, don't care who we are, you just need to know that we are here to protect you. And you can rest assured. We don't have any ill will towards you, although I don't like this guy very much, but with his strength, he will not suffer a loss against any general under Liu Xuanda's command. Nan Hua also saw the hesitation in Chen Shi's eyes and said, "You followed me half a year ago?" Chen Shi frowned and said, "Chen Hu's feeling is really strong, and I almost got caught several times." The strong man with the gun said with a smile. Chen Shi couldn't help but frown. Just this sentence. Chen Shi knew that this person was probably a top master, his feelings were very keen, and he wanted to think about Zhou Si's time. Although there is Zhou Si's carelessness, Chen Shi's perception ability cannot be denied. No wonder I sometimes feel like someone is following me. It makes me suspicious. Chen Shi has no temper, this master who has been with him for half a year. If he really wants to kill him, he will have died long ago, or even kill him. He can't react at all, but it can indeed be seen that the other party has no malice. If you face a top fierce general like Guanzhong and stuff all your spiritual will into the other party's brain, it will definitely be Fa Zheng's death, and the other party will either die, or his consciousness will collapse and fall into madness. But then again, which internal chi will not resist Hua Xiong kneeling in front of Liao Yu at all, and it can be solved with a knife light from a distance, okay? But Chen Hu, we only protect you, and we don't usually show up. Nan Hua looked at Chen Shi and said, "We are obliged to protect you, we don't need anything, but we only protect you." Chen Shi nodded. "I know this. Old Taoist, since you are also here to protect him, then let me ask you something. Can you kill him? He is a dangerous person. We idol warriors have reached a consensus. We must kill him first. We don't want to have a large-scale conflict with you, so ask in advance." Seeing that Chen Shi was no longer on guard, Han Xiong asked with a cold light in her eyes. If that guy shoots at others, it's fine, but if he dares to come over, he will kill him." A cold light flashed in Nan Hua's eyes. If that guy really came over to kill Chen Shi in order to try to collapse the general trend, Nan Hua would never show mercy, not to mention that he had just taken a look at him before. Even if he was an acquaintance, he would kill him. "That's good." After saying that, Han Xiong jumped backwards and disappeared in mid-air, and then a sentence came from the air. "Chen Hu, and rest assured, if I leave, I will definitely notify you, and someone will definitely come to take over my work." Chen Shi was a little dumbfounded. The other party disappeared directly. How did he do this? He couldn't help but look at the Taoist priest beside him. "Chen Hu, I appeared just to confirm it for you, and it was also to avoid possible accidental injuries in the future. I have not met him." Nan Hua looked in a certain direction and said, "I have to admit that the person is old." Han Xiong's breath and heartbeat squatting in that corner have almost completely disappeared. The whole person is like a stone, and Zhuge Liang unfolded his spiritual talent at the moment of Han Xiong's disappearance, but he did not perceive where the other party was. "I'm so important?" Chen Shi asked curiously. "Very important. If you continue to develop like this, you will save all people, and your merit will be immeasurable." Nan Hua bowed extremely solemnly, and then disappeared silently, leaving only 4 people looking at each other. Cough. Chen Shi coughed a few times in succession, pulling the attention of the other 3 back, looking a little uncomfortable. "I don't even know that someone is really protecting me in secret. This is a natural thing. You don't understand how important your spiritual talent is to the people of the world." The old man sitting on the stage said calmly, "You are too important to the people. I'm a bit like a mascot." Chen Shi smiled bitterly and said, "Forget it and say something else. I don't want to study how important I am." Then he found a stone bench and sat down, and he didn't pay attention to etiquette. "Chen Hu is free. The Z family comes out." The old man smiled at Chen Shi and greeted the back room, and soon a child about 11 or 12 years old came out and knelt down next to the old man. "This is your grandson?" Chen Shi asked curiously. "Lu Zigan's son, Lu Zijia." The old man shook his head, stretched out his hand, pointed at the child, and said a name. Chapter 503. Another platter is in hand. "The son of Minister Lu?" Chen Shi looked curiously at this young man about the same age as Lu Zun, who was not famous in this era, but was very famous in the era of the 9th rank Zhongzheng, one of the ladies of the gate valve system, and a master of political power. "Well, I was classmates with Zigan and Siming, and we have known each other for a long time, and when Zigan died, Zun Gongda, the grandson of the Siming clan, was still in Chang'an, so he entrusted his son to Simon to educate on his behalf. The old man shook his head and said. Chen Shi knew who the teacher was talking about for a moment. Chen Shi, his uncle, but there were too many apprentices who knew who the one in front of him was. Naturally, I went from Liaodong to visit Simon, and Simon asked me to take him to Mount Tai. The old man mentioned the child beside him with a little helpless. I should have gone to Taishan to visit General Zhendong, but unfortunately, in my opinion, the Z family still needs to discipline for a period of time, otherwise I am afraid it will disappoint General Zhendong. Chen Shi had already guessed the identity of this person at this time, and also understood why Zun Shuang asked Wang Lai to bring Lu Ji's son to Mount Tai, because Liu Bei can now be regarded as Lu Ji's best disciple. I think this child is very clever and aura, so why don't you leave it to me to discipline? Chen Shi stared at Lu Yu, whose eyes were dripping there. This person went through the 5 monarchs of the Wei state from nothing, and finally created the Lu family, one of the 5 surnames and 7 families, a superpower struggle politician. As for the old man's unwillingness to report his family, Chen Shi will not expose it. The old man should do whatever he wants, and now his goal is to get this Lu Yu in his hands, which is the real conspiracy everyone. Wang Lai was obviously a little hesitant. He kept Lu Yu by his side, and the main reason why the rest of the Lu family stayed in Mount Tai was that Lu Yu was a little wilted, although he was filial and virtuous, but this heart may be because he was greatly stimulated when he was a child, and there are obviously some problems. Wang Lai was in line with the idea of being responsible for Lu Ji, hoping to break Lu Yu back on the right path. If nothing else, at least it can't wilt like it is now, borrowing a knife to kill people. Take advantage of the situation to overwhelm people, drive tigers and wolves, go up to the house and draw ladders, and few have learned the right way. Thinking of this, Wang Lai was angry. Zun Shuang educated Lu Ji's son like this? In short, Lu Yu is very abnormal. Wang Lai's plan is to take him by his side, educate him well, at least don't let Lu Yu's nature have a gloomy problem. For now, Lu Yu can only be said to be the instinct of self-protection, and his temperament is not bad. It's just that I experienced a lot when I was a child. But it's normal to think about it. A teenager was 7 or 8 years old, his parents died. 2 brothers died before the age of 10, and then took care of the sister-in-law and nephew. It would not be easy for this baby to grow up normally, let alone develop and grow the scattered Lu family. Uncle, if you have any concerns, maybe I can help you solve it. Chen Shi said with a smile. Lu Yu is indeed not bad, but it depends on who he compares with. Zhou Wenhe, who plays Yin, is a godman, a sentence the public does not see Yuan Benchu. Liu Jingsheng, who makes Cao Ji completely hopeless, such a good child, what kind of virtue to cultivate, how talented he is to develop in the dark line, wasted badly. Wang Lai frowned. He couldn't tell Chen Shi Lu Yu's question, but looking at Chen Shi's interested expression, Wang Lai also felt that it was difficult to explain, and after a long time he asked, if this son is handed over to Chen Hu to discipline, what does Chen Hu plan to teach him, whether to focus on morality or behavior? Teaching power is the way for officials to protect themselves and reconcile factions. Chen Shi said without hesitation, Lu Yu is a good seedling to go to this. He must give full play to his expertise. History proves that this is a real master of power struggle, from Cao Cao period to the tumbler of Sima Zhao's era. Chen Shi didn't talk nonsense. There will be a faction sooner or later, and it is estimated that it will not be seen in the short term, but with the gradual growth of Liu Bei's strength, the emergence of factions is almost inevitable. The veteran faction composed of military generals headed by Guan Zhongzhao and civil officials headed by Chen Shi would have the advantage of absolutely suppressing all factions within 10 years. But then with the gradual victory of the 13 states, it would be a joke to suppress all factions. This is absolutely indispensable. Chen Shi initially planned to let Zhuge Liang as a central figure in reconciling factions and resolving future conflicts. But he always felt a little wasteful, some of Zhuge Liang's mental strength, and since he saw Lu Yu, Chen Shi found that Lu Yu was more suitable for fighting than Zhuge Liang. This is one of the very few political experts in history who has been rising from the beginning of the dynasty to the end of the dynasty. You must know that when this person began to be an official, except for the connections left by his father 10 years ago, everything else was useless, and finally he just cast a foundation that was no less than that of a wealthy family in a few decades, and the combat effectiveness of this officialdom was definitely enough. This? I'm afraid not. Wang Lai was stunned for a moment, and then looked sideways at Lu Yu who was kneeling beside him. He didn't want Lu Yu to become that kind of black-faced and ruthless character, but he had to admit that Chen Shi was right. Intrigue, self-protection for officials, and reconciliation of factions were indeed very suitable for Lu Yu. Okay, what the old man said may not be useful. With your heart, I'm afraid this one won't stop you if you want to leave. Chen Shi smiled and said, why don't you ask this person what he thinks? With your virtue, you naturally understand that the road is only useful if you walk by yourself, and it is really appropriate to shelter under your wings. Wang Lai sighed and looked sideways at Lu Yu. You can choose for yourself. whether to cultivate virtue with me to dispel the hostility in your heart, or to practice the art of intrigue with Chen Hu, and go further on that road. Thank you, uncle, for taking care of me recently. I am willing to practice the art of intrigue and virtue with Chen Hu. I feel that as long as I am ashamed of it, even if my hands get dirty one day, I believe I will not be fascinated. Lu Yu knelt on the ground and bowed solemnly to Wang Lai. Well said, you are best suited to control the intrigue and let it be controlled between your fingers, rather than being blinded by the conspiracy like others. Chen Shi smiled and said, Lu Zijia, right, after returning to Mount Tai, I will find the most suitable teacher for you, and he will teach you, and you will need to become a teacher within 8 years. Jioshu's strategy is very good, but he prioritizes self-preservation, while Lu Yu, on the contrary, he needs to fight, and only by constantly defeating others can he strengthen himself and prevent himself from falling into the dilemma of his youth. 8 years later, when the factions of all parties raised their heads, it was the stage that Chen Shi prepared for Lu Yu. Okay. Lu Yu said calmly, a harmless smile appeared on his face, then stood up silently, bowed to Wang Lai again, and finally walked towards Chen Shi. Uncle, don't worry, the Lu Zijia will inevitably walk out of a grand road. For him intrigue is a toy, not the most important thing in life, he will not get lost in it. Chen Shi saw that Wang Lai was slightly uneasy, so he spoke. Chapter 504, Taking Virtue as the Core. After saying that, Chen Shi gave Lu Yu a look, and in an instant Lu Yu said with understanding, Uncle Wang, I am deeply grateful for the protection under your command, but the eagle also has to go through setbacks to spread its wings and fly high. Without going through it, how can I restore the glory of the Lu family's ancestors? Wang Lai lowered his head and did not reply. He was also thinking about this question. It was obvious that Chen Shi had a similar ability to him, and he could see a person's qualifications, and he also knew that Lu Yu was most suitable for learning political intrigue, but this political intrigue was the darkest and dirtiest thing. Percent. The lotus comes out of the mud without being stained, and the ripples are not demonic. Chen Shi saw that the wrinkles on Wang Lai's brow were about to twist into a pimple, and he said helplessly, White sand is black in Nyatsh. Wang Lai's frowning brows relaxed slightly, but his expression was still a little helpless. How can a person who succumbs to the environment and goes against his heart be called amazing? Goes against the trend, strives to move forward, the sword blade sharpens itself, the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. I am still confident, don't my father believe it? Chen Shi said with a smile. The sharpness and self-confidence revealed on his body remained deeply in Wang Lai's heart. Zijia, what do you think? Wang Lai turned his head to look at Lu Yu. In fact, saying this at this time was equivalent to agreeing to this matter. Lu Yu took a deep breath and said proudly, My Lu Zi family feels that I can keep my heart firm and not be moved by foreign objects, and after my Lu family is destroyed, I must set it up with my own hands. How can a mere temptation go against my heart? The sharpness revealed from Lu Yu's body made a smile appear on Wang Lai's face. Okay. In this case, you can take away my De Jing and the Xuanzi that Siming gave me. I haven't taught you anything along the way, although officialdom and power kill without blood, but when you stand on a high place like this, virtue and hope have far better effects than magic. Chen Shi smacked his tongue slightly. The relationship between Wang Lai and Zun Shuang and Lu Ji is not generally hard. Zun Shuang actually gave Wang Lai even his family's old bottom, which is the original classic taken out by Xuanzi's descendants. I don't know. Uncle, which book should I study first? Lu Yu looked down at the ants on the ground, not daring to look into Wang Lai's eyes. Chen Shi clearly saw Wang Lai's helplessness. Learn art. Then he let out a long sigh, and the endless resentment was contained in it. Chen Hu explained Xuan de Gong on my behalf. Lu Zijia has handed over to you to discipline on your behalf. As for the De Jing that I annotated, you took it and printed it, and whoever likes to read it can give it to whoever you like. Since my father is willing to hand over the De Jing to me. Then Zichuan didn't say much. I saw that the old man wanted to build an academy before, so how about publishing the De Jing to get money as the funds for the academy built by the old man? Chen Shi said with a smile, This is Wang Lai's De Jing. This guy is a real gentleman, and the real thing is enough to represent the moral model of an era. I've never heard of printing books for me and giving me money. Wang Lai said calmly. Your book family will definitely be used as a collection, so that you have an income, and it is more than enough to build an academy. Chen Shi said with a smile, This is not a joke. Although this thing is not as good as the original Xuanzi annotation of the Zun family, it is Wang Lai's current reputation. Enough for Chen Shi to make a lot of money. That's fine. Wang Lai nodded and said, he quickly understood what was going on, but this way of pricing his thoughts was obviously not pleasing, but compared to being able to educate more students, Wang Lai didn't take that little stain to heart at all. Actually, your house can also be rebuilt. Chen Shi smiled and said, We can advance in advance. The Prime Minister of Qi behind me will definitely allow you to advance. You say yes, Xiaoji. No problem, this courtyard is too small, and there is a lack of 8 formal classrooms for 30 people indoors, a small-scale basic library, a formal storage room and a sports area, and the entire courtyard needs to be expanded 5 times. Fa Zheng calmly commented on the standard configuration of the academy designed by Chen Shi, which is all money. Wang Lai was speechless. These things were definitely not a few, and he couldn't help but look at Chen Shi. It's affordable, it's very simple. As long as it's built, we will delegate the basic books of the library and some adaptive books, as well as the books chosen by the dean of the final academy. Chen Shi said with a smile. These conditions were actually designed by Chen Shi to attract local small families and small landlords to join. These families have some small money. The cost of building the academy is not a problem. Even vacating 1 or 2 courtyards is enough. What they lack is the heritage. What they lack is the book, and their own choice is prepared for them. Chen Shi didn't have so much time to devote to the popularization of education. As long as the data collected was still within the range calculated by Liu Yi and Lu Su after Taishan County opened education, then Chen Shi would directly carry out full-scale promotion, and at that time he had to need to join the local small clans. That's right. Wang Lai nodded. Then there is the Prime Minister of Lao Qi. Uncle, can you show me your De Jing for the 3 of us? Chen Shi thought for a while and said, presumably Wang Lai's things must be different from the original Dao Ti Ching, and they must be more focused on virtue. Wang Lai waved to the little girl who opened the door for Chen Shi and his party, and the other party hurriedly ran in, and then ran over holding 9 volumes of bamboo slips and a paper book. But it was obvious that the 9 big bamboo slips were a little heavy for the little girl. Chen Shi quickly stretched out his hand to support the other party, and then picked up all the scrolls of books. Hey, do you think Zichuan likes that kind? Fa Zhang gestured carefully twice, then looked at Zhuge Liang and said, it shouldn't be possible, it's just a pity. I prefer this habit, just like Zichuan does to the maid. Zhuge Liang glanced at Fa Zhang and said, you two take a look too. Chen Shi handed Fa Zhang and Zhuge Liang a volume and began to read. After a long time, all 3 of them raised their heads to look at each other. The person who wrote this book can definitely be a moral benchmark. He did what ordinary people can do, and did not rise to the level of a saint, but it is precisely because he is a real person that he has flesh and blood and deep understanding. How to be filial and upright. This time Chen Shi did not ask Zhuge Liang, but directly looked at Fa Zhang and asked, and Fa Zhang also lowered his head and pondered. The foundation is your 1,000-character text and disciples' rules, and then learn the doctrine of the mean and it. Fa Zhang thought for a long time and then looked up and said, since we have determined that virtue is the core at that time, it is very suitable. Same as my idea, since I returned to Mount Tai, I propose to put this book in the must-learn bibliography. Chen Shi nodded and said, we are mainly Lied. I am solving the food and clothing expenses. As long as Lied can succeed, we will be better off in the future. Chapter 505 Going Against the Trend. Listen to what you mean and don't teach anything else? Zhuge Liang asked puzzled. It will take at least 3 years to learn these, and it is enough to learn these, not to mention that if you master these things, you can still do it if you are rich. Chen Shi nodded, acquiescing to Zhuge Liang's words. We were talking about universal education before. Why only teach these? Zhuge Liang sighed lightly and asked. Not enough money and food. Chen Shi spread his hands and said, I am also a human being, and I originally came step by step to popularize education, but Xiandegong opened his mouth to build there, and I didn't have any good way. When he said this, Chen Shi obviously had some resentment in it, and he found that Liu Bei had some rhythm of using him as a Tinkerbell, although he had said before in order to give Liu Bei confidence, no matter how big a thing is, it is a small thing, and all small things are not a thing. Of course he did the same. But this is completely different from what you said before. Zhuge Liang said with a wry smile. I'm just a guide, opening a door for them, and at that time it's up to them to choose, whether to continue their studies or give up their studies to start supporting themselves. Chen Shi said calmly, I can only give them a chance, not everything, and they need to walk their own way ahead. Kong Ming, after learning these things, you are almost your age, or a little older than you, and you still have the right to borrow books in the academy to study on your own. Fa Zhang said calmly, whether they can seize the opportunity or not is up to them. Zhuge Liang was silent for a long time, although the Zhuge family had declined. But he did not suffer in his youth, and it was difficult to support himself while maintaining excellence. If it is good enough, there is such an opportunity that is enough to take off. Chen Shi said calmly, although the opportunities one can give are very slim, they are much better than the dark future before, and as for those who are not good enough, the opportunities one give them are enough for them to rely on their hands to eat and drink. But Zhuge Liang was interrupted by Fa Zheng as soon as he opened his mouth. Kong Ming, there is a problem with the angle you stand at.
Fa Zhang said calmly. Our task is to give them a chance, and it's their own business as to where they can go. As for connections, fathers, families, how they rise without anything is not our business. Kongming, in fact, you don't need to be so fair. Everything in this world is relative. The blessings of the fathers bless future generations. No matter how you look at it, you must admit that this is what it should be. Chen Shi said calmly, and you don't have these, then take out other things that are enough to prove you, and if you can't take them out, don't complain. Yes, that's it. The ancestors overcame obstacles and had nothing back then. It is also a huge family built from the cracks. When it is really amazing, then don't say anything else. I did not rely on the power of the legalists, and I came to Mount Tai alone, and I still came to this point without external forces. Fa Zhang said with a sneer. Zhuge Liang was speechless. Fa Zhang was qualified to say this. He was valued by a series of characters such as Liu Bei, Chen Shi, and Guizhou, so he did not rely on foreign objects, but relied on his own ability, and was able to sit in the position of county magistrate before the age of 18, and sat convincingly, relying on his ability. I won't mention this again, but I hope that if there is an assessment, the assessment for ordinary students will be relaxed. Zhuge Liang thought for a moment before speaking. I don't recommend this, although this can indeed give students from civilian backgrounds a slight advantage, but the family will not fall for 1,000 years. Chen Shi said calmly. The pride of genius is more important than the rise and fall of a moment. Fa Zhang took over the conversation and said, if the official does this, the children of commoners will be over, and it will no longer be possible to surpass the children of the aristocracy. Zhuge Liang looked at Chen Shi. He was not sure if what Fa Zhang said was true. It's true, you didn't end well if you did that. At the beginning, the common people were definitely not the opponents of the children of the family. If they were still tested separately, they would lose their spirit after a long time. Chen Shi shook his head and said, if you accumulate too much power, I'm afraid that even if you are amazing, it will be difficult to mention that you will surpass the other party. Zhuge Liang lowered his head and pondered, gaining a little, and just as he was about to speak, he saw Chen Shi say, why could the Xiongnu in the early Han Dynasty fight 10 against 10, and why can't they even fight 10 against 1 in the later period? It's momentum. In the early days of Han Wu, the Xiongnu accumulated power against the Han Dynasty for 100 years, although the treasury was solid in the early days of Han Wu, but it was seized by the momentum, and there was no determination to win at all. It can only be said that it was forced to fight. Chen Shi said calmly. Then the Han Dynasty bucked the trend, and the momentum reached its peak, and the bloody battles left an invincible mark on the Xiongnu again and again. There was a fluctuation in Chen Shi's indifferent expression, and it was difficult to go against the trend. Do you know? Why is there smoke rising within the Han Dynasty now, but none of the 4 barbarians dared to invade? Still on time, not because their strength is not enough, but because they have accumulated power for a long time. They didn't have the courage to come in. Tan Shihuai's Xianbei was extremely strong, but they still didn't dare to enter the mainland, which was the prestige of the world. Chen Shi's expression rarely appeared with a hot pillow. Strong man. How much stronger can the White Horse Righteous Horse, Shiliang Iron Cavalry, and Bingju Wolf Cavalry be stronger than the Xiongnu, Qiong people, and Xianbei, and those who can become cavalry are the strong people among them, and they themselves are a nation on horseback, so why can't the 5-to-1 foreign cavalry beat them? Is it equipment? In addition to the elite, the Shiliang Iron Cavalry is not even complete with leather armor, but there is no pressure on the Qiong people to fight against the Qiong people. Chen Shi said with a sneer. Zhuge Liang and Fa Zhang thought about these silently, and finally could only sigh. These are all facts. The equipment of the Shiliang Iron Cavalry and the Qiong people are at the same level, and the food is similar, but the Shiliang Iron Cavalry fights the Qiong Cavalry without pressure at all. This is the momentum. The current Han people have absolute confidence in any foreign race, and the confidence in their bones makes them not afraid of any foreign race, so when they do it, it is like a tiger descending the mountain, and the foreign race is the opposite. This is the national self-confidence forged in 300 years. Chen Shi said solemnly. Fa Zhang touched his beard, and after a long time he spoke. The family and the common people are put aside. It doesn't matter if the civilians appear less at the beginning. What I'm interested in now is what Sichuan said. You mean that the Xianbei are also hoarding the heritage of going against the trend? Zhuge Liang's eyes also flashed with a cold light, but he didn't say anything, combining Chen Shi's words up and down. The trend may not win, and the trend may not be defeated, but it is extremely difficult. Chapter 506 based on this. Establish virtue for the world. Fa Zhang and Zhuge Liang both kept what Chen Shi said in their hearts, and turned back to use their respective manpower to verify it. If this was the case, then Fa Zhang and Zhuge Liang's mentality was inevitable to plan 1 or 2. Just remember, you still need to verify the facts yourself. What I said may not be true,
At least now the Han dynasty still belongs to the strong who overwhelms the 4 barbarians. Chen Shi smiled and said, although the Xianbei are strong, it is difficult to shake the foundation. Chen Shi is absolutely sure of this. The Han dynasty is still in an absolute advantage, and it can even be said that Yuan Shao in the north alone is enough to let He Lian and Kubai Neng and they can't die again. The Xianbei are still in a dormant state, and if they want to soar into the sky, they are blocked by the behemoth of the Han court. At least before the central plains have been weakened and there is no power to fight back, there is no possibility of invasion at all. Chen Shi never thought of violently conquering the grassland. Blood should not be inflicted on the people, whether it is the border people or the grassland herdsmen, whether it is the wild nomadic civilization or the current Han civilization in the Weijia Sea. It is for its own survival from beginning to end, and the two sides are not irreconcilable. After all, people are divided into good and evil, and millions of people live and die in one word, and it is not Chen Shi's purpose to fight the country in poverty and the people's poverty in the end. What he wants is the country to be rich and the people are strong. Is it a strategy to transform the Qi? No, there is a better way, to migrate, to give them equal opportunities. Chen Shi had a hint of mockery on his face. Compared with the Xianbei of only 3 million, the Han dynasty, which eliminated typhoid fever in advance due to Chen Shi's preparations during this period, still had a population of about 50 million. As a civilization that did not develop nomads, after being defeated, were given the same opportunities, only one result. That is, slowly integrated into the Han people. Chen Shi did not believe that a race that did not even have a complete cultural structure could resist the world's most assimilating race, and it was only when the Han Chinese had an all-round advantage. It is necessary to fight a war, the leaders inside must be eliminated, and some diehards also need to be eliminated, but now tell the two of them, they will definitely pay attention, and it is estimated that there will be a clear analysis at that time. The child is just foolish, and he explains the important events to be done in the future. Chen Shi thought indifferently that sometimes things are done so casually. Fa Zhang and Zhuge Liang had no idea that this matter itself was an important task that would start after dealing with Yuan Shao and occupying the central plains. This kind of thing related to the long-term peace and stability of the entire people under his rule is an important event that Chen Shi must plan in advance. However, Fa Zhang and Zhuge Liang were aroused in advance and began to work for Chen Shi without knowing it. Okay, let's not talk about these things that are irrelevant in the short term. Chen Shi patted Fa Zhang on the shoulder, and then walked towards Wang Lai with a proud face. Prince, I have heard people say, the way of educating people lies in the morality of the foundation. This book of virtue can be described as a model of mortal virtue. I don't know that the old man can allow the boy to pass it on to the world completely, and since then, the Prince's Academy expenses have been taken over by my Mount Tai, and I feel that this book can be virtuous for the people of the world. Chen Shi walked up to Wang Lai and bowed, and for the first time held the salute of a junior in front of others. Speaking of the marquises who won the food with Chen Shi's real military merits, there is no need to be humble for anyone who is not an emperor or an elder. Even the traditional and simple should be called Mrs. and Xiaojun, but sometimes it is better to lower your identity. Chen who can't be like this. Wang Lai, who had inconvenient legs and feet, moved twice. Holding on to crutches, he quickly helped Chen Shi up. The prince doesn't know if it is possible. Chen Shi no longer trampled on his identity, and it was enough to perform the gift of a junior. Alas, okay. Wang Lai sighed and said as if he had let go of something, I won't stop you. This book doesn't need to write my name, and I don't need to pass it on to the world. All the essentials are attached. As long as it can make people understand what virtue is, the rest has nothing to do with me. Chen Shi was stunned. This is equivalent to Wang Lai giving up everything in this book, and also giving up the genre he created. Originally, Chen Shi was ready for Wang Lai to make things difficult for himself, which is why Chen Shi would give the junior gift in advance, but Chen Shi didn't expect the other party to be so generous at all. You must know that this is something that Wang Lai wrote half his life, which can be regarded as a mantle inheritance. In this era, this kind of thing is prepared for close disciples. At most a copy is copied for a few outstanding children, and if it is really printed and sent out together, then the core idea of this school can only be absorbed by other schools. The reason why Moism is the last to play with Shenxue, in addition to being suppressed, is that the ideas of the school have been absorbed, which shows how important the core idea of inheritance is. For people in this era, the important thing is not those words, but the idea of interpreting those words, and most of the books of the Pang family, Huang family, and other families published by Chen Shi before belong to the books themselves. But there is no core essence of printing, and this has basically become the printing rules of Taishan bookstore. Similarly, the De Jing that Wang Lai lent to Chen Shi before did not come with the core essence of the De Jing, but Rao still made Chen Shi and the three of them feel that this book had a clear description of virtue. I can borrow the hand of Marquis Chen to establish virtue for the people of the world. What do I not want to do? And what is a pity for the essence of this book? Leah, bring the box on the bookshelf over. Wang Lai had completely let go at this time. His virtue was almost complete. Wang Lai had never thought about such a thing as establishing virtue for the world. At this time he couldn't help but think of what Bing Yuan said, to educate more people, at least you need to sit in a high enough position. Wang Lai took the box from the little girl's hand, and then handed it to Chen Shi. Chen Hu, the essence of the whole book is in that box, and it is not enough to rely on this book to establish virtue for the world. At least this can be used as a seed, with the strength of 3 generations, and the generation of edification, there is naturally a glimmer of hope. Chen Shi said with a smile, lied is not such a simple sentence, he has also thought about it. But there has never been a suitable classic. After all, many books about virtue are a bit biased in his opinion. Some classics are directly castrating the blood of the nation, some are corrupting, some are distorting, in short, they are a little inappropriate. An important reason why Chen Shi values Wang Lai's Book of Virtue is that Wang Lai's virtue is not to forgive and tolerate these things, but to give different edifications according to different people, from behavior and morality to influence with powerful forces. Chapter 507 This is a tragedy. Wang Lai is very open-minded. Chen Shi's answer makes him very satisfied. He wrote this book to educate the people. He is already very satisfied that it can be used to educate the world. As for the core idea, there is nothing that cannot be let go. One gain and one loss, one peck and one drink have its own destiny. My lord, if you want to build an academy in Lindsay, I will send officials to discuss the construction location and construction indicators with you in 3 days. Lindsay is building a new city. If you have any needs, please think clearly within these 3 days, and then change it after planning. It is very difficult. F.A. Zhang stepped forward and said to Wang Lai calmly, although he didn't know what this old man's name was, but the great Confucians who could write books and talk about it were not fuel-efficient lamps. There is the Prime Minister of Lao Qi. Wang Lai said with a smile. No, I just do things according to the regulations, and it is also necessary to build some infrastructure in the new city. F.A. Zheng was not touched by Wang Lai, with a businesslike tone, but in fact, what the original planning map meant, people who had not been in contact with it could not imagine it at all. Prince, thank you, I won't disturb you again this time. Chen Shi held the book and bowed to Wang Lai. Zijia, you can go with Sichuan now. Wang Lai waved his hand and signaled, but he didn't want Lu Yu to be obviously a little hesitant. But is there something else? Chen Shi looked at Lu Yu puzzled, but saw a blush on Lu Yu's face, but he didn't speak. Wang Lai glanced at Lu Yu, touched himself, and took out a jade pendant for his daughter. You go with him, boy, if you live up to my daughter, Lu Yu was instantly overjoyed. And Leia, who had been standing next to Wang Lai, was obviously a little twisted, but her feet were slowly sliding towards Lu Yu. The girl is not in the middle of the stay. Wang Lai said dissatisfiedly. Chen Hu took care of them for me. Okay. Chen Shi nodded and said. Looking at Lu Yu, it was obvious that there was a hint of eccentricity. This guy had been living here with Wang Lai for less than a few dozen days, and he actually got Wang Lai's daughter, Tiske. He was really not an ordinary person. Taking Lu Yu out, the things he was holding in his hand were naturally handed over to the sergeant guarding the gatepost outside, and today's main task was not done. But the benefits are greater. It's a pity. Bo Yang has to stay in Lindsay for a short time, otherwise you will see the best of your peers. Chen Shi smiled and said to Lu Yu, who was slightly excited. Lu Yu raised his eyebrows. Looking at Chen Shi, his eyes slid to F.A. Zheng, and finally fell on Zhuge Liang. It's not that he has never seen it. I am more interested in this Zhuge Kongming who is slightly older than me. Looking for you. Chen Shi shook his head. F.A. Zheng passed by and patted Zhuge Liang on the shoulder, and said to Zhuge Liang with a smile. You should find someone about your age. Zhuge Liang shook his head, a little unhappy with Lu Yu, who was secretly tested, and he was absolutely sure that Lu Zun could subdue Lu Yu. What? Lu Yu looked at Chen Shi puzzled. Originally he thought that Zhuge Liang would have some reaction, but he didn't expect that he deliberately looked at Chen Shi first, and then the positive action had no effect at all, and he was calm at all. You should crush him. F.A. Zhang said with great interest after Zhuge Liang followed. It's not interesting. Give Bo Yang a chance to rebuild his confidence. After all, he wants to learn from you. Zhuge Liang said flatly. Genius should have a genius sharpness. Recently, Bo Yang has been suppressed by me and Sichuan a little too much. Cut. F.A. Zheng made a disdainful face. I can't bear the mere suppression. What a genius. I think when I followed Guo Fengxiao and Jiao Wenhe. Speaking of this, F.A. Zheng couldn't go on. He was punished at that time. If it weren't for Guo Jiao's obsession with him too deep, that kind of sharpening method would have been useless now. Why don't you say it? Chen Shi took a few steps back and asked curiously after leveling F.A. Zhengping. My heart is stuffy.
Fa Zhang said calmly. Zhuge Liang and Chen Shi had nothing to say. Soon, Chen Shi and his party returned to the post station. Bo Yang, come out, introduce you to a peer, he is also very powerful, you have fun together, don't fight. Chen Shi's words were deliberately a little like telling a 5- or 6-year-old child not to fight, and Lu Xun, who naturally went out to greet him, looked at Lu Yu with a slightly strange expression. Lu Xun naturally won't do those childish things. When he has that time, it's better to read the book to find a way to narrow the gap with Zhuge Liang, and Chen Shi, as his master, will not deliberately tell this, so only Lu Yu is the one who advises. Naturally Lu Xun thinks that the other party is the child's heart. I've seen master. Lu Xun bowed respectfully. This is Lu Yu, the son of Lu Shangshu. Lu Zijia, Xiaoji, and Kong Ming still have things to do. You take him to read a book and eat something. Chen Shi patted Lu Yu and said, You has seen Brother Boyan. Lu Yu had a gentle look and made perfect etiquette. In fact, Lu Yu had been a little angry by Lu Xun's eyes, but years of life had made him completely know how to hide his true psychology in this period. Okay. You have also met Bo Yang, he handed it over to you. Chen Shi smiled and said, and after saying that, he left with Fa Zhang and Zhuge Liang without waiting for Lu Xun to salute. Lu Yu, who was standing at the door, snorted coldly, and took Leah directly to the station, and Lu Xun just thought that the other child's heart attack was ongoing, so he shrugged his shoulders and followed. Ch, underestimate me, see that I don't treat you well. Lu Yu walked towards the back room with an arrogant and complacent expression. The lion still had to go all out. Lu Yu naturally knew how to catch a surprise. We can't do this. I remember Kong Ming's face was black. Fa Zheng touched his beard, looking like he couldn't do this well, but the whole expression could tell that he was in high spirits. Zhuge Liang glanced at Fa Zheng and didn't speak. You have to let him know what it means to have someone outside the sky. Although the conspiracy is good, but sometimes no matter how well prepared it is not as good as someone else's random blow, and the most feared thing is that the conspiracy is not enough understanding. Chen Shi shook his head and said, I'm afraid I'll be able to tell who the primary school student is soon. It won't end in a short time, although it is clear at a glance who is strong and who is weak, but again and again, repeated temptations are indispensable. Bo Yang is too close to his age, and if Lu Zijia is really a genius, I am afraid he also has a little bit of his own self-confidence. Zhuge Liang remembered that Lu Xun had already realized that he was far more than him, but he still continued to test him, and the final result was needless to say, he was crushed in an all-round way. This is a tragedy. Fa Zhang shook his head and said, but since then, he will be much more cautious in doing things, and I hope he won't be ruined because of a setback. Don't worry, it won't be ruined. Geniuses are indispensable in addition to qualifications, hard work, and heart, otherwise they can't be called geniuses. Chen Shi said with a smile. Chapter 508 Fireflies and the Bright. Lu Xun looked at his book while listening to Lu Yu's questions, and then gave several answers without raising his head, but Lu Xun really regarded Lu Yu as a little broken child and didn't take it seriously at all. Soon Lu Yu came over again, and Lu Xun still maintained his original posture, gave a few answers without raising his head, and then still read the book, completely ignoring Lu Yu's gloomy face. Lu Yu had a lot of questions. Lu Xun could still read the book at the beginning, answer at the same time. After a long time, Lu Yu's questions made Lu Xun himself not think for a moment, but in Lu Xun's opinion, it was not too difficult. Finally, after Lu Yu put a genuine case in front of Lu Xun closed the book. This thing was already a little difficult, so Lu Xun looked up at Lu Yu. You came to test me on purpose, but if you are Zhuge Kongming who came to test me, don't take these things, do some real tests. You can't test how much I've improved recently. Lu Yu's face turned completely red. The question he took on did not get a standard answer from Wang Lai, and he was forced by Lu Xun to directly give Lu Xun a copy of this thing. To be honest, Lu Yu is now convinced, but Lu Xun's words are giving him a major blow. Even if he doesn't turn his head, he can hear it. Zhuge Liang is far better than the one in front of him. This can still play happily. The one in front of him is already abnormal. According to this previous words, it seems to imply that Zhuge Liang is like a heavenly man. Lu Yu's advantage over Lu Xun is that he knows how to advance and retreat very well, and after confirming that he is far from Lu Xun's opponent. Without saying a word, Lu Yu directly said that he was actually dissatisfied with Lu Xun and did not bird him, hoping to draw Lu Xun's attention back. Do you want to know how genius Zhuge Kongming is? Lu Xun tugged and said, and Lu Yu on the side kept nodding like a chicken pecking at rice. Although I don't want to admit it. But now compared with Zhuge Kongming, the gap between me and Zhuge Kongming is almost like fireflies to Haoyue. The gap is so big that I can't feel Zhuge Liang's bottom at all. Lu Xun smiled bitterly, but there was a touch of admiration on his face. That guy is a monster. For Lu Xun, Zhuge Liang was more impressed than his master Chen Shi left on him, although it was like a sword in its sheath.
but its sharpness is not comparable to anything, and its stunning talent is not enough to describe. Lu Yu's heart was cold, and Lu Xun's genius made him feel cold. What kind of monster is Zhuge Liang, who made Lu Xun say far less than this kind of thing? No wonder Wang Lai would say that he is peerless and unmatched, and his feelings are really so against the sky.
Maybe you don't believe it. Lu Xun smiled bitterly.
He can also be regarded as having a comrade in arms who sympathizes with each other. Although the reason why this comrade in arms sympathized with each other was that he was severely injured by himself, as a genius, he could still understand another genius who was equally proud.
Tell me.
Lu Yu planned to adjust his mentality. He felt that he might have been a big fish living in the shallows before, thinking he was big, but now he was in the sea, and anyone was enough to crush him to death. Maybe Zhuge Liang belonged to the giant Kuan in the northern Ming. He taught me all my knowledge, and my teacher thought I was too weak. Let Zhuge Kongming take me first, but it depends on the current situation. I don't want to talk about being a teacher, even if it is not easy to surpass Zhuge Kongming.
Lu Xun said something that shocked Lu Yu to a half-death. I just went to provoke Zhuge Kongming. Lu Yu said with a twitching face, I think I'm looking for death.
Don't worry, he has no intention of making trouble for you. He is now being tossed by Fa Xiaoji and has no intention of making trouble for you. Lu Xun waved his hand and said, well, this book Thick Black will be shown to you. I also want to read the book, although the possibility is very slim, but I still want to try, alas tilde. After saying that, Lu Xun began to study hard again. He planned to consolidate the foundation and start practicing, not to mention surpassing Zhuge Liang. At least to the end, Zhuge Liang's invincible crushing made him never go to trouble Zhuge Liang before he was fully prepared. Seeing that Lu Xun quickly entered the state, Lu Yu also picked up the book that Lu Xun handed him and began to look at it. There is no way that the talent is not as good as others, but if the effort is not as good as others, it is his own problem. Lu Xun read the book in his hand again and looked up at Lu Yu, who was thinking, if there is any problem with the Z family, you can say it, and I can reach out and pull if I can help.
Who wrote this book?
Lu Yu had an urge to worship the person who wrote this book as a teacher, and he simply said that he was in his heart.
Anonymous book. CAI everyone's collection.
Lu Xun said calmly, Mr. CAI has many, many rare books, and it is said that when Mr. CAI was alive, he collected hundreds of thousands of books. Lu Yu couldn't close his mouth. Isn't it 30,000 volumes?
Who knows?
Anyway, there are more than 100,000 volumes of books in the entire Taishan library, which are basically written by CAI Daimo. Lu Xun glanced at Lu Yu and said, you will definitely go to Mount Tai, and let Zhuge Kongming help you ask when the time comes.
It's a pity.
Lu Yu said helplessly, the ideas revealed in this book and his own thoughts can be described as like-minded. If he can fully accept the inheritance of this genre, Lu Yu is confident that his whole person will have a leap and bound growth, but it's a pity. If not, you can ask Zhuge Kongming. That guy doesn't understand anything. Even if you ask him how to make things, he can tell you the head.
Lu Xun said with a wry smile.
Then Lu Xun was worried that Lu Yu would go to death by himself, so he thought for a while and said, the Z family, you'd better not compete with Zhuge Kongming. He awakened his spiritual talent at our age, and according to my master's description, Zhuge Kongming's spiritual talent is the most terrifying in the world. Lu Yu felt that he was sweating, and he still knew what his spiritual talent was, so he couldn't help but mutter, that guy is really human? Who knows, anyway, don't go to death yourself, but others are very good, although some things will be because of their own abnormality, and formulate that kind of inhuman standard, but in general he will not deliberately target others. Lu Xun remembered that he had studied diligently for so long and mastered those foundations, but the result was simply insignificant to Zhuge Liang. Zhuge Liang naturally didn't know that he had been classified as an abnormal person by Lu Xun and Lu Yu. After all, these had no effect on him. For Zhuge Liang now, except for completing his spiritual talent, marrying Huang Yueying is not a big deal. His knowledge is enough. The bad thing is experience. Chapter 509 Smoke Rises. When Chen Shi returned in the afternoon, Lu Yu had become much calmer. At least the previous arrogance had completely disappeared, and it seemed that he had been cut by Lu Xun a little miserably. Chen Shi naturally would not ask about what happened before, and told Lu Xun and Fa Zheng a few words, and then took Zhuge Liang, Lu Yu, and some utensils on the road again.
True.
Chen Shi returned to Mount Tai in a dashing manner, but he didn't know that the Montenegrin Yellow Turban had fallen into a crisis at this time. In addition to the problem of Sun Chen and Chen Feng joining forces, there was actually a reason for Guo Jiao to stand by. Boss, this is not good. The brothers are not Yuan Shao's opponents at all. Li Damu touched the wound on his chest and said with a bitter face, not to mention anything else, that Yang Liang is not something we can deal with at all. Even if there is cloud suppression, more than 10 of us can barely stand up. Hold it first. While we still have an advantage over the terrain of Montenegro, we will try to hold them back first. This is not a plain, his cavalry cannot be deployed, and the infantry is not as familiar with the terrain as we are, and we will have hope when we contact Liu Xuanda. Zhong Yang said helplessly. It was also because he successfully integrated the Montenegrin army under Yuan Benchu's oppression. But even so, there was no way to fight it. It's been so long, if Liu Xuanda wanted to help us, he would have come long ago. Yu Du swallowed a piece of steamed bun, poured a clay pot of water, and said angrily, "He doesn't care about us, then let's go find him." Zhong Yang thought for a long time, and finally said with a bitter face, it was still at this point. This is the reason why he was able to unify the Montenegrin army in the first place. Snap! Guodashin's bowl of water fell directly to the ground, and others looked at Zhong Yang with shocked faces. Although it was estimated that this day would come early in the morning, I didn't want it to come so quickly. Does it have to be like this? Marshal? Colonel Zhua said with a gloomy expression. I agreed early in the morning that the Montenegrin army could have a commander. But the commander must protect everyone. Zhong Yang said calmly, "Bring me a map and let me study how to rush to Mount Tai." Bai Rao and the others looked at each other, although they made it clear at the beginning of the alliance that it was to fight against Yuan Shao, and the commander needed to protect the Montenegrin army, but in the past few months, with Zhong Yang's performance, Bai Rao and others, who were a little unconvinced at first, had to admit that Zhong Yang was more suitable as the commander of the Montenegrin army than them. Yuan Shao is very strong, which is the intuitive feeling of Bai Rao and others, as the conflict with Yuan Shao escalated. Bai Rao and others had a preliminary estimate of Yuan Shao's terrifying strength. If it weren't for Zhong Yang's astonishing growth in battles again and again, I am afraid that the Yellow Turbans of Montenegro would have become history, and it is precisely because of this that Bai Rao and others would completely recognize Zhong Yang's position as commander, rather than being forced to be helpless before. And dormant in order to preserve itself. Then you'll die. Yu Du said bitterly. It's better than everyone dying together. Besides, do you want to continue fighting? Liu Xuanda is good, and the Yellow Turbans in Qingju are doing well now. Zhong Yang was calm like a bend of stagnant water. Yu Du was speechless and sighed. Let me help you find it together. Now the road from Jizhou to Qingju Yanliang's army is sealed, although Liqing is not far away, but if you want to kill out, I am afraid that you have to lose most of it, so that only Yangju can go. Fortunately, Yangju is due to Lu Biyu's rebellion. The subordinates are not complete, otherwise the road will not be easy. Zhong Yang said calmly. Zhong Yang was ready to die. In fact, when he sat in the position of the commander of the Yellow Turbans in Montenegro, he was ready to die, exchanging one person's life for nearly 1 million Yellow Turbans in the future, not to mention that there were already pioneers who proved him the feasibility of this matter. In fact, as long as there was a glimmer of hope, he was willing to gamble, he did not care about the future, and he would die if he died. The style of the two great commanders before and after Qingju gave Zhong Yang too much shock, and the current life of the Yellow Turbans in Qingju also gave him too much desire. Zhong Yang returned to Mount Tai when he did not take over the position of commander of the Yellow Turbans. After all, compared with Yuan Shao, Mount Tai is closer to the paradise of the people. Yang Liang led his army to station here, and since the defeat of Lu Biyu before Hu Lao, Yang Liang has been practicing diligently for several years, and in a chance encounter a few years ago, he got the guidance of a mysterious man with a gun, and his strength has made great progress. Finally, I can see the back of Lu Biyu in the tiger prison. It turns out that Zhao Zilong is not as terrifying as Lu Biyu. Yang Liang exhaled a breath of white air, and then stood up slowly. Because of the chance a few years ago, his strength has improved greatly compared to Wen Chou, but in order not to hit Wen Chou's self-confidence, Yang Liang did not show much progress in front of Wen Chou, but subtly instilled his own feelings into his brother. Is it a unique skill? Yang Liang looked at the rising sun. That's just an obstacle to prevent me from reaching a higher peak. Lu Biyu doesn't have any secret skills. He is still invincible in the world. I don't create a unique technique. Explosive things are just temporary. It's just a waste of time. Ha! Yang Liang shouted. The spear in his hand suddenly burst out with a blood-colored luster, and he could even smell a fishy and salty smell of blood, and then a blood-colored mad dragon directly entangled, and Yang Liang also smashed the spear to the ground. The entire mountain suddenly sank several feet, and the spear only inserted half a foot into the rock. Still not good. Yang Liang said helplessly. The effect he wanted was to poke down with a shot. The gun did not penetrate the rock, and the entire mountain sank 3 feet. He needed to understand this way of transporting capacity, and remember with his body that only such a shot would be in line with the power in Yang's conscience. After training every morning, Yang Liang returned to the barracks to sit down, and this time, before Yang Liang could take a bath and change clothes, a herald came to report that Qian Feng and Zun Chen had something to do with him. It is said that Yang Liang didn't like Chen Feng and Sun Chen very much, but Yuan Shao told him to listen to the command of Chen Feng and Sun Chen, so no matter how much Yang Liang disliked those two guys, he would still obey Yuan Shao's orders.
Lead the way.
Yang Liang took off his helmet and followed the herald to the Chinese army tent to find Chen Feng and Sun Chen. Soon Yang Liang came to the big tent, handed over his helmet and spear to the guards, hung a saber and walked in, and after entering, Yang Liang saw at a glance the two people who should not have appeared here, Ju Yi and Zhong He.
Righteous.
Yang Liang laughed and gave Ju Yi a bear hug, and after hammering it twice, "Why you kid here? Didn't you go to clean up that guy Gong Sun Zon?" Gong Sun Zon's strength is not enough for me to swallow alone. I have already beaten him out of Yubaping. Most of Yuju has belonged to the Lord, and Gong Sun Boiguei no longer has the strength to look south. Ju Yi said with an arrogant face, but Yang Liang liked Ju Yi's temper. Chapter 5:10 Chen Feng's scheme. You two will catch up later, General Ju. I asked the Lord to transfer you here. A Sun Chen came out from behind the scenes and interrupted Yang Liang and Ju Yi's reminiscence.
I've seen Sun Junsha.
Ju Yi, Yang Liang, and Zhong He all bowed and saluted. Whether they wanted to or not, at least they would not be rude to Sun Chen in front of others. I don't know what Sun Junsha did when he sent me and Yang Yi here. If it is the Montenegrin yellow turbans, I think General Yang should not have the slightest difficulty in defeating the Montenegrin army. Without waiting for Sun Chen to speak, Ju Yi asked directly. He. General Ju is a little calmer. Sun Chen's eyes flashed with a strange color, and he was slightly dissatisfied with Ju Yi's questioning of him. I did this plan, General Ju, please listen to me. Chen Feng also walked from behind the scenes to the front of people. I've seen Chen Junsha. Ju Yi respectfully bowed to Chen Feng. Compared with Sun Chen, Ju Yi respects Chen Feng very much. The reason is that when everyone was not optimistic about him, Chen Feng and Yuan Shao still expressed their support for him. For a typical person like Ju Yi, it is natural for the grace of dripping water to be repaid by the spring, so that Ju Yi naturally supports Chen Feng brainlessly. But fortunately, Chen Feng's own IQ is extremely high, and it is not surprising that Ju Yi has no brainless support, so that the political novice Ju Yi's support for Chen Feng has no upper limit. General Ju, this time you are not mobilized for the yellow turbans. Zhong Yang thinks we don't know where he is hiding, but in fact, as long as he is dry today, he just sets fire to the mountain.
You can force it out.
Chen Feng smiled and said, although Zhong Yang grew up quickly, she was still too tender. If it weren't for the fact that it was about to force Yang Ju, the Montenegrin army would have been forced out of Montenegro with a fire attack.
Oh, so that's it.
Ju Yi had a sudden expression of realization. It's not against the yellow turbans, so who is our opponent? We are the only ones near this black mountain. Do we want to deal with Liu Bei? Saying that, Ju Yi's eyes lit up. He liked that kind of powerful opponent the most.
Liu Xuande?
It can be regarded as such. But the main thing is not him. We have to destroy Liu Beiyu first. Of course, the best result is to accept Liu Beiyu's strength in full. Even took him in his entirety. The Lord was very ambitious, and he must be able to conquer this tiger. Chen Feng nodded first, and then explained. Chen Feng thought carefully about a group of civil and military generals under Liu Beiyu finalized. If Liu Beiyu's territory civil and military generals are fully accepted, then there will be a qualitative leap in Jizhou's strength. The strength of Yuan and Liu has reached this point, as long as Yuan Shao does not make a full move, and the cadres under his command can unite as one, basically as long as Sun Chen, Chen Feng, Zhu Shou, and Shu Yu are played. Judge and match, the intelligence of Sim Pai and others. Steadily and steadily do not suffer losses in strategy. However, compared with the lineup of civil officials, Chen Feng clearly felt the shortcomings of his military lineup, and there was no shortage of good generals in Jizhou who could lead troops to fight. On the contrary, they lacked a peerless general to boost morale, although Yang Liang Wenchou was the fiercest general in Hebei, but there was still a gap between him and the top few people, at least Chen Feng thought so. In this era where morale miscellaneous soldiers can crush elite soldiers, the morale advantage brought by a peerless fierce general is likely to directly cause a chain reaction to blow up the other party when the gap between the two sides is minimal. Because of this, Chen Feng's plan is to subdue Liu Beiyu. If he can't do it, he will retreat to the second, use Liu Bei's hand to kill Liu Beiyu, subdue Chen Gong and Liu Beiyu's subordinates, and if not, then use Liu Beiyu to consume Liu Bei's forces. The good thing about Chen Feng is that he is defeated before he wins, and the strategies are all layered by layer, and there are rescue plans. Basically 3 goals to achieve one. Chen Feng is satisfied. Of course, now that Chen Feng is trying to drive the Montenegrin army into Yangzhou, Chen Feng also has the idea of trying to open up Yangzhou, because Yuan Shu's only son Yuan Yao is no longer good. Yuzhou, Yangzhou, Jingzhou, those places occupied by Yuan Shu no longer have a successor. Chen Feng is thinking about whether to connect with Yuan Shu. When Yuan Shu had a son, Chen Feng felt that there was no good way to merge the Yuan family except to rely on Yuan Shu's brainless righteousness to open the Hongmen banquet, but his lord couldn't do such a thing. But now, as long as Yuan Yao died, it was actually not difficult to merge the Yuan family, and Yuan Shu would let go as long as his heart was dead. It is precisely because of this that Chen Feng and these people will plan in advance. After all, if Yuan Yao really wants to die, Yuan Shu can only ask Yuan Shao to adopt a son for himself, and now Yuan Shao can only get his eldest son Yuan Tan, so that there is actually no difference from the merger of the Yuan family. It is not that Chen Feng looks down on Yuan Tan, but compared to the current wise and powerful Yuan Shao, Yuan Tan is too far away. Hit Lu Bu. Zhu Yi's pupils froze. Because of his uprightness, he had a good relationship with Yang Liang Wenchou, and naturally he knew very well that Lu Bu was strong, which was almost inhuman. Just in case, plus defeat him when necessary, so that Lu Bu can understand the difference in strength between the two sides, and then make it easier to subdue. Chen Feng saw that Zhu Yi was eager to try and quickly poured a bucket of cold water. He didn't want Yuan Shao's few elite troops to be consumed on Lu Bu. These were all elite. But if I have the opportunity, I must fight with Lu Bu's Bingju Wolf cavalry, and if I don't break the elite cavalry in the world, how can my first death soldier be formed? Zhu Yi said proudly, only warriors who have gone through hard battles can create an invincible and strong army, and when the time comes, I must see what kind of strength the Bingju Wolf Rider, which is known for its almighty, is. Your first death soldier hasn't finished training yet? Zhong smacked his tongue and said, he saw with his own eyes how Zhu Yi led the first to kill the soldiers in front of the Yuju soldiers who were several times his own. Not yet, it can only be regarded as forming. It probably needs 2 battles of the boundary bridge. Only after experiencing the battle of the dead and winning the battle, can we have the determination to win. The soul of these soldiers under my command is still mine, and I have to be independent. Zhu Yi shook his head and said, as for the general's soul becoming independent, I haven't studied it for so many years. Zhong Zhuo listened to the chills in his heart. Zhu Yi himself led the way to the death soldiers, and his soldiers were as fierce as if they were mad and not afraid of death. But although the words led by others were still the top elite troops, they did not have the momentum of moving forward, and now Zhu Yi actually wanted to condense the indomitable reality and condense it into the military soul of the first death soldiers. If you lead the troops yourself, there is no change in whether there is an independent military soul. Why do you want to be independent? Zhong Zhuo asked puzzledly. He had completely mastered the halberd with Zhu Yi's help. At least now under his leadership, the halberd had been able to exert its peak strength, and the Legion talent was definitely the most resistant troop in the world today.